round one. Today, we started this last year. We did it for a bit of a fun charity event. We are back today to do it again, this time mostly just for fun as well, too. This is going to be a fantastic draft. We're going to be talking betting odds. We're going to be talking about interesting fits. We're going to be talking about questionable decisions and what is sure to be a very, very hectic day, especially after the first couple of picks. It is DJ joined, as always, by my co-host, Kelsey. And Kelsey, it's a draft different than some of the last few ones we see, as in nobody has any idea what to expect.
Yeah, this one's wild. This one is all over the place. Who knows? Who knows who's going number 1? Who knows who's going number 10? Who knows who's going number 7, 4, 17? At this point in time, who knows?
But one thing's for sure is the betting odds for that first overall pick, kind of interesting round. They have skyrocketed in favor of Georgia defensive end Trayvon Walker, now at minus 450 odds to be the number 1 overall pick, with Aiden Hutchinson sitting at plus 400, Ikem Okongwu at plus 500, and here's a fun one if you saw both of our mock drafts. Evan Neal at plus 3,000 to go number 1 overall. And Kevin Thibodeau, the consensus number 1 overall player coming into the year, at plus 5,000. So some real interesting chances to make money there as well, too. But with the Jaguars, you got to expect they might be looking in the area of going towards Trayvon Walker if all things that they've said are true as well, too. As we are still waiting for the draft to get underway for the second year in a row, the Jacksonville Jaguars will start things off on the clock from Las Vegas as well, too, who should have been hosting the draft a couple of years ago before COVID did what COVID does, ended up making that one a virtual draft as well, too. As we're getting ready underway, we do see Darren Waller and Derek Carr actually at the podium as well, too, as they are taking over, as they are in the Raiders' hometown. And interesting enough, there was rumors about the Raiders possibly trading Darren Waller before they finally shut those down earlier today. So glad to see that as well, too. And go and toss it to you early on, Kelsey. Trayvon Walker expected to go number 1 overall. Minus 450, so really big odds he's going to go number 1 overall. Wouldn't it be just like Jacksonville to wait for that, then pick somebody else after betting on somebody else?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, God, this is only Jacksonville can make this hard. Like, let's be real. Like, every other team in the world looks at this and like, I just drafted a perennial quarterback, and then I have a great pass rusher on the other side, and he's young, and he's under contract for a while,
and they just picked up his 5th-year option today.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we're going to make this as hard as possible, and instead of going to something to protect our world sunshine, no, we're gonna just possibly double down at defensive end at this point in time, but then maybe at the same time we might not. Like, don't tease me like this.
Absolutely. I'm really curious to see what they're getting ready to do. I do want to point out, though, Derek Carr with a little bit of a haircut now. He no longer has that Elvis Presley-like curly mullet thing going. Now he's got a nice clean sides on there as well, too. So he's looking pretty nice out there as well, as we do see Ice Cubes in the house and heading to the top as well, too. So star-studded here in Las Vegas. We haven't even got the Jaguars technically aren't even on the clock yet. We already got a whole lot of action going.
Yeah, this is getting pretty fun. I mean, sorry, I got to go back to Carr's hair. He's still rocking a mullet. It's just a slick back mullet now.
But right now it's tamed on the sides as well, too. You don't have the curly cubes going out to roll around the helmet as well, too. Like, it's under control as well, too. And wearing a full white suit. So you can tell he's got that quarterback money coming in. You can only wear a full white suit like that if you got quarterback money or if you got some defensive end money, I guess. So there's a fine line to where you can roll like that.
Yeah, I don't think Roger Goodell would allow him on the field with his hair a mess. As you can see right there, he's like, Roger Goodell walked up and he's like, you know what? Thank you for getting the haircut.
Thank you. We needed this as well, too. So as we get ready for this one to start, I do want to kind of talk a little bit about our big boards. We both released ourselves our top 50 player big boards earlier this week. If you haven't checked them out, go and check them out on bellyup.com. But we both had Kayvon Thibodeau at number 1 as well, too. And yet in our mock draft, neither one of us had him going number 1 overall as well, too. Even with the Jaguars interested in a edge rusher as well, too. So my thought to you is, what do you think the chances are the Jaguars might actually go towards Kayvon Thibodeau? They might not overthink this, if you will, and just go with arguably the best player in the draft.
I would hope so. I mean, we talked about this last night during our final mock draft. And I feel like this is a situation where we just ran out of things to complain about with Kayvon Thibodeau. It was just like, you know what can we just start picking apart? And there's not much that's left except for personality, potential ego, quote unquote.
Motor, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, like his heart. Like, at this point in time, he's been so under the microscope since he was in high school. I feel like he's so good. Everybody else is just like, there's no way he's that good, and they're just overthinking this one to the point of just being obnoxious. So I don't know. I wish they would, but I think at this point in time, that ship is sailed.
I do want to point out as well, too, I think what makes this draft a little more interesting is there's not a lot of quarterback star power at the top. So you mentioned good old Sunshine last year, arguably his biggest rival in Justin Fields throughout high school even. You had Mac Jones, the national champion. Oh, and you also had Trey Lance, too, the ultimate enigma from a small school. So it was and I didn't even mention Zach Wilson, who a lot of people thought of was the next Patrick Mahomes. So you had a lot of quarterback star power at the top, which I think made it more intriguing. This year, seems like that guy is Malik Willis and Malik Willis only, it feels like right now. We know he's the one guy we can basically assuredly say is probably going today as well, too. I think we can both agree on as well.
Yeah, so
as far as quarterbacks go.
And actually, by the way, it is worth mentioning, we're officially on the clock with Jacksonville. So as you can see, our rankings up there for Jacksonville. You can barely see, the offense got cut off a little bit.
Just a little bit. But you know what? Their offense was pretty offensive last year, so it deserves to get cut off a little bit the way they played last year as well, too. What I want to point out, too, is 8 teams have multiple first-round picks this year, and 8 teams have no first-round picks this year. And it's going to start really early as you see the Lions with 2 first-round picks, the Jets with 2 first-round picks, the Texans, the Giants, the Eagles, the Saints, the Packers, and the Chiefs as well. So looking at this one, there's a lot of talk. There's expected to be a whole lot of movement in the draft as well, too. Someone trades up into the top 10. Who do you think is a likely contender out of everybody to trade up into the top 10?
Obviously, you have Pittsburgh. I'm still waiting on this San Francisco-New York Jets trade to come through, whether it be now, whether it be before pick 4 or before, pick 7, I believe?
For the Jets are 10 and 4.
Oh, okay, sorry. Before pick 10, so just inside the top 10.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm waiting on that one. I'm waiting on the Pittsburgh trade to come into. I feel like at this point in time, they want Malik Willis so bad, it's only a matter of time.
Absolutely as well, too. I also want to point out the team that I think could surprise people right there. I think the Saints could make an interesting move there as well, too. I think greedy is the best way to describe the Saints organization over the last 10 years, the way they move salary cap around, the aggressive trades and stuff they do. So I think the Saints could be a surprise. Maybe it's not for a quarterback. Maybe a Kayvon Thibodeau starts to slip a little bit. Maybe they get really aggressive and go up after him as well, too. Or something along those lines when someone just happens to slip a little bit as well. I also want to kind of look at Aiden Hutchinson, Heisman Trophy runner-up, or not runner-up, but a finalist. Consensus, basically the top player for across big boards, if not top 3 or 4. And he's still not even really – if he doesn't go number 1, I feel like not a lot of people have him going number 2 from what I've seen as well. So I think it's been 50-50. We, ironically, both put him in number 2 because we expect him to be that good. But do you think there's a slight chance that the Heisman Trophy runner-up first-team All-American defensive end could possibly slip a little bit to maybe a 4 or a 5 or something along those lines?
Oh, absolutely. I think it depends on each team's ranking for Thibodeau. And also, I'd also sneak in Evan Neal as a potential guy that could push Aiden down. And on top of that, the guy that we've talked about, Trayvon Walker, who is sneaking his way up boards, potentially going number 1, also could push him back down. And that's not even including Sauce Gardner. That's not including Ike Ekonwu. That's not including Kyle Hamilton in the reason this guy could slide. And that goes for everybody. I don't mean just Aiden Hutchinson, too. I know the question was about Aiden, but really more particularly, it could be any one of these top 10 prospects.
Absolutely as well, too. And just revisiting some of those betting odds with Trayvon Walker, the clear favorite at minus 450, Aiden Hutchinson at plus 400, Ikem Okongwu at plus 500. I'm honestly surprised he got plus 500 as well, too. That's not that he's not good enough for it, but he seems to kind of be like the one that's not ever talked about as a first overall pick, and he has the 3rd best odds. Then the next up is Evan Neal, who you and I both put as we think would be the number 1 pick, Protect Sunshine, plus 3,000. And then just looking, Sauce Gardner plus 10,000, Malik Willis plus 10,000. So the odds are very interesting. It feels like everyone is Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Ikem Okongwu, and nobody else feels like it is an option based on those betting odds as well, too. And looking at some of the top 5 as well, too. Looking at the top 5, who do you think has the best odds to be the 2nd overall pick? I'll go and pose the question to you. What are your thoughts on that one?
Okay, realistically speaking, I think Aiden Hutchinson.
You'd be correct. He is minus 250. Kayvon Thibodeau is plus 175. Trayvon Walker is plus 1,200. So what they're telling me here is they believe Trayvon will go number 1, but if he doesn't, there is 0 chance he goes number 2, is basically what they're telling me. And you look at pick number 3. Wow. It gets even more crazy. Pick number 3. If you had to pick the favorite, who would you say is the favorite for pick number 3?
For pick number 3, I think it's got to be Evan Neal or Ike Ekonwu.
It's Derek Stingley Jr. at minus 125, with Ikem Okongwu at plus 250, Aiden at plus 5, Ahmad at plus 600, Evan Neal at plus 1,500, Trayvon Walker at plus 2,000. Which, is a pattern here we're going here, right? Is it seems like Trayvon Walker consensus number 1, or starts to get a little more. It seems that I think if he doesn't go 1, people think he might start to drop as well. And as we're waiting for the Jaguars pick is in as we are waiting, so they did not take too long. They drug it out a little bit. Reports where they knew who they were going to take already. They just kind of hold the suspense a little bit as well too. So we are waiting for that official announcement. I'm going to go down the line now to pick number 4, the Jets draft pick. One more time, posing the question to you, who would you think is the favorite in that one?
For the Jets, I feel like it's Sauce.
He is the favorite at plus 175. Trayvon Walker, once again, at plus 2,000. So I'm going to continue hammering this home. We are going to continue to revisit this as well, too, as we like to do so quite frequently as well. We appreciate you all joining us in for the second annual draft coverage as well. As the Jaguars pick is in, we are officially waiting for the official announcement as well, too. Kelsey, I'm going to just ask you now, gut feeling, you're putting money on the line. Who do you think is about to be announced as the first overall pick in the 2022 draft?
It pains me, but I think at this point in time, it's Trayvon Walker.
We are in Vegas, so you got to take the betting odds. You know what? I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson. I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson. I'm going to say I think that they thought over. If this was Urban Meyer, I would say like Isaiah Spiller's about to be taken number 1 overall or something like that as well too. But Doug Peterson's a Super Bowl winning coach. Granted, he had the end in Philly wasn't great, but I think if he gets enough say in this one, he will. I think if he got enough say, he would go with Evan Neal. Honestly, if he got a full amount of say, he would go with Evan Neal. He saw what a good offensive line when he was in Philly did for Carson Wentz. Almost turned him into a regular season MVP. And Nick Foles, it turned him into a Super Bowl MVP. Having guys like Lane Johnson, Jason Peters, Jason Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, having a squad in front of your quarterback. So I think if this is Doug Peterson's pick, I think he's going Evan Neal. But I think the consensus across the room might be split. I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson as the one they split the difference on as well, too. I base that on nothing. I'm reaching here, but let me phrase it. I am hoping.
Look, it's the draft, right? It's the moment in time where you reach if you feel that they could change your program.
You reach
or change your organization.
You reach or you teach. As Goodell is coming out with the pick right now. So we are about to see who is going to be the potential franchise changer for the Jaguars, the second year in a row, picking number 1 overall. And they have taken Trayvon Walker number 1 overall. So the defensive end out of Georgia doesn't climb up draft boards, doesn't fly up draft boards. He straps himself to a NASA rocket ship and climbs from potentially out of the first round to the number 1 overall pick as well, too. And, his athletic ability, absolutely off the charts. That combine, one of the best ones we've seen in recent memory. But it is kind of surprising, especially when you look at the team needs that we have laid out here. Offensive lineman, cornerback, linebacker. Defensive end pass rusher doesn't feel quite as high on the list. So I'm surprised, but I should be surprised, but I'm still surprised if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, this is one of those wild situations with the draft. Like you sit here and look at across the board. There's guys that have just been building their case, and then there's Trayvon Walker, who up until his last year, not on many people's boards for a top 3 round. And now all of a sudden, this last season with Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, the laundry list of guys that we're going to see in this draft and next year's draft playing with him, all of a sudden he's skyrocketed as well. Now, I will also add in, he is also the guy that replaced Jermaine Johnson, who, by the way, climbed up a lot of boards. So there was something seen from Kirby Smart before that led him to this. But I've always been a fan of Trayvon Walker. I'm just not a crazy person who thinks he needs to be number 1.
Maybe not this big of a fan, if you will, as well, too. So it's surprising. And he's a guy that both of us, when we did our big boards, I don't think you had him in the top 10, did you, as far as the big board?
No, he was almost 24.
Yeah, I think he was somewhere in that area for me. Like, he's a good player, but I'm still surprised that based off of his combine alone, he managed to climb all the way to that number 1 overall pick, which I think is a real testimony, you look at it, to just how interesting this draft is. There's probably 40 guys that could be realistic NFL starters, but how many people would you say are like Pro Bowl, All-Pro, most likely type guys? Not as many, you'd probably say as well, too. So I think
it's tough.
Like it's a hard projection this year, and we see Trayvon Walker with 9 career college sacks, climbing his way to the number 1 overall pick. I feel like Aiden Hutchinson had 9 sacks in 1 game last year, it felt like as well, too. So that is interesting to see. But what that does is that opens up for the Lions, and the pick is already in for the Lions. So before we even got finished talking about the Trayvon Walker selection, the Lions already look like they're ready to go. So,
this is definitely Aiden.
You think so? You know what? I think you might be right. I think as soon as they saw that he was there, they immediately just were like, "Yep, we're good. We got this one ready to go."
Or Amon-Ra St. Brown, take this to the table, please.
Run this as fast as you can. Here's a option for you. What if they decided to go with Malik Willis? What if that was their plan? They're going the quarterback realm, and they just knew he was going to be there. That's why they're ready to go. What do you think about that option?
No,
just
no.
Just
like I would not be a fan of that one at all. There's so many better fills that they could use, and Jared Goff isn't really the problem. I mean, really, their problem is you can't block for Jared Goff, and on the other side, you don't get to the quarterback, you don't protect anything. Like your corners are always injured. You have no safety. Like take your pick for an issue, but right now, quarterback is not it.
Absolutely, as well too. As we were getting ready for the Lions to come out with their pick as well too. Really, I can't wait to see this one because I think it felt like when they were talking about it, the first couple picks are going to be along these two as we are getting ready to see that one, and I quote, "All heck was expected to break loose for pick number 3." So I'm curious to see how that gets going. And this pick is Aiden Hutchinson. We kind of both saw that as well too as soon as he was available. So defensive ends going 1 and 2 as well too. Aiden Hutchinson staying in the home state of Michigan. Just going up the road to Detroit, where I imagine he is going to star for them as well too. And if you're the Lions, this feels like kind of like the draft they had last year, where you don't overthink it. Last year they took Penei Sewell in the first round at number 7 and didn't overthink it. Here they saw Aiden Hutchinson like, nope, not overthinking this. Heisman Trophy runner-up from right down the street. Come on down. So a really high quality pick for the Lions and HCDC.
Yeah. Well, on top of this it's worth also mentioning that he just increased the crowd in that stadium in Ford Field by about double just because of his fans alone.
Yeah, absolutely as well too. As we see the Texans now on the clock as well too. Aiden Hutchinson getting fitted for that hat. And my thought to you is, what do you think the Texans do now? Because this is where a lot of the reports are saying like all heck is going to break loose when the Texans get on the clock because they need literally everything. Their draft needs are all of it. You can even see it on our graphic there. On our graphic, it does say all of it as well too. So my thought to you is, where do you think the Texans actually end up going?
Oh man, you have a plethora of picks here. If you're the Texans, and you have a lot of holes. Again, though, I think your biggest issues are not wide receiver and quarterback. Those two are probably okay. Beyond that, though, everything is the world is your oyster, if you will. I think Evan Neal was a smart pick here. I don't think they're going to go there. I think it's going to be a situation where they probably go, I don't know, Sauce Gardner, Ike Ekwonu. I think they already had their plan based off Evan Neal not being there.
That's fair as well too. I don't hate the idea of taking Kayvon Thibodeau here as well too, because you just need playmakers, guys with high potential, things like that. So I don't hate the idea of Thibodeau here as well. I don't hate Kyle Hamilton here either as well too. You need to say.
I think that Lions fan hated the idea of Aiden Hutchinson though.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he didn't look too thrilled about that as well too. And I kind of want to talk to you about this one as well too. You look at the NFC North. Excuse me. The Packers are still the Packers, but you do lose Devontae Adams, and you still have they have some work to do today, which they look to do as well. The Bears, you have your quarterback, but you're missing everything else really right now. You need that offensive line. There's a lot of help. The Vikings are still the Vikings. We'll see how that plays out as well too. What do you think Aiden Hutchinson could really help flip around this defense? Because they have some good corners, some good young corners. They got some players, a good young offensive line. You mentioned Jared Goff is not the problem. He's just, you need to give him something. Do you think
and DeAndre Swift isn't the problem?
Exactly. And you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson. Do you think a guy like Aiden Hutchinson giving a little jolt to your pass rush can maybe, I'm not saying the Lions are going to win the NFC North now, but maybe catapult them out of the cellar at least?
I mean, they might get 5 wins.
You know what? That's
6 wins maybe.
So you're saying they might double up next year as well?
I think yes, Aiden Hutchinson greatly helps out this team. One, but I also think their second pick in the first round is going to determine a lot of their success going into next season.
I'll also ask you this as we look at a graphic now. How do you compare him to Nick Bosa and Chase Young, 2 other defensive ends that went in the top 2 the last couple of years as well, too? How do you compare him to those 2 as far as prospects goes?
I can't. Honestly, and it's nothing against Aiden Hutchinson, but I'll even include both Bosa brothers in this. Both Bosa brothers are just natural freaks on the outside. He's actually closer to Joey than Nick Bosa in talent. Nick Bosa, I think, is much better than anything you can imagine. Chase Young was a natural freak athlete. He's like if Kayvon Thibodeau, just his freakish naturalism was built into Jadeveon Clowney's. I don't actually know, honestly. Like maybe Myles Garrett. Maybe if you take Kayvon Thibodeau's athleticism, put him in Myles Garrett, who's already an athletic freak. That's what you get with Chase Young.
Basically, Kayvon Thibodeau plus 25 pounds is what you're saying.
Yeah, like Aiden Hutchinson, unfortunately, isn't in the same class yet. But he does have the potential because the dude's a gym rat. Like, he's an absolute freak of nature in the gym. And he came back from a major knee injury to give this performance this last season. So he has the ability. It's just going to be up to can he stay healthy and succeed with that ability, and can they help him out?
Absolutely. And as we are waiting for the Texans pick to come in, I have one random idea I want to throw by your way here. So they took Aiden Hutchinson number 2. They have pick number 32 you mentioned. How about they keep things in house and they bring in his former teammate, running mate David Ojabo, and you have bookends to go after those quarterbacks. I mean, it's not their biggest need, but it sounds fun.
If you read my big board, you know my feelings on David Ojabo. That man deserves to be a top 10 talent. Unfortunately, the Achilles injury is obviously why he slid. It makes complete sense. It's a very long-term injury. You have to work your way back. Terrell Suggs did it in 8 months, which was freakish. Cam Akers did it in 4, which is insane.
He didn't look right, though. I don't care what anyone says.
No, he didn't look right, but he did it. So David Ojabo gives us the whole time. And if he could pair up in that 32 pick, that's dangerous because that man commands excellence, and he is still raw and can grow, and those two growing together, terrifying.
I will say if they get both of them, I might look at Detroit's defense and fantasy next year as well, too, to get the sacks. As the Texans pick is in, and they went with Derek Stingley Jr., the second corner on most boards, going 3rd overall. So I'm surprised with this one, honestly, as well, too. We both had Stingley high on our boards. I had him at number 7. I really am surprised that he went number 3, though. I thought a lot of people were concerned about like the injuries in the last couple of years of compare his best year was when he was 18 years old in 2019. And I think I was kind of surprised the Texans did it. But you know what? When you need literally everything, as the bottom line says, you are 31st in defense and 32nd in offense. You just need a playmaker. And if you get 88% of that 2019 season, you got a top 3 player in the draft. Derek Stingley is probably better than Sauce Gardner this year, in my opinion, as well, too. So,
absolutely.
I don't hate this pick. And it's intriguing, though. I'm really intrigued because Lovie Smith's the coach there as well, too. So I'm curious what he has in mind when he saw Derek Stingley.
And, just like I said about Kayvon Thibodeau, I believe about Derek Stingley. He has been under the microscope since he walked into college. There has been so much hype around Derek Stingley that this guy has been like the next coming of Jesus for LSU corner fans, which LSU, I mean, talk about a DBU. I'm sorry to every other team that claims to be DBU, but you don't produce the same level of athletic DBs as what LSU can put out.
Yeah, I think LSU's kind of got the monopoly on that one right now as well, too. So
don't count out Washington, by the way.
They're not too far behind, but yeah, I agree. Yeah,
but they're just so freakish, and this guy has just been under the microscope the entire time. And again, this is one that we just like had to nitpick him. Like we're just nitpicking stupid things at this point because we've ran out of things to nitpick.
The biggest things when you look at them are 1, injuries. Yep. And 2, 1 bad game against Devontae Smith in 2 years ago when Devontae Smith could have cooked literally any defensive back to ever play college football this season. He was having that year as well, too. You could put 7 people on him, which I'm sure some teams did, and it still did not matter as well, too. So
and let's just look at the laundry list of players he's gone up against in practice. Jamar Chase, number 1.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That'll do it.
Yeah, like Justin Jefferson.
Oh, yeah, that'll do. The last 2 rookies of the year arguably could have been Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, and then oh god, I can't even remember now. He plays for the Panthers now.
Terrence Marshall Jr.
Yeah, like laundry list of guys, and let's not even forget when he went up against Thaddeus Moss in that national championship team. Like he went against Joe Burrow throwing. Like he's gone against all world talent, not just on his own team in practice, but in the game as well. Like that SEC is just so dirty in the amount of players he's had to go up against.
Absolutely. And that's going to put us to the New York Jets, who are on the clock with one of their 2 top 10 picks, number 4, 26th in offense, 32nd in defense. You know, Robert Saleh has a bit of a sour spot for that as well, too. But I do want to point out, when we did our mock drafts and talked about them, I said they should go offensive line here. I looked at Ike Okongwu, but you also have Evan Neal sitting there as well, too. You have pretty much your whole plethora of offensive players right now as well. I think you want to build, especially there's rumors they might be looking to move on from Mehdi Beckham. I don't hate the idea of going offensive line to try and help out Zach Wilson as well, too. I know 32nd ranked defense, Robert Saleh, I guarantee he does not like that, and he wants to change that. There's a Sauce Gardner there. There's a lot of talent still out there, but I'm still leaning towards offensive line here, especially because you got pick number 10, and it does not sound like the 49ers are dealing Debo today by the sounds of it. They've turned down, reportedly, I put this in quotes because this could all be mirrors and smoke, they turned down offers equal to what Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill were traded for Debo Samuel. So if that's the case and the Niners are just saying no, you know what? I'd go offensive line here if I'm the Jets. I'd take one of those stud offensive linemen at the top because you got your choice of the litter.
Yeah, I'm still taking Sauce.
You just want him because you saw that chain. You know he needs to go to New York. He needs to be Broadway.
Look, this man belongs on Broadway. Like, this man belongs just dominating the headlines in New York. He has been such a quiet player. He shuts out the noise and turns himself into a top 5 ranked player going into this draft. And by the way, has never given up a touchdown as a corner.
Exactly. Granted, I think that ends this season. Just saying. As a rookie, I think that ends. But that you can't.
If it continues, though, that's the headlines.
It's over. It's over. It's a wrap. Like whatever sauce he makes, he needs to get his own barbecue sauce, his own hot sauce, his own marinara sauce, any type of sauce. He needs to get his own.
He's already a barbecue sauce. It's a little sweet and a lot of smoky because he delivers every little bit of that smoke.
I think it's all smoke, and then there's a little touch. First it's sour, then it's smoke. Like, so I don't think those receivers.
He's a vinegar based. He's a vinegar based sauce.
Only for the guys he's going against as well too. For anyone whose team he's on, maybe it's pure sweet. It's pure sweet, but it's definitely, I would say it's definitely a little sour for those and vinegary based for those he's going against. As the pick is in for the Jets, we are waiting for the initial announcement as well too. Sounds like you're going Sauce. I'm gonna say Evan Neal. I know he's dropped on a little bit of boards, but he was still cleared by the major medical staffs as well too. There's rumors, quote unquote, about his health, but he passed everything and was even told, like, hey, go to the green room. You're not going to drop. So I do think I would go with Evan Neal here, especially if you're looking to trade Mekhi Becton. If you're looking to move off of him, you got to get somebody to fill his spot. So, but at the same time, I like that as well too. I like the idea of Evan Neal, 6'7", 330, Mekhi Becton, 6'9", 30, probably maybe a little, probably 4, honestly. I like having those absolute mountains on the outside as well too. That's just me personally.
And let's be completely honest. Mekhi Becton at 6'9", 400, not a terrifying thought considering he's a guard.
Left tackle, but yeah.
He can slide to guard.
I just want him on the left tackle and say, get around me if you can. And then you'd have Elijah Vera Tucker, who we didn't even mention in there as well too. So I'm hammering home Jets, do the right thing, go offensive line, don't get greedy, but you can't go wrong with sauces. We were waiting for the official pick to come in as well too. New York teams, 4 of the top 10 picks between the Jets and the Giants as well too. They just showed that graphic. So if this is the year to have multiple early picks, of course, this is the year both New York teams do, because it's not exactly one that you really know what. There's no surefire things, if that makes sense as well. So they don't have I'm getting that guy. This one, it feels like they just have to kind of take a guess for more often than not. Sauce is there. One of these teams should take Sauce. That seems like one of the safest picks. And then the rest of them, honestly, I'm still going offensive line. I'm taking your narrative from last year, offensive line across the board.
Hey, that was a great narrative last year. Don't hate it.
I'm not hating it. I'm saying I'm copying it this year based on the way that this top 10 is set up to. Is the Jets pick is in. We are getting ready for the official pick to be announced as well too. And I do kind of want to point out as well too, the betting odds so far for the first 3 were spot on so far. The favorites got all of them. So really enough, pick number 4, Aiden Hutchinson was still the favorite there too at plus 300. But Sauce Gardner was tied with him at plus 300 as well. So we'll see if it goes 4 for 4 with the favorites as well. And then Ike Ekwonu was plus 350 as well. So we'll see what direction the Jets go in as Roger Goodell is getting ready to announce the pick. And let's see. It looks like they're going with Sauce Gardner. So you know what? They go 4 for 4, and Broadway sauce it is. Robert Saleh decides, I need to stop Stephon Diggs. I need to stop Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, all them. I'm going to put somebody out there who I can match up one-on-one and build the rest of my defense around. So you really can't hate the pick. You can't take it when you take arguably a top 3 player in the draft and you get him at number 4.
No, not at all. This is a fantastic pick. And look, let's, again, not sleep on the fact, one, this guy brings a whole level of swag that it's unprecedented. However, he's also a guy that knows how to shut down the noise because he's had to do that his entire career. I mean, you don't go to Cincinnati and walk out with a top 5 overall potential.
Not at all. And I do want to mention one thing too. You notice a trend we've had so far today. I'm going to see if you've noticed what I've noticed so far. Have you noticed anything with this year's draft so far?
It seems to be all defensive.
That is exactly what we're looking at. We have yet to see an offensive player go as well. We do have the Giants on the clock now as well. Do you think this is potentially where it ends, or do you think maybe they go with defense here as well?
Why not just keep it going?
So you're saying you want to see a top 10 filled with defense, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. Give me all the defense and give me all the smoke.
Mhm.
Give me all the everything. Just, you know what? Everything. Just give me everything defense and prove that this is just such a big defensive draft. And we're not even going to draft like a quarterback until 30.
But it's kind of funny. This draft is known for receivers and edge rushers, and so far we're just seeing defense across the board. We're looking at the highlights of Sauce Gardner as well too. I want to point out the underrated part of his game that we've talked about a little bit, but not as much. His willingness to tackle, the way that he has all the smoke as far as jamming, but he comes off the edge, he makes the tackles, he sticks his nose in the run game. I think that is one thing where a lot of people saw him and had him ranked ahead of Stingley, because Stingley the last couple of years has been, should we say, lazy when it comes to tackling? Is that a safe way to say it, or business decision tackling? I should say, like kind of not always wrapping up. It's mostly just kind of trying to push him out of bounds or just trying to hold him until someone else shows up. Malgard is trying to go full linebacker on people. He looks like Karl Anthony Towns running down the lane when he goes to tackle. Someone just barrel dozing through.
Well, what's funny is if you look at the top 5 corners, I think on both of our draft boards, outside of Derek Stingley, the rest of them aren't really like run game deficient. Like they love to stick their nose in at some point in time,
which is underrated because normally when we talk corners, we don't talk about the run game unless it's a bonus. This year, it feels like it's the only thing is it's a bit of a deterrent on Stingley, but everyone else, it's almost locked in. Like, yeah, they're sticking their nose in there. Like Roger McCreary, he's sticking his nose in there. Sauce Gardner,
painfully,
he's sticking his entire soul in there and destroying somebody as well. Trent McDuffie, same thing. So that is a very interesting point as well too. Is we'll now move on to the Giants at pick number 5. 4 minutes left to go in the pick, and I'm going to just toss it over to you. Where are you leaning with this pick for the Giants as well too? They got, honestly, not too many surprises so far in the draft, maybe besides Derek Stingley Jr., but there's some really good players still on the board for the Giants.
The Giants are such a conundrum. Again, it says offensive lineman, corner, edge as their team needs. You look at their offensive ranking in 31st, and you consider who they have on their team. You have a fantastic slot receiver in Sterling Shepard, and you also have Darius Slayton out there, and you can't get him going. You trust Daniel Jones, but he can't always get it going.
So much so
he also can't stay standing up.
And they also did not take his 5th-year option. That is how much they're like, meh. They'd rather risk franchise tagging him if he plays well.
And then on top of all that, you have Saquads, who hasn't played a full season since his rookie year. And then even more so, your offense is still 31st. And now, what is the big reason for this? And why do I keep mentioning all these skill players? It's because that's all they have left. They don't have any offensive linemen. So if I'm the Giants, please don't overthink this. Take Evan Neal. Just do it. I know in my mock draft yesterday, I said go get Kyle Hamilton if he's there. I didn't think Evan Neal was going to slide to 5. So if Evan Neal is there, take this man.
Looking at the draft odds, so Charles Cross is the leading candidate for pick number 5 at plus 175. Icky at plus 300. Evan Neal at plus 500. Kayvon Thibodeau at plus 800. So interesting odds there as well too. And you know what? The pick is in right now. Kelsey, I'm going to toss you right now. Gut feeling, who do you think it's going? Where the draft is in Vegas, you're putting your money on the line. Who are the Giants taking?
Kyle Hamilton.
I'm going to go with Kayvon Thibodeau. I think they keep the defensive train running. I think they're going Kayvon Thibodeau. There's a lot of smoke about the Giants talking with Kayvon Thibodeau. There's been a lot of back and forth. Where there's smoke, there's Monday fire. So you know what? Give me Kayvon Thibodeau going number 5. We'll see how this plays out. And I'm kind of curious to see what they do for Daniel Jones since they didn't pick up that one. So yeah, that'll be fun. This will be a fun pick as well too. I also want to mention they spent the most money of any team in the NFL on their receiver room, who had a total of, I think it was 5 touchdowns last year. So the receiver room is something they got to work on as well too. Would you be surprised? I'm going to throw this out there. Just hear me out on this one. What if they decide to take Malik Willis or a quarterback here? What if they just kind of said, you know what, Daniel Jones, prove it?
Can we not?
I'm just saying, you have pick number 7, which you can use on the offensive line or something like that too. Like, I'm just saying I don't think it's outrageous.
No, that's just it. It's not outrageous.
You just don't want it because you don't want Malik Willis on the Giants.
Yes, to that as well. But I also think that, again, of all the things they have needs for, there are much better players to fill in those needs than a guy with a boom or bust type of abilities.
My reason I said this specifically, and I saved it for them, is did you listen to George Kittle recently? Who he compared Trey Lance to?
Oh, God.
He compared him to Josh Allen. So I'm saying, and I know some people have said Malik Willis has some Josh Allen boom or bust potential. Brian Dabble, he helped Josh get that boom. So I'm just saying, I'm just throwing this out there.
To me, man.
I'm just throwing it out there. I know you don't like it. And you know what? I don't think I would do it either, but I'm just throwing it out there. And let's not mention too, Baker Mayfield is still out there on the trade block. So there is a chance maybe someone doesn't trade a first round pick for him, obviously, but maybe someone doesn't take a quarterback because they plan on maybe trading a third or something like that and making the move for him. So the Giants pick is in as we are officially waiting on the clock to see who the second New York team of the top 5 decides to go with. Kelsey, he's feeling Evan Neal. Or was it Evan Neal or was it Kyle Hamilton?
Kyle Hamilton. You know what? Kyle Hamilton is where I'm going with my pick. It should be Evan Neal.
All right. I'm going to say Kayvon Thibodeau. We're both saying they don't go the offensive line that we like, but we're going to wait and see as the pick will officially be announced here. Let's see, as we were waiting for Roger Goodell to announce that they're at the podium as well, too. It's pretty pumped up. It is Vegas, but the Giants faithful are there in full.
So this is actually, they actually have a Make-A-Wish Foundation member making the pick for the New York Giants, which is really cool because normally they don't make the first round picks.
Absolutely. And he's bringing the heat as well, too. Like you could tell he is bringing the steam as well, too. So he has this place fired up. And Kayvon Thibodeau, pick number 5. So the run of defense continues, and the top-rated player on our big board is going to Broadway for the New York Giants at number 5. And I said it, and I'm still honestly kind of surprised. Like it felt right, but I'm still surprised. And the run of defense continues.
Yeah, this is surprising, but it's not. Like it shouldn't be as surprising as, but at the same time, you're kind of like, didn't think this was going to be the pick they actually made. But like it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Let's be completely honest. Like this should have happened in the last pick, or the pick before that, or the pick before that, or maybe before instead of Trayvon Walker. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau, again, he's been under a microscope. The worst thing he ever said was coming out and saying, I didn't want to play in the SEC because I don't want to be considered a dummy. And like immediately just trashes 85% of sports fans, football fans especially
college football fans too.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, anyone who doubts his overall ability, though, go check out his game against UCLA this last year. He single-handedly took that game over as a pass rusher, an edge defender, an outside linebacker, stand-up outside linebacker. His versatility is, I think if you use him the right way, you could use him in a way like how Micah Parsons was used last year. He could be an off-ball linebacker and an edge rusher who does his best work, obviously, as a pass rusher. That is Kayvon's skill set. But you could play him off the ball, and he's still effective. Tell him to be your flat defender and sprint cover to take away a screen or a flat route or a curl route or something like that. He's very capable of doing that. And good luck throwing over the top of him. He decides to just jump up in your passing lane too.
Absolutely. The one thing I worry about with Thibodeau, and this is it, is how much effort will he put in pursuit and that in the run game.
Exactly. And I think that is a lot of the concerns about him. But if let's just hypothetically say like he gets the NFL and that effort skyrockets to a second level, like some people do, is him and Roger Goodell having a good old time. They practice this. I don't care what anyone says. That handshake.
Oh yeah. Roger has a handshake with everybody.
Exactly. They practice when he practiced it with the kid who announced the pick too. Like that is the amount of effort he's shown right here. I think the Giants might have got a steal if you're gonna get that effort on those run plays you just talked about as well too.
This is actually pretty cool. I can't like I'm actually like I have if you guys aren't watching this on YouTube or something for some reason, or you just listen to the audio. Like, I can't keep a smile off my face because of what I'm watching on the screen. It is actually really entertaining to watch Kayvon Thibodeau actually out there kind of giving the one question about his heart kind of an answer right there. Like, that was fired up. That was a kid that wasn't out there just walking through the motions. He was like, I'm fired up to be a New York Giant.
100%. And that's going to take us to the Carolina Panthers now on the clock at pick number 6. A lot of rumors about quarterback here. A lot of rumors about what they could take. You look at what we think. We're looking at quarterback, offensive line, and tight end, and you're not taking a tight end here. There's no Kyle Pitts. So we're going to say offensive line and quarterback. Right now, the odds have Ike Ekwonu, who's the favorite, plus 300 with Charles Cross at 400 and Kenny Pickett at 550. When we did our mock draft, I stuck Malik Willis here. Oh, no, excuse me. I stuck Kenny Pickett here. That's who it was.
You did, yep.
Because I think Matt Rule likes him. He tried to recruit him. You need to that seat is incredibly hot, especially after how the Joe Brady thing played out last year. You got to win some games this year. There's no more Drew Brees there. There's no more Matt Ryan there. There is Tom Brady there. So I mean, like you have a little leeway there.
He doesn't count.
The NFC is terrible this year because every good player left. There's 3 teams in the NFC you really have to worry about at this point. I think that at this point they have to make a playoff run, especially when you had the second-ranked defense last year. After losing your number 1 pick in J.C. Horn to a foot injury, you can't go 30th in offense. I think they're going to feel this team, and Kenny Pickett's he's ready to go. I think everyone wants to compare it to Derek Carr. I don't quite see that, but if he can give you 85% of Derek Carr, you can make an NFC playoff run real easily next year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think this is a situation where obviously you think Kenny Pickett's the right pick. I think it's Matt Corral. I think my number one, your number one on your big board as well, quarterback. But I think this is a situation where he would come in and given the running backs they have, I think would work the best here because he is a very play action type guy. And the cool thing with play action is you could sneak a receiver out there on a very deep route, and they have guys that could take tops off of defenses.
DJ Moore is an absolute weapon who they recently extended as well. And there's Robbie Anderson. I like him. Matt Corral is the best quarterback prospect. I don't like him going to Carolina. I think he won't be able to develop there is my thing too. I think he still has some development to do where Kenny Pickett has the Mac Jones effect where you can plug him in and you can get a lot of production right away, where Matt Corral will give you some ups and some downs, you know what I mean, as well too. Like you got to be patient with Matt Corral. I don't think Matt Rule and them can be patient because the way the last 2 years have played out, for the good they have done, there's been some other if that makes sense. Like that seat feels like it's getting real toasty.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because like in both guys' cases, I have the same kind of same kind of thought about them. It's no gap is too small in their minds to try to throw a ball in. Now, the bigger thing why I like Matt Corral versus Kenny Pickett is Matt Corral's been throwing against very athletic wide receivers his entire career. Guys that are all in the NFL now. He's also been doing it against guys in the NFL at a high clip. His one bad, really, you could honestly say really bad game was against Auburn when he messed up his ankles. And that was what took him from a Heisman frontrunner to completely off the board. Because he missed 3 quarters. At that point, or missed 2 quarters. And then he kind of came back in to try to superhero his way in and unfortunately just came up short. But like I like Matt Corral for that because he's already been dealing with all these freakish athletes. Whereas Kenny Pickett, I'm sorry, you're playing at Pitt. You already have seen all the ghosts that a guy that Sam Darnold is being mocked for. And it shows on your tape that you've had those ghosts. Like, he is a little bit hesitant in the pocket as far as staying in the pocket. He likes to drift his way out. And I think Carolina, to succeed, needs a pocket quarterback right now.
What I will say is, there's no rule against fake sliding in the NFL. So Kenny Pickett might be taking some ankles as well, too. I also want to point out something kind of interesting as well, too. He led the ACC with 42 touchdowns last year. That was the ACC record. That is over guys like Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence and guys like that. So that's a really impressive company. He can sling it, that's for sure. Yeah. We agree Matt Corral is the best prospect here, but I think for the Panthers, I think Kenny Pickett is the safest pick here. And looking at some of the odds for that Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis are available, there looks like there's a good chance that a lot of people, like the draft predictors, think that they're not going to take a quarterback here, that they're going to stick with Sam Darnold. So I am curious as the Panthers pick is in. We're just waiting for the announcement as well, too.
It wouldn't surprise me, but I got to say, it would be unique if they don't take a quarterback. Unless they're like a guy like Desmond Ridder. Somebody who they get in the second round, and maybe this round they're like, oh, offensive lineman. Oh, Evan Neal's right there.
My concern is you don't have second or third round picks, so you'd be you'd have to trade yourself all the way back up for that. Which maybe things have happened. So
there have been rumors about potentially shipping out CMC, and if they ship out CMC, who knows what picks they're about to pull in. So
you know what, we know they're probably not in the Baker Mayfield sweepstakes as well too. As you'll know, they're a quarterback that's really available. Maybe the Jimmy G sweepstakes, but you don't really have picks for that either. So they won't be trading out of this pick as well too. The pick is in. We are waiting for it. It looks like all I seem to be on either Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis is the option, but the betting odds still show offensive lineman as the top 2-1. So we'll see what they decide to go with as well. It's tough. Like you clearly don't need defense. You were the second ranked defense with no offensive help.
That's fine.
Like you're good there, and you still have guys. You have J.C. Horn coming back. Offensively, you just can't miss. That's really it. If you get any sort of offensive bolster here, you're good. Like I think Sam Darnold, you could kind of win with a little bit, like not great, but like you don't want to overdraft a quarterback just to have the same thing. If that makes sense. Like
let's be honest, it's PJ Walker's system.
All right, that's fine. Then you want to get PJ Walker some offensive linemen, but once he can throw over at the same time as well too. So So the Panthers pick is in as we were getting ready for the official announcement as well too. 30th ranked offense, Panthers on the clock. Ike Ekongwu. So the first offensive player off the board is in my opinion, the top offensive lineman as well too out of North Carolina State. Ike Ekongwu, once again, I do want to point out the overall draft odds, pick odds have been correct for every single one except the Giants as well too. So Icky at plus 300 is heading to Carolina, excuse me, and that's going to take us right back to the Giants.
He's moving all of like 100 miles.
Yeah, really, just going right up and down the street as well. So interesting, they did decide to go with the offensive lineman as well too. So I guess they have something else in mind at quarterback, or they're going to give PJ Walker, Sam Darnold a chance and just try and load up around him, because you do got the receivers, that is for sure. And if you can get CMC healthy for like 10 to 12 games, you got the running back as well.
Yeah, and well, not just CMC, they also pull in the backup from Tennessee, whose name is escaping my mind right now. But
Deontay Foreman.
Yes, thank you.
And you still have your favorite guy, Chuba Hubbard, in the backfield as well too. So like you got a backfield. Maybe they just run Wildcat at this point as well too. Maybe that's what they're going with. And you just get behind Icky Okongwu for that.
And it makes sense, because Icky is a guy that, like, you're just seeing it on screen right now, that he is just an absolute mauler, and he does his best work, in my opinion, in the run game. Like, when he gets to go and attack people, it's absolutely fantastic. You see him here in the open field, he's about to destroy a man.
Once it's a business decision when you see him coming at you as a corner. It's like, you know what? Nah. You can not even Derek Stingley. No, I don't care who it is. You just nope. You're someone else to take that one. I don't get paid for that. Like my NIL deal does not carry that kind of weight. So we see Icky Okongwu is the first offensive player off the board, and that's interesting as well too. An offensive tackle, the first offensive player off the board. That seems not unusual, but I'm trying to think. It might be like 2014 or 2013. We saw Eric Fisher and Luke Jokel go number one. I think that might be the last time we saw an offensive tackle as the first offensive player taken. Yeah, that's a way back. Like we're going back in the time capsule there, but that's going to bring the Giants back on the clock at pick number 7. And you know what? I'm intrigued here right now as well too. We talked about take offensive lineman with the last one. You went Kayvon Thibodeau. You can't really go wrong with that as well too. James Bradbury is on the trade block. It sounds like he's going to get traded sometime this weekend. The corners are off the board, but offensive linemen are still hanging around there. I mean, you still got Evan Neal. You still got his name escapes me already. Charles Cross. You got options there as well too. And right now, as far as players that are left, Charles Cross is plus 400 is the favorite for that set. This one too. So it's tough if you're the Giants. I think you got to take offensive line this time though.
I'm gonna keep saying his name. He is still sitting there. Evan Neal. Like at this point in time, I'm just like I'm not joking anymore. Evan Neal.
At this point, just do it. You have Saquon Barkley, you have Daniel Jones. Just get behind him as well too. And I kind of want to pose a question to you really quickly. Talk about that Panthers Icky Okongwu pick. Does Icky Okongwu change you? I want to talk fantasy football because we haven't talked about that as much. Obviously, the big question with CMC is health. That's going to affect his draft status more than anything. But if he stays healthy, do you think Icky Okongwu is going to help him as far as fantasy football, or even DJ Moore, or any of those guys? Or do you think there's just too many questions to even worry about any of their players?
Instantly, I do think it does help the running back. I think long term, it will help out DJ Moore as well. And what by that what I mean, when you get the run game going, a lot opens up in the pass, because you can know CMC is a guy you have to dedicate 8 men to. And that means that somebody is usually going to be single covered on the outside. That guy is going to be DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson, who just sneaks his way through the entire defense. Who I still don't get how a guy that tall sneaks his way through an entire defense. But I do think that's if you're the Panthers, your job is now get the run game going immediately, break off a couple 10-yarders, ideally have 50 yards in the first quarter, and that'll open up a whole lot on the backside for your receivers.
I do want to point out, you mentioned Evan Neal. They showed a guy like one of the fans who wearing all Giant stuff with a headband that said Neal across it. So he's on the same train as you as well too. So I think Evan Neal's got a fan in him as we are waiting for that pick as well too. And I do want to point out, I think we talked about fantasy football implications. I think if the Giants take an offensive lineman like Evan Neal here as well too, I think if they go with him or Charles Cross, I think that ups Saquon Barkley's fantasy value a lot too. Andrew Thomas you brought in Mark Lewinsky as well. You bring in I think that helps it a lot. And then the threat of Daniel Jones.
I think Daniel Jones
that
increases drastically as well.
Absolutely. And I was going to say the third Daniel Jones running. Maybe there's another lane or so for Saquon Barkley, who seems to be a perennial first-round fantasy running back, who unfortunately people get let down, whether it's because of injuries or because of the Giants being a mess. So I'm definitely curious to see what they decide to go with here. As Roger Goodell is at the podium, we're waiting for the official pick. Top needs offensive line, corner, and not really edge anymore after the drafting of Kayvon Thibodeau. we'll see what they decide to go with. And you know what? They did it. They went with your man, Evan Neal. The Giants didn't overthink it. They went with the big left tackle out of Alabama. And I think Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, as we just alluded to, they're sitting there just like, thank goodness things just got much easier. Because running outside zone QB options off the side and just, pass protection, I think Evan Neal provides him a fantastic element. And one of your favorite parts about him, for how giant of a man he is, pretty decent athlete as well, too, if you can get him in space for screens or something like that as well.
Pretty decent. This man standing splits of like 48 inches is a standing split jump. It's insane. Like, there's videotape of this guy training, just doing some freakish things. And yeah, on the field, I mean, you talk about a guy, in my opinion, he really is questioned for being aloof at times during the games. And it's because nobody can really challenge him physically. His biggest challenges come against his practice mates or Georgia.
Yeah, and honestly, with Georgia, he's going to outmatch those guys' size because those are more on the outside at least, because all the girth on Georgia's in the middle. And other than that, it's Nolan Smith and Trayvon Walker. They're not going to challenge him physically, as you mentioned. They're actually showing a tape of him taking care of Trayvon Walker, as well as I think it was Devontae White in the mix as well, too. So he can definitely handle it. And the one thing that I want to point out, too, is he is a very smart left tackle as well, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Bring stunts and different things like that. He identifies and it seems like he was always in the right spot.
And it's underrated how much influence he played on Bryce Young. You saw it in the Auburn game. They were struggling that Auburn game. Roger McCreary was shutting down the one receiver he had to worry about because Jameson Williams got himself kicked out. And Evan Neal pulled aside Bryce Young and just got in his head and was like, hey, this is you. This is the time you go make your plays. And he literally went down on the field, made 2 minutes worth of plays and won a game in one of the biggest rivalries in the world.
Went and almost had himself a Heisman moment. If he didn't already have it, well, he definitely had it against Georgia the next week in the SEC championship game as well, too. Speaking of Georgia, the Atlanta Falcons are now on the clock at pick number 8. And for the first time since we were in middle school, Matt Ryan will not be the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons this year as he was shipped off to the Colts. Atlanta, honestly, you could just look at the draft needs: offensive line, edge, receiver. There's also quarterback. And there's a long list.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things they could use. 29th in offense last year, 26th in defense. It was Kyle Pitts was kind of your one highlight, and a little bit of Cordero Patterson for fantasy football purposes as well, too. But as far as everything,
a little bit of Cordero?
A lot of Cordero for a good 7 weeks there, basically, is what it was. Who might have won some people some fantasy leagues as well. So my thought to you is, if you're Atlanta, can you really go wrong here at this point as well, too? I mean, there's a good amount of players. You look at, there's probably 4 or 5 guys out of our top 10 still available as well. There's some good players still out there. So I think you can't really go wrong.
I don't think you can go wrong. I just don't think you can be too far off here. Like, I don't think you take a flyer. I think you have to kind of just look at the board and be like, man, what is the best available player right here? And you have 2 options in my eyes. You go safety with Kyle Hamilton. You go Charles Cross. I think those are your best 2 options right now. I don't think you go receiver because I don't think you need it right now. But I think you need that offensive lineman way more than you need anything else. And I think that's my first look. I honestly would love to see Tyler Linderbaum come to this team. They already shipped out Alex Mack last year. Well, before last season. And we saw how bad that hurts him. Like, you haven't had a run game since Warwick Dunn. It feels like, well, that's not fair. Since Devontae Freeman.
And Tevin Coleman. Like, that one, they could both occasionally get loose. Granted, it helped when you had Matt Ryan back there directing things, too.
Yeah. This feels like an offensive line first pick, and then potentially you go defense.
And the pick is in, but I do want to point out, you mentioned you don't want to take a receiver here. Well, you know what? Tell that to the draft odds who have Garrett Wilson's the favorite at plus 250, Jameson Williams at plus 300, then Drake London at plus 300, then Malik Willis at plus 650.
I don't like it all.
So that's what the odds are pointing at as well, too. They've been weirdly correct. They were last in the NFL in receiving yards by receivers. Kyle Pitts led them in everything besides touchdowns. And, well, Calvin Ridley's not going to be playing next year, unfortunately, for reasons, ironically, because of what we were just talking about as well.
And it's ironic even more so that they're in Vegas.
Absolutely, as well, too. So we can debate that all day. I think it's ridiculous, but whatever. So the Falcons pick is going to be in. Gut feeling, we're in Vegas. Your money's on the line. These jokes write themselves at this point after the last few minutes we've been talking, but I'll let you go and tell you who is your gut feeling. Who's the money on for this pick?
I'm going Charles Cross.
You know what? I'm feeling kind of gambly because I got a couple right earlier. I'm going to slide the chips in. I'm going to say they take Malik Willis. I'm going to say they do it. I think last year they skipped out on Justin Fields because Matt Ryan. This year I don't think they make that mistake. I think Malik Willis, athletic quarterback, can move a lot of traits. Marcus Mariota can move a lot of good traits as well too. I think maybe there's a chance they take the flyer on Malik Willis. I do think they need offensive line badly. They could use edge rusher badly. They could use receiver and linebacker. They can use a lot of things. So right now, the pick is in for Atlanta. We are waiting to see what the official announcement is. At pick number 8, so far we've only had offensive linemen go offensively, and they took receiver Drake London out of USC. So you know what? They not only went with the receiver, but they honestly went with the receiver I least expected to go here. But you know what? That's an interesting dynamic in a couple of years. In a couple of years, you're going to have Calvin Ridley, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts. So you can get that quarterback. You got some playmakers for him. You just got to get that quarterback now.
I mean, you have 2 guys right now until Calvin Ridley comes back that you just put the ball in the vicinity of a basketball rim and near them, they're going to catch it.
It's kind of like you basically could throw it a garage door with both of them, with how their wingspans are and their catch radius going in any direction. You just got to throw it a garage door. And I know Marcus Mariota can hit a garage door. He's done it plenty of times as well. And they're actually showing one of the comparisons I had in our big board with him, which was Vincent Jackson, when he played with the Chargers and the Bucs as well, too. A guy who 50-50 balls is his game. Just put the ball, you mentioned, in his vicinity, in that area. He will fight a guy to get that ball. He will straight up, he will fight somebody and get that one. Kind of reminiscent to former teammate Michael Pittman Jr. as well, too, at it, who both just kind of put it up and let them go up and get it at that point. Don't worry about separation. Don't worry about long speed. Just let him get even one-on-one and just let him basically put hands on a man.
Oh, absolutely. And that back shoulder throw, get a quarterback that wants a friendly receiver. That back shoulder is dirty. His catch radius is insane. And let's not mistake the fact this man has some basketball hands. And what I mean by that is they are strong and they will bring it down one-handed.
I do want to point out one thing that you really liked about him as well, too, that we kind of talked about a little bit. He's underrated when you do get the ball in his hands, as far as just the ability. Like, he may not run away from people, but he can move pretty quickly and just kind of shift his way behind offensive line, shift his way and find gaps. He's underrated if you just get the ball to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things, because he's a big body guy, he runs these slants so well, he can block out the defender behind him. What ends up happening a lot of times is a defender will drape over him, fall down, and then all of a sudden Drake London's like, oh, I can run with this. All right, well, I'll see you guys at 20 yards. And he just gallops his way 20 yards because he's a long strider. It doesn't take more than 5 steps. And he's already like 10, 15 yards down the field. And it's just like, wow, okay. And it's underrated. It's very underrated part of his game. And it's very reminiscent to guy you just mentioned, his former teammate, Michael Pittman Jr. And just the way they just travel downfield. Before you know it, this guy will be 10, 15, 20 yards downfield. And it's not because he's fast. It's just because he takes steps that are 5 yards a piece.
You know, the more we talked about, the more I kind of like this pick. I was with you. I didn't really like the idea of taking a receiver here, but Atlanta's clearly playing the long game. You are not going to fix this team this year. You have to you're changing eras completely. I like this pick a little bit more because now you got a 5th-year option on your number one, maybe your number one receiver. If you can bring back Calvin Ridley, next year's quarterback draft class is the one you kind of want to be in. You do have that extra 3rd-round pick this year. So the more we talk about it, the more I like it. And we all know from the big war how much I like Drake London. I had him as receiver too. I'm intrigued by it as well. And you mentioned 2 guys now. You just throw the ball somewhat in their vicinity, and they will get it. So that makes whoever is the quarterback's job so much easier. You don't have to be right when you throw them. I think that's the biggest thing. They don't have to separate. They don't have to get speed. You don't have to throw a good ball. You just have to kind of take a guess. Like, you can take a guess between those two and get a good chance.
How funny is it that the thing Marcus Mariota needed when he came out of the draft, he's now getting in Atlanta?
And tenfold too. Like, it doesn't get much better than this. Yeah.
Like the next thing they need is just fill in the offensive line, but that can come. But I think it's a very good point you mentioned that the way Blank owns this team and runs this team, it does give an opportunity for GMs to take the realization that, like, hey, we need to rebuild and we can do it properly by doing this. And they've done it before. Like, you talk about the years that we've gone through in their time. I mean, you've gone from the old Wayne Corbett days, Algie Crumpler, Michael Vick, Matt Schaub days, Roddy White, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, and then Matt Ryan, Devontae Foreman, and Tevin Coleman.
And there's Matt Ryan, Tony Gonzalez, and Roddy White for a little bit there as well too. Like
I left out Tony Gonzalez.
Like granted, it's going to be a strong transition going from Matt Ryan, who's arguably the best player in franchise history. Debate however you want. Like obviously, we're not going to get into that one, but the point is that's going to be a strong transition, and you got a big time playmaker for it. But that's going to take us to pick number 9, and the Seattle Seahawks picking in the top 10, even though it's technically not their pick because of the Russell Wilson trade to Denver. Seattle. A rough season last year, 19th in offense. Russell Wilson missed a lot of games, 28th in defense. Very uncharacteristic for Pete Carroll. An interesting draft board is there's no Stingley Jr., there's no Sauce Gardner. A lot of the guys we kind of projected for them to go. But there is a few guys that they could use as far as on that offensive line, for example, as well, too, or on the edge as well. So I think there's still some really good picks for them here if they want to go in that direction.
I have a sneaky option, and he's not a very sneaky play. It's a man. It's a myth. It's a legend. It's a linebacker.
Nakobe Dean?
It's a Nakobe Dean.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned Nakobe Dean because here's an interesting one that if you had the chance to bet money, I'd bet it right now. He is plus 750 to be the first linebacker taken. That's pretty, considering the guys ahead of him are plus 125 and like 175 with Quay Walker and Devin Lloyd. I'll slide $10 down I'll slide like $10 down for that and see if I can get pulling some extra money. Plus 750 odds. Give me those all day.
I'm sorry. Is Quay Walker the odds-on favorite for number 1?
He's the second.
Oh,
Devin Lloyd's the favorite for linebacker. Then it's Quay Walker, and then it's Nakobe Dean as far as first linebacker. Let me phrase that. I apologize. He's tied with Devin Lloyd at plus 175 for first.
I like Quay Walker
More than most.
Yeah, I absolutely love him. Number 2 linebacker good? No, not even number 2 linebacker on his own college team.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. Like
he's not even the best Walker playing for Georgia. The other one just got drafted number 1, so I guess maybe that's why. Like maybe somebody got confused. It's like Trey Walker or Trevon Walker. Okay, now Quay Walker.
You know what? I hope somebody took that bet. As the Seahawks pick is in, and you know what? I was going to mention this is a prime chance if they want to trade back with all of their needs. It's not if someone wants to move up. This is a good spot, but looks like the pick is in for Seattle. So there's a lot of talk about trades and movement and all heck breaking loose. So far, no trades though. So I'm wondering if maybe it gets kicked off with that number 10 pick with the Jets. We'll have to wait to see. But right now, they just showed the animation for a trade, and I thought I completely got swindled as well. But they're showing the trade for Russell Wilson as well too, and that netted the Seahawks this pick as well as a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick this year, and then a first and second next year along with Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and squad. So if they believe in Drew Lock, I think they take an offensive lineman here and they try and build around, give him a chance.
I think you take Drew Lock for a season with Noah Fant and DK and Tyler Lockett. I mean, like I think that would be a very fun offense to watch, but I do think you need to protect him. One, and that goes for any quarterback they bring in, and so that does mean if they go quarterback here, you got to figure out a way to get some offensive linemen soon.
I like the idea of taking. I like Charles Cross here. I really like Charles Cross. I think it makes a lot of sense here as well. So we'll see if they do. We're waiting for the official pick to come through. It is Pete Carroll, and I think if we can say anything for the Pete Carroll and John Schneider era, really good later round picks. It's that first round that's always kind of goofy though. Like it seems like guys like Bruce Irvin and things like that. It's always kind of goofy.
Why does it feel like this is George Karlaftis at some time? Like I know he's the perfect Baltimore pick, but how Pete Carroll would it be to be like, yeah, we're gonna go get George.
You know what, that is interesting as well too. As the pick is in, we were waiting for the official announcement as well too. And you know what, George would be interesting as well too. I like Charles Cross. We will see what the official pick is as we were waiting. And looks like they're going to go with Charles Cross. They're going to go with the big offensive lineman. So they are going to protect Drew Lock by the sounds of it as well too. They're going to give him a chance. And Charles Cross, arguably, not too arguably, but the best pass rusher or pass blocker, in this draft, coming from that Mike Leach spread system as well. So you know what, I kind of like this idea because they're going to do a lot of spread looks as well, or they're going to have to pass the ball a lot with DK, Tyler Lockett, and whatnot. So I like Charles Cross here. I think this is a really good pick.
Yeah, look, I think this is one of those guys that he was slept on early, and then everybody kind of realized like, oh wow, he's actually really good pass blocking for a team that up until Mike Leach got there was kind of a subpar pass blocking team. And Charles Cross was always been kind of the big like number one lineman, and he's been their best pass blocker the entire time.
Absolutely as well too, and really, really good hands. Check out our big board. Yeah. I held him in really high regard, and you held him in high regard as well. But that takes us to pick number 10. the New York Jets are on the clock, and this is where, if the Debo was going to get traded, this is the prime spot where the 49ers, I think, would trade and work a deal with the Jets, who could bring in Debo Samuel. But I don't think it's going to happen. By all reports was that Debo, they will not be trading Debo, that they were turning down offers similar to the Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill trade. So I think the Jets are going to stand pat here, and I think this is going to end up being their pick as well. And I think this is where they go offense as well. I don't know if they go receiver or if maybe there's an offensive lineman. I like Tyler Linderbaum here a lot. I would really like that pick for him as well. But I think my gut tells me they're going with receiver, honestly. That's what my gut's telling me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought, I said this last night when we did our mock draft. I am also with you. I do believe they were going to trade for Debo. If this doesn't come through, I'm still sticking with the pick I put at this spot that go into San Francisco, and that's Jameson Williams. I think Jameson Williams is a very interesting pick here, and a guy that for the Jets, I mean, talk about taking the top off.
Can just imagine Zach Wilson, who, for all of his any questions you have about him last year or anything like that, he can sling it. He's got a gun in that right shoulder. Like that right shoulder socket's got a howitzer attached to it. He's going to enjoy letting it fly.
He had to leave Brigham Young because of a weapon attached to his body.
He's going to enjoy throwing that one to Jameson Williams 4.2 speed run himself when he gets healthy as well, too. And you still have Elijah Moore, a surprise receiver from last year's draft as well, too. You got Corey Davis, who is that second, third option, like that slot/go deep guy. He's really, really effective. You brought in CJ Uzoma at tight end, so the Jets got some options as well, too. I really want to see Tyler Linderbaum go here. I know that it's a center and it's not the sexy pick, and it might be a bit of a reach, but he's the best interior offensive lineman in the draft. You want to protect your guy. You got Elijah Vera Tucker. You got Mekhi Becton for now. I'm going to hammer this home, get that offensive line, give Zach Wilson a chance to give him a chance to prove something next year.
You know what? You got a tackle earlier. Oh, sorry, you did not get a tackle earlier.
You got good. You got the sauce. So you addressed the defense.
So my bad. We were talking about him getting a tackle earlier. And hold on.
No, this is from this.
No,
is
okay, never mind.
Yeah,
right.
Don't worry.
They're throwing us a loop with his trades.
But all right, the pick is in for the Jets, so it is not a trade here.
So anyways, just to quickly finish this up, is you have Elijah Vera Tucker, you have Mekhi Becton. Why not go get Zion Johnson? I mean, really, like, just think about that. How nice would that be to have the second best interior offensive lineman, the best guard in the draft?
If you want, it's not a bad option. I'm going to say if you want to reach, but you like traits, imagine Trevor Penny and Mekhi Becton as your bookend tackles. Absolute maulers. Trevor Penny has a lot to work on. You're reaching for him at 10, but you look at his traits, like athletic traits, his size, the way he eats people for fun. And how his exact description of what he likes to do is, I like football because it allows me to legally assault somebody. That's how he describes his blocking style. That's gonna open up a lot of running lanes for Carter as well too, a running back, the young running back they got last year. So
a young stud running back.
That's a very good running back as well too. So the pick is in for the Jets. I like offensive line here. You do as well. They do. You can still have room for a receiver. And you know what? Kyle Hamilton's still sitting there. We look at their team needs. They do need a safety. You lost Marcus May. You know, I said it earlier, Robert Saleh has seen that 32 next to his defense. He is not having it. He'd rather Zach Wilson. You'd be like, Zach Wilson, you wait one more year, then we'll give you weapons. We are fixing this defense, dang it. I will not let Josh Allen carve us up that easily anymore. We will at least make it moderately more difficult for him.
I will say this, though. The next pick is Washington. And if Kyle Hamilton doesn't go here, I 100% expect the Commanders to try to take that generational talent to fill in their team.
That's a great pick for them as well, too, to pair him with Jamin Davis, William Jackson, that front line as well. So that is a great, great pick there. So I'm intrigued by it. So the Jets pick is in there. If Roger Goodell's up announcing the pick as well, too. We'll see who the Jets decide with their second. And they're going with Garrett Wilson, the receiver out of Ohio State. So an Ohio State receiver. And you know what? I don't hate the pick, even though I like Chris Olave a little bit more. But Garrett Wilson's traits, what he brings, I'm intrigued by it as well, too. Because he gives you a guy, flick the ball to him in space, and watch him take some ankles and get to the house. Yeah,
this guy's fast. That's the first thing that'll jump out to you is he is fast, and it is not fair. And on top of that, you add in his catch radius. You talk on his hands. They haven't compared to Lynn Swann. I don't think that's fair to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is a much better receiver than Lynn Swann, and this man can fly. Garrett Wilson can quite literally fly through the air. if you take Ocho Cinco's athletic ability for his time, update that 20 years, and you get a whole lot of Garrett Wilson.
I'm still sticking with my DJ Moore comparison with him, but I like that one as well too. Like it's a really good pick, and Zach Wilson's job. We talked about offensive line to protect him. I think this says we're going to keep Mekhi Beckham. We will accept the fact that he is 400 pounds. It is fine. He is 6'9" and huge. B, your job just got a whole lot easier when you can just kind of throw it up Garrett Wilson around there somewhere. So I think I like that pick as well too. And 3, honestly, you got him and Sauce Gardner didn't go head to head a lot in practice, and you still got a really early second round pick coming up as well too. So there are some options for them coming up.
Is it bad that I really, really want to see the first practice with Sauce versus Garrett?
Not at all, because I'm thinking the same thing as well. 2 kids out of the state of Ohio going head to head like that as well too. Like those are gonna be some fun battles. Like iron is gonna sharpen iron there. That's got Tre'Davious White, Stephon Diggs going head to head type of feel to it as well.
That has old school 49ers go. What it sounds like when you had Jerry Rice going against insert great corner here.
Absolutely. Or the Cowboys with Dion and Michael Irvin. Like there's some fun. There's some fun going here. But so Garrett Wilson, the second receiver off the board, he was actually the favorite to be the first receiver off the board. So he will go the second receiver at number 10. And I'm honestly surprised. I honestly thought the receiver run was going to take a little bit. I think it was going to be a little late to get going just because the receiver. We actually have a trade here. So the Commanders at pick number 11 are trading. They're trading with the New Orleans Saints coming up to pick number 11. So New Orleans Saints are now on the clock. And I didn't get to finish my sentence, but when we did our mock draft, I had the Steelers trading up to this pick to go get Malik Willis, but it looks like the Saints, they're going to go get their guy. And I don't know about you, but I think they traded up for a quarterback here. I'd be surprised if they did.
Quarterback, maybe a wide receiver, though. You just saw Drake London go off the board. You just saw Garrett Wilson. And maybe your thoughts are a receiver and you want Chris Olave and you're not about to let him sit.
That's an option. That's interesting as well, too. So the Saints currently on the clock. We look at their team needs. Offensive line, losing Teron Armstead. Receiver, you mentioned they need somebody to go with Michael Thomas if Michael Thomas plays. And QB, depends on how you feel about Jameson Winston. They got him on a 1-year deal, but they might be looking to add the quarterback spot. Last year with a tight end playing quarterback for a lot of the season, they were 28th in offense. Still 7th in defense, still shut out the Buccaneers. So they got some horses on defense, but the Saints trading up to get into the first round of the second pick with the Eagles. So there's something they see that they really like right now. I think this is starting to make a little bit of sense why they acquired that second first round pick from the Eagles as well.
Now, did they say what Washington gave up? What New Orleans gave up?
They have not showed that yet. Like we're still waiting to see what exactly they gave up. But that is,
I'm curious to know what New Orleans gave up. If they gave up both of their later picks or just one.
That is something I'm really curious as well to. Like, what did they do to do it as well? So all we know so far is that they did trade back. We're waiting for the official announcement to see what it was. But I kind of want to ask you at this one as well too. Who's your gut feeling on this pick? Like what are you thinking for this one?
I think it's Chris Olave. I really do. I think you just saw Drake London. You just saw Garrett Wilson, and your hopes were he would slide. And now, actually, you know what? I'll add in just receiver in general. So that way, it's Chris Olave, Jameson Williams. Let me just hyphenate that, like between the two, or slash that between the two of them, because it's one of the two. They want another receiver to pair with Michael Thomas, and they trust Jameis. I think this new coaching staff trusts Jameis, and I think it's deservedly so.
Heck, it was his defensive coordinator last year, so he knows Jameis pretty well as well too. Dennis Allen being the former D coordinator, they were first place in the NFC South before Jameis Winston's knee explodes. He almost called it Jameson Williams, so that makes sense. Jameis to Jameson. I feel like this is a match made in heaven. So I like that pick as well. I am really curious as well as they're still on the clock, so they traded up. But unlike the other teams, they're not exactly sprinting to the podium like those other teams did. So I am curious what they have in mind. And you mentioned the Commanders possibly taking Kyle Hamilton. I'm curious of what they got in return, because let's say they got those other two picks. Commanders could be in a good spot to maybe add in a couple of really good players. Kyle Hamilton starting to slip among some others as well too. So we're still waiting for the Saints pick to come in. You're thinking it's going to be one of the receivers.
It's got to be.
It feels right, but I'm intrigued with why they keep moving up. I think one of those quarterbacks they are really intrigued by, and the fact that they're both still around and they realize they can go get them. I think they might be looking at one of those quarterbacks. I don't know which one. I have no idea.
Honestly, you could say all three of them are still around. Depending on your rankings for all three,
you can say four, because a lot of people like Desmond Ridder too as well to go along. So I am very intrigued, and what's really surprising to me is the fact that they have not officially, the pick is not in yet. They're still surveying, so it's almost like. It wouldn't be surprising if they traded up just to trade back and get more, somehow turn that into more picks. That'd be something very Saints to do, is try and Trying like real estate flip the house.
Leave it to the Saints to, first of all, trade with Philadelphia, get 2 picks. Then to trade up, possibly lose 1, maybe 2 picks. And then trade back and get like 4 more picks.
Here's an intriguing idea. I just want to pose it by you. Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator. You know you got to get after Tom Brady on him. You trust Jameis. What about a Jermaine Johnson or someone like you're just to add to that defensive edge group just to go get quarterbacks as well? Go with Cameron Jordan. Go with Marcus Davenport. Go with a pretty strong back line as well.
I see you listened to my commentary last night during the mock draft where I had Jermaine Johnson going as a combination with what you already have in Cam Jordan.
But I'm also saying they traded up to get him as arguably the second best player on the board. So I'm thinking, what are your thoughts on that as they went to go get him?
I mean, this is the exact thing that I was worried about with the mock draft I did last night. If they didn't take Jermaine Johnson where I had him going, he wouldn't have been there for the second pick. So this is a situation where something happened and they heard something, rumor in the mill, that this guy potentially is going off the board in the next 2 picks. So we need to get up there.
I had him going to the Vikings in our mock draft. Maybe there was a little bit of smoke there, and the Saints decided to set their own fires. The pick is in. We are officially waiting for the pick to come in. The first time without Drew Brees and Sean Payton since 2006. I joked how it was the first time.
I wasn't even in high school then.
I said we were in middle school with Matt Ryan. This is even farther back than that. Like this is
no. I was going into high school.
Yeah, I was just it was a long time ago. We were still prepubescent children at that point, pretty down close.
I was a young buck.
Like we were still growing. There was still some Similac behind the ears and whatnot. Like we had some room to grow. So the Saints pick is in. We are waiting for the official pick. Vegas, you're betting. Who you going with? Who's your gut feel?
I mean, you know what? You got me thinking about the Jermaine Johnson thing now, and now I'm thinking of what Minnesota would have taken, and I think you're right. And I do think this is either Jermaine Johnson or Zion Johnson.
You know, I'm going to do it again. I'm feeling pretty good because I've hit on a few of these just random guesses. I'm going to slide in there and say they're going for Malik Willis. I'm going to say they're going for it. They're like, Jameis, we trust you for a year. Because they took a while to resign him. They wanted Deshaun Watson. I think they look at it. You're coming off of Drew Brees. Those are big shoes to fill. The Saints, they're greedy because they've been spoiled for the last almost 2 decades. So
why is Austin Eckler on the stage? We
got Austin Eckler. We got Tony Gonzalez as well too. So this is an interesting look here as
well.
Why
do we have a Chief and a Charger?
Are you okay over there?
In Las Vegas.
Like there's something going on here as well too. I guess Denver's sitting this one out, but I guess when you don't have any picks in the first couple rounds, you know what, you can sit this one out as well too. So Saints pick is in. We are waiting for the official announcement. You are leaning towards Jermaine Johnson. It sounds like as well too. That's the one you're gonna roll with.
That's who I'm riding with.
I want to say that because I just brought it up as well. But for fun, I'm gonna slide my chips for Malik Willis. I'm gonna say this pick at number 11, we finally see a quarterback go. I think this is where we start to see some of the players.
These are the fans of the year.
Oh, okay, that makes sense as well too. So that, good for them, but it's kind of ironic that you gave him what was the Washington Commanders pick and is now, it's an interesting time to do it.
Oh, wait, no, it's either that or it's the military members. That's a good point. While watching the Commanders pick,
that makes sense. Which, of course, the Commanders find a way to ruin it by trading their pick, so it doesn't even have the same ring.
Yeah,
as well too.
Good job, Washington.
It's not the worst thing they've ever done, so it's all cool as well too. So right now, Tony Gonzalez is up there talking about it as well too, and as they are figuring this out, I do want to kind of mention as well too. I was in the top 10 for the most part. A lot of the odds were pretty spot on. There was, I think, 2 of them that the odds didn't have correct from the DraftKings odds I was looking at. So interesting. The DraftKings might have known a little something in there.
Yeah, look, it makes sense. They're in Vegas. I'd hope they have their ear to the ground, but it's tough because it's unlike last year. There were a lot of we know,
or at least we were very, very confident in. But
yeah. This year it's a lot of. It could be this, it could be this, it could be this, it could be that. You know what? It could be a combination of the two. And after all things are said, it's going to be this guy that wasn't even on a top 50 big board midway through the college season.
Yeah, realistically, that's a good way to put it as well. While they're announcing this or we're waiting for the pick, so for first round betting totals for quarterbacks, the number is 2.5. Do you think we pass that? Do you think we get 3 first round quarterbacks?
I do. I don't know how now.
Somehow, some way, especially if the Saints don't take one, then I think it gets really tough. Receivers, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, I definitely think it's hard because Carolina didn't take one.
Mm-hmm.
And if they had, I think that opens the door.
Absolutely. And let's see, the Saints pick is in. We were waiting for the official announcement as well, too. It looks like Roger Goodell is getting ready to announce it. I will go down those betting odds here in just a moment. You're feeling Jermaine Johnson. I'm feeling Malik Willis. Let's see what the Saints decide to roll with here as well, too. Waiting for the announcement to come through. And Saints fans are excited, and it looks like they're going Chris Olave. So they traded up.
So it was my first thought.
It was the first one. They did go to get a receiver, and Chris Olave going to the Saints. And I really like this pick, giving Jameis Winston. You have Michael Thomas, maybe Alvin Kamara, and now Chris Olave. So that's a really good pick. You got receiver 1 on both of our boards, a top 10 caliber player, and he just gets open. He finds a way to get open. He runs away from people. You give him a phone booth, and he'll find a way to get out of it without getting touched. So I really like this pick for the Saints, and good on them for going to go and get their guy.
I love this. I think Chris Olave has been overlooked as the top receiver in this class. I personally, he's been doing this for 3 years solid. I mean, he is a miscommunication away from beating Clemson twice in 2 years. That's how insane of this guy is skill wise. And then he changes quarterbacks from a first-round draft pick to a future first-round draft pick and continues to just tear people up.
Absolutely. And we're just looking at the highlights. The way he shakes people in the red zone, he gets open when there's no room. It's absolutely incredible. The Saints got a top 10 caliber player. And you know what? I like the trade. The Detroit Lions are now on the clock at pick number 12, it looks like, as well, too. Unless that is a graphical error. But it looks like them and the Vikings might have made a trade. And the Lions trading back up to number 12, if I'm looking at it.
Timeout.
So not only do we see an in-division trade, but the Lions creeping their way back into the top 12 as well. So I, for one, am shocked because we didn't even get done with talking about Chris Olave.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And praising him. And we already got the Lions back in. All right, I retract it. This is the quarterback pick. This has to be.
Is it a quarterback?
Who else do you trade from 32 to 12 to go get? Maybe Kyle Hamilton? Maybe, but I don't know.
I would love Kyle Hamilton to the Lions.
Maybe they went to go get a receiver as the receiver run's about to get started, but the Lions pick is in, so I'm curious to see what they go with. And I kind of want to mention this for the betting odds. First round betting totals for receivers is at 5.5. Well, we're through 11 and we got 3 of them. So I think it's a safe bet. We're going to pass out the first round. I don't know about you, but 5.5 seems like very, very passable. And now as the Lions are on the clock, we're looking at their team needs. QB, edge, safety. Those are the 3 team needs we came up with. Well, you got one of them knocked out of the way pretty effectively with Aiden Hutchinson.
I still don't think QB is there.
You think they maybe go safety and Kyle Hamilton?
I think they go safety and Kyle Hamilton.
Okay.
And we talked about this early in this draft process. If Kyle Hamilton starts to slip, a smart team who needs a safety would sprint their way to get a trade and get him off the board. And this might be the situation we see that Kyle Hamilton comes off the board. Now, they're showing Kenny Pickett, but don't forget Kyle Hamilton is actually in the green room. And there's something to be said about the fact he's in the green room because that's where they keep their first rounders.
I do want to say, if they do go with quarterback, I don't really like them trading up for Kenny Pickett, honestly, as well, too. I don't think you needed to go get Kenny Pickett here. I like Kenny Pickett, but you have Jared Goff. You're going to go trade up to get a quarterback. I think it wouldn't have been a bad idea to get the guy that you need to develop a little bit more in on Malik Willis. So I am curious what they have in mind. Because if you get Kenny Pickett, I feel like you got to be ready to start him sooner than later.
Yeah, and to answer the question, Cody, I did not see what the Saints traded for because they had that whole long thing with Tony Gonzalez and Austin Eckler. We're working on finding out that information, and then we'll find out what the Lions swap. Because I imagine for New Orleans, it's at least one of their 2 first-round picks. And then for Detroit, it is definitely their 32nd pick, potentially their 32nd, and that first pick in the second round.
Absolutely, as well, too. All mayhem seems to be breaking loose as well. We are working to see what exactly that is as well. So we will keep an eye on that to see who the Lions decide to go with. And honestly, there's a lot of really good options as well. I'm curious to see what the Lions decide to go with. Big move for the Lions getting on the clock as well. Waiting for the official announcement here. So I have an interesting feeling that they have. I really think they're going with the quarterback. I'm waiting to see what they do. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, so I have the New Orleans Saints trade up right here. It is the New Orleans Saints have traded up to select Ohio State receiver Chris Olave with the number 11 pick from Washington. In return, Washington gets $16.98 and $120.
Perfect. And I do got the Lions one for you now. The Lions they gave up pick 32 and 34 and another later pick. So the Vikings are going to have basically pick the last pick of the first round and the second pick of the second round. So This is a smart pick for the Vikings. You get the double dip a little bit there as well too. How they did that. You get some really really close picks. So you know what? I like that move from the. It's interesting the interdivision trade, but I kind of like it. And now the Lions.
It's harmless though.
It really is. I mean, it really is.
It's the one time you can actually trade with them and be harmless.
As close as it's going to get to hard. Exactly. So the Lions are now making their pick, and they decide to go with Jameson Williams. Okay, so they climb back in to get the absolute burner. And you know what? That's an underrated part of this I didn't really think about. So you pair him with Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're sticking with Jared Goff, and you got something that you did not have on your team last year. That is absolute explosiveness on the outside.
I love this pick. I love Jameson Williams as far as what he's able to do. And you talked about it last night in the mock draft. And it's a stat that is just so insane. He averages 48 yards per touchdown catch this last season.
Absolutely as well, too. I mean, he is coming off that ACL injury, so I'm curious, like, this is clearly a long-term pick for the Lions. They're looking at it as like, you know what? Maybe one more year being a little bit rough, but look out in a couple of years as well, too. So this is a really good pick. I like the Jameson Williams pick, and we talked about it. We had him going pretty early. We had him as one of the top few receivers off, and well, the over-under for receivers was 5.5 in the first round. We're at 4 now, and we're at pick number 13, which is now the Eagles on the clock. So the Eagles, we have seen yet another trade as the Eagles find themselves picking at number 13, and we've seen 3 trades and 3 picks. We talked about doing our mock draft with trades, and this thing spiked up to 1,000 already.
This definitely took trades before I was like in different places that I wasn't prepared for these trades. I got to be honest that this one is just a little bit surprising that the Eagles moved up, considering they already traded with the Saints and got rid of one of their picks. So what are you coming to pick up here if the Lions just traded up and got Jameson Williams? Like, what are you coming to get if you're the Eagles?
And you only moved up 2 spots. So that means they had an inkling that Baltimore or somebody else was trying to trade up with the Texans. And, you know, we got 3 receivers now. Maybe there's somebody at receiver they really like out there. Maybe I'm not sure. I mean, actually we got 4 receivers off the board now. So maybe the receiver run is about to get really, really spicy.
Are they coming up for Kyle Hamilton?
That's a good Jordan Davis. Maybe they had an inkling that the Ravens might take him. Like this is the interesting one, seeing the Eagles trade up like this as well. So I really do wonder what they have in mind. The pick is in, so they didn't kind of fool around like what the Saints did and take their sweet time. The Eagles, they knew what they wanted, and they came in and turned it in. But right now they were so quick with it. We got to get a moment to enjoy it, so Jameson Williams can enjoy his moment with the commissioner and stuff as they wait for that as well. But we're looking at the Eagles rankings: 14th in offense, 10th in defense, a playoff team last year who came into this draft season with 3 first-round picks, courtesy of the Colts and the Dolphins. They traded one of those to the Saints, so they do. So right now they had 2, and you know, it looks like they moved back, so we'll see what the pick is. They need receiver, they need tackle, and they need corner. Those are the 3 needs we came to, and you know what? There's some pretty good ones still on the board for this spot as well. I mean, there's Trevor Penning's an option. Receivers, you're getting into the Jahan Dotsons, Treylon Burkses, John Mechie's of the world, but the way receivers just got 3 in a row, it's very reasonable. And corners. You're missing out the top 2, but Trent McDuffie's right there. I am really curious what the Eagles saw that made them think we got to jump 2 spots. We can't miss this.
You know, it's interesting because I had them taking Devontae Wyatt as their second pick. And if they trade up to get Jordan Davis, that'd be very interesting. But here's what they actually traded, by the way. They traded for the 13 pick from the Texans. They traded away 15, 124, 162, and 166. So
they get to keep the 2 first-round picks. They just gave up a lot of like those 3rd, 4th round kind of. They let the Texans load up in the middle and got to keep some of their key picks.
Exactly, yeah. So for the most part, if you guys see our bottom line, it's as up to date as I can keep it right now.
It's as good as it gets at this point.
Yeah. So like, I'm probably missing 1 or 2 here somewhere, but you know what? We're trying to keep it up to date.
That is interesting as well too. So I'm really curious. I want to see what the Eagles end up going with as well too, because there's a lot of really, really good options right here. I want to throw an idea out there. There's been a lot of talk with Jalen Hurts. Like, do they believe in him? Like, what do they think about him? It's like, is he a prove you every deal? What if they decided to trade up to get a quarterback? What if the Eagles did something that only the Eagles would do and they traded up for a quarterback here for some reason?
Why would they? Okay,
I'm throwing it out there because we haven't seen a quarterback
That's a good
yet.
point. That's a good point. It's something only the Eagles would do.
I'm just throwing it out there as well too. Like it's a very interesting. It's very interesting.
I'm flummoxed right now with all these trades. I'm just trying to keep up. I'm actually pulling out words like flummoxed so I can keep up. But no, this is This is intriguing because this is what we were worried about with this draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's like 7 trades. And it's all because there's not a set layout. It's a lot of I need what's best available.
You know what? I think they're going for Jordan Davis. That's what I'm really starting to feel for right now as well, too. Because I look at, you kind of mentioned, like you mentioned earlier, too, like, why would they feel the need to jump 2 spots? Because that means they look at Baltimore taking someone. Baltimore, our picks for them are George Karlaftis, Jordan Davis. I feel like those are the 2 we look at as like those are the very Baltimore picks. So I think they traded up for Jordan Davis. I think they're going to try and pair him with Hargraves and Fletcher Cox and just make him kind of do what the Buccaneers did last year, where they'd randomly run a 5-2 and say good luck everybody else. I think the Eagles are going to emulate something like that. As the pick is in, we're just waiting for the official announcement. But I'm going to go with Jordan Davis. That's where I'm putting my Vegas money for this one.
I don't hate the Jordan Davis pick. I will personally lean to saying they're going to go just because I want to. It's in Vegas. I'm going to say Tyler Linderbaum.
Interesting. All right. So
I doubled down from yesterday.
So basically what we're saying is we both kind of still question the move because they traded up 2 spots for a guy who most likely be there at 15.
You know what? No, forget it. They're going Kyle Hamilton.
You're head fast on that one.
I'm at this point in time, he's got to go. He's got to go somewhere. No, there's not this many teams that have this many questions about Kyle Hamilton. There's no way.
I almost wonder if positional value might be the thing. Unless you're getting like Derwin James freakishness at safety, that's why teams might be a little reluctant to take a safety. I mean, last time we saw a top 10 safety was Jamal Adams, who really, really good player, but the fact that he can't catch the ball is a little concerning. The amount of times the ball is bounced off of his hands. So I am curious to see as we're still waiting.
Bonte?
What was that?
I'm trying to figure out who was at home in Atlanta.
Oh, that was Trayvon Walker.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, they talked about it.
I was like, I knew it was a Georgia guy. Hold on.
By the way, too, for Georgia players as well, too, the order for betting was obviously Trayvon Walker, the favorite, number 1, Jordan Davis at number 2, then Nakobe Dean at 3, and then Devontae White at 4. So I'm curious if we do see that second Georgia player go off the board here with the Eagles.
And didn't even think about Nakobe Dean.
That would be interesting as well, too, and I would like that pick, but I'm going to stick with the Jordan Davis pick. That one feels right now.
He was part of my first pick for them in the first mock draft, and it wouldn't surprise me if Philadelphia had maybe moved up to try to prevent Baltimore from getting him or Houston from getting him.
That's interesting as well, too, as you look at that. And you mentioned 2 4th-round picks and 2 5th-round picks. So Houston getting the 15th pick. So, all right, we are still waiting for the official announcement for the Eagles pick as well. I'm leaning towards Jordan Davis. We are waiting for the official word. But it sounds like the Eagles, that I'm intrigued as well because there was talk about them almost moving back, it felt like it, especially after they trade that 1 pick to the Saints. But aggressive is as aggressive doesn't. I mean, you're coming off being in the playoffs last year when everyone thought you were tanking as well, too, with all those picks. So we were waiting for official Eagles pick in, and I'm going to go ahead and toss this one to you as well. You're a playoff team with 3 first-round picks. What do you think the Eagles, assuming they hit on these 2 picks, what do you think their ceiling is looking like for next year?
The ceiling looks good. I mean, it's a team where you live and die by Jalen Hurts. And while that's not the best thing in the world, you have much worse options. Your biggest issue to me is Jalen Reagor on the outside and trying to get him involved or replacing him. Yeah. And that's why maybe this pick is a receiver, but at the same time, 2 spots for a receiver. It doesn't make sense. I honestly, looking for this team next year, if they get the right pick here, I think it's good. Is Jordan Davis the right pick? Maybe not.
We are still waiting on the pick as we do see the Eagles fans in attendance we see a Carson Wentz jersey there is mandatory as well too, but they're definitely having a little fun. We're still waiting for this pick. This trade happened like 30 minutes ago. We're still waiting for the official announcement. I think it's going to be Jordan Davis. You think it's going to be Kyle Hamilton? It sounds like is what we're saying.
It's got to be Kyle Hamilton.
All right, that is interesting as we're still waiting for that announcement as well too. And I'm going to kind of ask you this in fantasy football terms as well too. Last year, Jalen Hurts was an incredible fantasy football quarterback. Let's say they take your guy Tyler Linderbaum, or they just kind of rebuild on the offensive side. What do you think about the idea of Jalen Hurts as a fantasy quarterback next year?
Oh, man. If you improve that offensive line, I love it.
Just because with how much they run the ball to, giving him a convoy out in front to protect, I think that could be even more useful than getting him receivers, honestly.
Especially getting somebody like Tyler Linderbaum, who is a great zone blocker, which means he's also a great option blocker. I mean,
and a guy who can move a little bit, let him get downhill with that Miles Sanders and read option sort of thing as well too. So you know what, I'm intrigued by to see what they have to do as well. So that'll be fun as well. And one thing we didn't really mention as much, New Orleans Saints stockpiling on those Ohio State receivers, Michael Thomas and now Chris Olave as well too. So you know what? Look for Jackson Smith and Jigba to end up down there next year as well too. If they somehow find a way in the first round.
Hey, Jackson Smith and Jigba, we haven't even gotten into next year's draft, and I gotta say that man is my favorite for number 1 wide receiver already.
100% is the pick is Jordan Davis. So the Eagles climbing up 2 spots to take the big man out of Georgia as well too. So fortifying that run defense, and honestly, you can't really go too wrong with the pick. He's a guy we both had in the top 15 in our big boards as well too. And the Eagles basically saying thou shall not run up the middle on us. They've eliminated all inside zone and anything in between the guard box of this selection of Jordan Davis.
Yeah, like first of all, I'm afraid to say anything wrong because it's Jordan Davis and he would just like sit down and probably the only human in existence that could crush me. But I will say that I'm confused by the moving up 2 picks. I didn't think Baltimore had him as highly rated. I definitely feel like George Karlaftis is where Baltimore is going. And I do think this is interesting seeing them move up. But look, if you're Philadelphia, you had a lot to look at tape wise. This guy is an athletic freak, scored a perfect 10 on the relative athletic scale. That's not easy to do. I mean, there's only one other, like in my opinion, first 2-day guy that finished that high, and that is Troy Anderson. So, like, there's a lot to be said about Jordan Davis, but I also have to say he's really just a run guy.
Yeah, for now. Yeah, exactly. So I got a lot of things I want to say right now. Is the Ravens pick is already in, so that pick 14, whoever they wanted, is still there. First thing I want to mention is Drake London being the first receiver. Drake, the rapper, actually bet on that and won because he bet on his namesake being the first receiver taken. So smart choice. Part 2, you know one of Drake's more famous lyrics, back to back. Well, we just saw 2 Ohio State receivers go back to back, and looking at the Ravens, I wouldn't be surprised to see Devontae Wyatt going here for another back to back as well too, as far as players, because that's a very Ravens pick as we look at their team needs. D-line, linebacker, O-line, and D-line being emphasized in that first one, anywhere along the D-line.
Yeah.
For an uncharacteristically 25th ranked defense last year. I know injuries ravaged that team, especially in the secondary. I know offensively they were weirdly explosive, led almost exclusively by Mark Andrews throughout the entire season. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking at Devontae Wyatt or George Karlaftis here, just for the same reasons we mentioned as well. George Karlaftis, put him anywhere on the line. Devontae Wyatt, put him anywhere on the line, and you got a playmaker.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I definitely like the George Karlaftis pick most, but Devontae Wyatt would not shock me. And again, I keep looking at Jordan Davis right now. First of all, I questioned whether Roger Goodell was really ready for that bear hug that he just got, because I think he might have broke a couple ribs. I hope he has some padding there, because he definitely did grab to his rib cage as that man bear hugged him. Also, I don't think they had a big enough jersey for Jordan Davis ready.
Not at all. They did not. They did not have a blanket on standby. But here, I'm going to throw this one out there because you've been hammering home. I think the Ravens are going Kyle Hamilton. That's where I'm going to slide the money to, because I look at what they did this offseason. You have your 2 corners in Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey coming back healthy. You signed Marcus Williams, a fantastically underrated safety. You're in a division with Joe Burrow and Deshaun Watson and Jamar Chase and Amari Cooper. Why not throw in your boy Kyle Hamilton at pick number 14? Let him just be that versatile weapon that you've been talking about as well, too. And just the Ravens look at that division like, you know what? We might not necessarily outscore them, but we will outrush them, and we will stop them defensively. So, you know what? I'm going to change it from D-line. I'm going to say they just go out. They do a very Ravens thing and take the best player on the board at safety, Kyle Hamilton, because they've been doing that since they came into existence. They just take the best player on the board and make it work. So give me Kyle Hamilton here at 14.
Yeah. Okay. So I think there's caveats we have to talk about this. Every time we've talked about this Ravens pick at 14, neither of us had Kyle Hamilton on the board still.
We did not, but at the same time.
And to your point, I think this is a situation where if you're the Ravens, you absolutely do take the number 1 pick, number one of best available in Kyle Hamilton. But I still look at your need first. And that D-line overall need, it's like, is it Kyle Hamilton? Possibly, but that's not a D lineman. So then what about Devontae Wyatt? Well, maybe, but is he better than George Karlaftis currently? No, George Karlaftis comes in as a better pro ready. Is George Karlaftis a better long-term option than Devontae Wyatt?
That is a question. And are you bringing the D-line as a pass rusher or as a run stopper? If you want to stop the run, I lean towards Devontae Wyatt. If you just want to chase Joe Burrow, then George Karlaftis is your safer pick in that one because you do have Calais Campbell's big self still. You do have Adafe Oweh's 4-3 running self on the edge as well. So I think you can't go really wrong with either way, but I'm sticking with Kyle Hamilton because that is a very, very Ravens pick the more I look at it.
And look, we've talked about the Legion of Boom with Seattle before. How awesome would it be to see the Ravens go back to being able to run a too-high safety system with guys like Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton. And then occasionally you want to drop a guy in a box?
You bring down Kyle Hamilton, you have Marcus Williams sitting there as that single high safety. It doesn't get much better than that as a single high safety. A guy who is dramatically underrated because of that the Minnesota Miracle when he was a rookie against Stephon Diggs. Not just any receiver, Stephon Diggs. And he has one.
And it wasn't even him that messed up the coverage.
Well, he's the one who missed the tackles. I'm saying,
yeah, he missed the tackle.
He's the one who tried to go underneath and kind of failed.
But PJ Williams,
you got to get back. You got to get depth if you're PJ Williams. You got to be back 30 yards in that situation.
PJ Williams definitely missed the memo.
And the pick is in for the Baltimore Ravens as we were waiting to get for the selection. I do want to point out we saw a run of receivers, and then everyone started trading up for defense as well too. As the Ravens pick is in, and they are going to select Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame. So. You know what? I'm going to let you take the floor of this one because that is your guy. Take it away, guy.
I have been waiting for Kyle Hamilton to get off this board since pick number 3. And the biggest reason why is this guy is a generational talent. And we talked about you can roll him down in the box. He's a film junkie. And honestly, you look at him, look at his physical stats, he's Cam Chancellor. Like 100%, this guy is Cam Chancellor physically. But ball skills-wise, he does have the ball skills of a much smaller safety, like an Earl Thomas. So if you read my big board, you know what I was saying. Like, he can get side to side very well, but he requires a too high coverage to be best.
Okay, I'm going to give you more time to talk Kyle Hamilton, but I got 2 things to say real quick. 1, the Texans pick is already in at 15. 2, the Ravens are making a trade and sending Hollywood Brown to the Cardinals. I do not know what they're getting back in return, but Hollywood is heading to Arizona with Kyler Murray. And that team just got absolutely asininely quick adding Hollywood Brown to mix in. With the Ravens, that's got to mean they might be drafting a receiver. I don't know what they got in return yet, but that is an interesting pick to look at, to say the least.
Okay, hold on. What?
All right, the Cardinals are trading pick number 23 to the Ravens for pick 100 and Hollywood Brown. So the Ravens coming back into the first round, and the Ravens saying we are not paying Hollywood Brown and sending him off to Arizona. So holy cow, the Ravens just exploded on the world in 5 seconds. All hell is officially starting to break loose.
Okay, Ravens, I'm going to have to talk to you. Are you guys practicing for draft day? Is this draft day 2? Are we having draft day 2 tryouts right now? Like, is that what this draft is? Like, is that what we're creating as the new draft day movie?
I wonder what they saw, if there's like somebody receiver-wise they think will be available at 23 in that spot as well, too. I am curious what they have going in mind. So that's an interesting one as the Texans pick is, and we are waiting on it. But now that we got that out of the way, sorry, that just kind of dropped on me. Texans are up. We already saw first pick, they obviously made the smart move there. They took Derek Stingley, a top-tier corner. Have worked their way back out a few extra picks here. Pick number 15. What are you feeling for Houston? They were pretty quick with this one. What are you feeling? Good luck taking a guess here.
Are you going to trade back again, this time with Green Bay?
Nope, that says the pick is already in, so there's no movement today.
Okay, all right. So in this case, well, my big brain is still contemplating all of this. Okay, hold on. I have to go back to this Arizona trade, because this is just messing with me. They just put Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown on the same team. Both guys who have been rumored to be talking with FaZe Clan about moving into more gaming centralized things in the offseason.
Yeah, pretty much. This was done on purpose, and no one will tell me otherwise.
First question is are they hosting a Madden tournament? Because if so, I don't want to be a part of it.
If so, can I be a part of it? I want the smoke.
I don't want that smoke. Secondly, that's just an insane combination. Okay, moving on from that now. Now Houston's on the board. Again, you need a lot of things. I'm surprised they moved back from 13 because you had a lot of things available for you. You now no longer have Kyle Hamilton. You don't have Jordan Davis. You don't have any of those receivers. But that's okay because you still have Brandon Cooks. You do have, though, are a couple offensive linemen sitting there.
Ooh, you went a different direction than I was going to go.
I think this is the direction you're thinking of, is where my butt's about to go.
Okay, good.
There's a linebacker there who is an absolute freak of nature in Nakobe Dean, and I think that's I think that's where you go.
You know what? I like that one, and we agreed Nakobe Dean is the better linebacker, but I think they look at Devin Lloyd, and I thought about it more. I think Lovie Smith likes both of them, but I think Devin Lloyd, I think what he offers is that I think they might go towards. I think we're right either way. I think both of them are Lovie Smith type linebackers as well. So I don't think you can go wrong either way.
If it is Devin Lloyd, let me just say it makes sense because my pro comp was Zach Cunningham.
And they went Kenyon Green. So they went with offensive linemen as well, too, and a guard. So you know what? You can't really fault them for trying to build something in front of Davis Mills, but I am surprised to see that Kenyon Green as the first interior offensive lineman off the board.
As a Madden user who uses Davis Mills, all you need is an offensive line. That man will make things happen.
That being said, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm surprised they didn't go with Tyler Linderbaum. If you're going to go interior offensive line, I know you can't really go wrong with Kenyon Green. I got nothing. There's nothing bad to say there, but the Commanders are on the clock and the pick is in just like that. So there's something there the Commanders liked, and they sprinted that card in. So we'll be waiting for them for what their pick announcement is. But I'm going to go back to this Kenyon Green pick. One thing I really, really like about this pick, he is a mauler when it comes to run blocking as well too. He is the definition of a run first type of offensive lineman. You get him downhill and watch him eat. That division, you kind of have to run the ball. It is mandatory. When you have Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, and honestly, you just you got to find a way to keep them off the field. Houston, you got to find a way to run the ball and keep things going. So I really like this pick. I would have maybe went another direction, but they're building something. They're at this point, they know they got a long ways to go. When you're 32nd and 31st are your rankings as you see here. So you know what? Yeah, interesting pick, but I'm cool with it. I'm gonna let it. I'm cool with it. Doesn't do anything for me fantasy wise, but I'm cool with it.
Yeah, look, I look at this as from a couple standpoints. You needed to get your run game going. It makes sense to go Kenyon Green over Zion Johnson. I still think Tyler Linderbaum would have been a better overall pick for the same concept, for getting your run game going. But at the same time, Kenyon Green is a guy who early on in this draft process was a top 20 guy. Slid down boards once you saw his combine. And he wasn't as strong. He wasn't as long. His hands were a little small. This dude gets his hands on you in a run block. You're not getting rid of him. Period.
Not at all. Once he's engaged, it's over. Like once he's engaged, you are locked in. It is a literal ball and chain. Like once you're engaged, it's over.
Either the whistle blows or you hit the ground. Those are your two options with this man when he's engaged. So I understand it. And then this is also the aspect of Houston going one side early on, the second side later. Like you go defense, offense type of picks. And I don't hate it, but I don't know. You could have filled a better hole.
I'm intrigued because they sprinted that card up there pretty quickly. So this was their guy. I think this is what they had in mind. So I am intrigued. They must have saw something with him they really, really like. And the fact that he's a local Texas kid. We joked about in the mock draft about Jerry Jones keeping him in Texas as well too when you had the Cowboys draft him. So maybe the Texans follow that philosophy as well too. As we are still waiting for the Commanders pick to be announced, and I'm going to kind of defer this one to you. If you're the Commanders, what are you thinking here at pick number 16? A lot of the guys we kind of projected to go with them aren't available, but they do got some pretty good options still out there.
Is this the time where Pittsburgh trades up?
Well, the pick's already in, so there won't be.
Oh, okay. In that case, never mind. Is this the time where they take Malik Willis?
You think the Commanders take Malik Willis and just kind of?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Meanwhile, Carson Wentz has left the chat.
Yeah, instantly lost all Carson Wentz fans. I mean, this is interesting because again, you could take a linebacker here and it makes a lot of sense.
Pair Nakobe Dean with Jamin Davis as those two. Oh boy,
absolutely,
that's terrifying.
You could potentially go George Karlaftis. It wouldn't make as much sense.
It would be on brand though. But a defensive lineman in the first round.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you would then have a front line of Chase Young, Montez Sweat, George Karlaftis on the edges with
Deron Payne
and Payne and
Jonathan Allen.
Jonathan Allen, thank you, in the middle. And I don't think you can go wrong with that either. You just kind of would have to figure out when Karlaftis comes in.
I mean, a couple years ago, they had the 5 because you had Ryan Kerrigan in there. I guess they just want to rebuild that a little bit, I guess. I don't know. But I really thought Kyle Hamilton would be a good pick here for Washington. But we'll see what they have in mind. I also don't hate the idea of maybe Trevor Penning or maybe just bringing in one of those offensive linemen as well, too.
I honestly just don't know any. This is where it's gotten so confusing. Is it so? I expected them to already be off the board. Like, I expected Washington to not be picking this late and having the limited picks as far as positionally that what they need.
Mm-hmm.
And here they are just sitting there, just like, all right, well, offensive line, safety, wide receiver, your receivers are gone. Your number one safety's gone. Offensive line, unless you're going to take Zion Johnson right here, which is a complete possibility, which I would not be surprised. That'd be other than that, now you're going to pick something that you don't need.
You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say they go with what I mocked them doing in our mock draft we did. I'm going to say they go with Trent McDuffie, the corner, the versatile nickel type corner that they could move all over the field. Who could honestly, you could plug and play him at safety and he'll be an outstanding safety. So I'm going to go with Trent McDuffie. I'm just with the over under for corners I think it was at 4. So you know what? Let's go ahead and let's make it number 3 and get us closer to that number as well too. So that's what I'm going to roll with.
I think we'll still hit the 4 easily
100%
without this being one.
There's still plenty of options out there as well too. And I do want to point out too, when we talked about Malik Willis, surprised nobody has taken the reach on him as well too, because he is the favorite for the first quarterback taken at minus 190 odds. And when you look at the teams that were favored to draft him, Pittsburgh was clearly number 1 and New Orleans was number 2, I believe. And I'm surprised. And so far, it looks like he might just drop all the way down to Pittsburgh there at their pick. Actually, the Lions were number 2 at plus 350, excuse me. So you know what? This might be like what the Patriots got with Mac Jones last year, where their guy just drops all the way down to them. Right now, the Commanders' pick is in at number 16. They are going to go with Jahan Dotson, the receiver out of Penn State. You know what? I didn't think they'd go with the receiver, but I love this pick. I love what Jahan Dotson brings to the team to pair along with Terry McLaurin and squad.
Wow. That is all I have for trading back to get this pick. Huge pick with Jahan Dotson, first of all.
Hold on, I'm cutting you off again. We got another trade. The Eagles are trading for A.J. Brown. Tennessee is now picking number 18. So you may continue again, but I hate to cut
How do
you
I
off.
Continue after that breaking news?
I'm just dropping it all on your head right now. There's a whole lot going on right now as well too, but I'm going to go back to this one as well too. Jahan Dotson, I love the receiver. I had him as receiver 5, I believe. Right now he went as receiver number 5. This is I love this pick. I love this pick for him. So this is a great pick for Washington. Carson Wentz is going to have a lot of fun with him and Terry McLaurin.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Jahan Dotson is a very fun pick. And look, we saw what he could do against a pressure corner like Roger McCreary, who, by the way, did a great job against Jahan Dotson for a good part of the game. That second half hit, though, and Jahan Dotson took another level and said, "Hold my beer, kid. I'm going to teach you a little something." And his ability to climb and reach the peak of his jump at the peak of the ball is second to none in this draft. And I say that with Drake London in this draft.
I do want to point out he's a smaller guy, which I think is part of the reason he dropped. But his game, there's not really weaknesses. It's that he's small. This is a weird comparison, especially because he's going to play with Carson Wentz. He reminds me of T.Y. Hilton, but a little more polished coming out as well, too. Yeah. Small guy who climbs deep, like you mentioned. He gets deep, but has underrated route running and ball skills. And you get the ball in their hands, and oh, boy, here we go. So,
honestly, he reminds me of Steve Smith a lot. Like, it's one that it's really kind of came a lot lately.
A little bit less gangster, Steve Smith.
A little less gangster, but still, wow.
Yeah, and you know what? The Chargers now on the clock. Their selection was quick. Their selection is up. And let's see who they decide to go with as well, too. We didn't even get a chance to make our predictions on this one, but looks like they're going with Zion Johnson. And you know what? I know you love this pick, so I'm going to let you go.
Yay. No, this is fantastic because you sit here and look at this one, and Zion Johnson climbed up a lot of boards this offseason, and rightfully so. This is an intelligent offensive lineman. He slid from tackle to guard with ease, and you don't just do that. And they already talked about moving guys inside. Well, guess what? You get a guy that's already meant to move inside and can play an emergency right tackle. You feel fine about this. And if you absolutely need him to, he'll take a few snaps for you during the season.
Absolutely. And I do want to kind of point out there another thing that he does offer as well, too. You mentioned he could play all that, but he's going to help Austin Eckler in that run game to help Austin Eckler, help Justin Herbert out so they don't have to sling it all over the yard all the time. So he's going to help you get a run game going. So I like this one. They didn't overdo it with the tackle. You have Corey Lindley, your all-pro caliber center. You have Rashawn Slater, your future all-pro left tackle. Now you got a guard like this as well, too. You got each position across the line counter. If you put Zion Johnson on the opposite side of Rashawn Slater, you're building something there. You're building something.
Yeah, the only thing that's that actually stood out to me on tape that might worry me at the next level. And it's a very small thing, and it's something because he was a previous tackle. If you notice his 2-point stances, they're very tackle-esque as far as in pass pro. And it's something that maybe he needs to work on, maybe separating his feet a little more, get a little wider base to start. But it's something that'll work itself out in the wash, especially with him being at a next level with the guys he has on the offensive line with him.
Absolutely as well, too. And I do want to point out the Jets actually rejected a trade for the 49ers involving Deebo Samuel for the 10th pick right before taking Garrett Wilson. So my prediction was on the board, but it was actually rejected by the Jets. So I don't know. It doesn't say what the 49ers were offering.
Blasphemy, Jets.
They probably, you know what, the 49ers were probably asking for both seconds, a first this year and a first next year. They probably went absolutely ballistic with it as well, too. So there is a chance for that. But as we mentioned, A.J. Brown heading to the Eagles. Very interesting because him and Jalen Hurts were working out for the last few days as well, too. So they will be getting their big play receiver in the Eagles, who went from 3 first-round picks to just 1. Interesting how that kind of worked out. But you have 2 next year. And the Titans,
I wonder how his tummy is going to handle all these Phillies. These Philly cheesesteaks. He can barely handle Chipotle.
It's different. The Chipotle, it sits there. The problem is cheesesteaks go down and they get out quickly. Like they don't sit and linger.
Man, I hope he doesn't get food poisoning from Philly cheesesteaks now, except for when they play the Cowboys.
You know what's gonna be fun is watching him and Trayvon Diggs go head to head as well too. Because AJ Brown doesn't. He's a big boy. He's gonna run right at him.
No, that's not gonna be fun.
It's gonna be funny, I guess. But no. That's a very interesting. What I like about that pick is we kind of talked about when we had them taking a receiver in our mock draft. He is the opposite of Devontae Smith, which is exactly what you need. Devontae Smith, clean, smooth, route runner, fast, evasive. AJ Brown, he's a raging bull basically. He's a good route runner, but he's big, he's strong, and he's kind of menacing a little bit as well too. Honestly, like he's Karl Anthony Towns running down the paint. I'm gonna go back to that one as well too. Where good luck everybody in the way.
Yeah, too bad Karl Anthony Towns doesn't do that enough in his career.
He does. The problem is he gets a charging foul every damn time.
It's true. I digress though. It takes away a lot of like what my mock draft was last night, where I had Chris Olave going to the Titans, which I thought was a great pick. Obviously, Chris Olave just went off the board, and now AJ Green's not there. But what it does is accomplish the same thing, the same reason I wanted Chris Olave to go to the Titans, which is now you get that big body, thick receiver that can take a top off and be physical with any corner, and the nuclear get open man in Devontae Smith. Plus, on top of that, you have Quez Watkins out there, who is just, talk about a guy who's just pure speed. You put him out there, he's like Sonic the Hedgehog, just catching all the rings, except for, unfortunately, he'll walk out of bounds before he gets to the end zone. So this Eagles team is definitely setting up Jalen Hurts for all the success. If he can't be successful this year, next year you probably replace him. But talk about a playoff team in the NFC East potentially repeating for the first time. Well, you might have had it with the Eagles here.
It is very interesting as the Titans pick is in. We were waiting for the official announcement. I want to point out the over-under for receivers in the first round was 5.5. We already got 5, and we're at pick number 18. So it's a deep receiver class. It's maybe not the best receiver class of recent, but I think it might be the deepest when you look at it. Like last year, you obviously had Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith at the top, and then it got still pretty good the rest of the way, but that was the top was the cream of the crop. The year before that, when you had Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, and some other ones was pretty good, obviously. Justin Jefferson, the highlight of that class. I think this one you have 12 to 13 guys that could potentially have a top 2 round grade on them as well, too. I think in my big board, I had 11 personally.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of receivers that had potential to be up here. I left a few off my board because I also included a lot of corners and edge rushers. Mm-hmm. So that's why there weren't as many. And actually linebackers as well. Yeah. But you look at here, so they lost a 18th overall and a third round pick.
For
That's
AJ Brown.
It?
And they did re-sign AJ Brown to an extension, 4 years, $100 million, 57 guaranteed. So AJ Brown got his cheese. The Eagles got their big play receiver while they're on a cheap quarterback deal. And you know what? The Titans, they got some leeway as well, too. So if they want to rebuild. And interesting enough, who really likes this trade is the AFC South. When they look at the Titans as well, too. They're looking at this like, oh, that is one less monster we have to worry about when he is out there as well.
Every AFC South team who doesn't have a primary outside corner is excited. And yes, I'm looking directly at the Colts.
What about Stephon Gilmore?
Well, okay, I didn't think about that considering he.
Well, it makes Stephon Gilmore's job a lot easier because he doesn't have to deal with AJ Brown now. So here's the pick is in for the Titans. Putting you on the hot seat real quickly. Who do they take?
Tyler Linderbaum. I honestly don't know. at this point in time. You know what? George Karlaftis.
You know what? I'm going to go out on a very, very far limb here. They need offensive line, receiver, tight end is what we look at. I think they're going to go with Treylon Burks, a guy who reminds me a lot of A.J. Brown as well, too. So you know what? I'm going to say they did it looking for a cheaper A.J. Brown with Treylon Burks, a guy who – and they still have their pick coming up here at like 26 or whatever it is as well, too. So I think that might be where they go offensive line or pass rusher.
Are there any A.J. Brown jerseys right there? I just need to check.
That's Kevin Byard and Derrick Henry. Does anyone actually own it? I mean, it's Kevin Byard and Derrick Henry's town. I don't think anyone actually owns it.
That's fair. I mean, I have a Derrick Henry jersey.
That's all you need to know as well, too.
It should be actually right here. This, if I set it up right.
Keep an eye out for our next podcast or live stream when we talk about this as well. So you'll definitely get to see that Derrick Henry jersey. But the Titans pick is in. We were waiting for the commissioner to show up with the announcement as well, too. And yep, that's a Jonnu Smith jersey, if I'm not mistaken, as well, too. So there really is no A.J. Brown jersey out there. I was kidding. But
there's even a Spider-Man Titans themed jersey or uniform.
Absolutely. As now the pick is in for the Titans. The commissioner is at the podium. The Titans, after trading away A.J. Brown to the Eagles, they are going to take at pick number 18. Let's see who this pick is going to be. I'm leaning towards Treylon Burks, and they went with Treylon Burks. They actually did stick with that one. I didn't actually believe they would do it, but so the Titans getting mini A.J. Brown here at pick number 18 with 5 years of not having to pay him as much. So interesting pick. You kind of this reminds me of the Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson trade, just on a much, much lower scale, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to say, I've never been the biggest fan of Treylon Burks. I think
by anyone who doesn't believe that, just take a look at your big board.
Yeah, well, okay, he's not even on my top 50, and there's a big reason why. If you look at his comparisons you put on his board, number one being Josh Gordon, well, he fizzled out of the league for his own mistakes. But Treylon Burks, to me, he's so inconsistent. He did well against teams he should do well against. He didn't look great against teams that he needed to perform well against.
I will say, too, I think his route tree is very, very limited. He's going to have to work on that. I know they like the Debo comparison, like you throw him the screen and watch him go 60 yards. They're showing that highlight now. That's great. But that doesn't mean Debo can do that. Debo can also hand the ball to him, brings a little bit more. Treylon Burks is the big body. I think the route tree has to work on a little bit as well. And I think the deep ball, he's obviously fast, but I don't know about just throw it up, he out there somewhere, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's necessarily a strong suit.
I don't know if he's fast enough.
He's a yak guy, that is for sure. He's definitely a yak guy. Once he gets going downhill, nobody wants to tackle him. That's why I picked A.J. Brown, is they're showing A.J. Brown do A.J. Brown things. So that's why I stuck with that one as well, too. So I like that comparison. I don't like the Debo one personally. That's the one that that irks me a little bit.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to compare him to Debo, you have to take the first 3 years of Debo's career into account, where those first 3 years were not great.
Yeah, last year was really bad for him. His rookie year, he had promising flashes, but not a whole lot there as well, too. And then last year, injuries not quite there. This year, that lucky 3 years, third time was the charm with him.
If I think he's going to be like Debo, it's going to take 3-4 years to get there. I do think that's the point. I just don't like saying, oh, he's going to be Debo like Debo was this last season. No. Debo, you have to take the bad with the good with Debo, because that's a lot of what you're going to get with Treylon Burks. And that's what worries me with this entire thing. And I don't hate the pick. I just don't love it.
Absolutely as well, too. And I do want to point out the Saints are now on the clock at 19. And you know what? There's talks about them trading up for a quarterback, all this sort of talking. Well, they're right here sitting there. They're sitting there with the option, and they're now 6 receivers taken. So that does pass the 5.5. And so the Saints, maybe they make
plus 2 trades.
Plus 2 trades as well, too. 2 guys named Brown with no Browns in the first round. Very interesting how that looks. So Saints with 2 minutes down on the clock. I mean, they're
a team who could use another receiver.
That exactly as well, too. A team that in tomorrow's second round will probably be looking as the pick is in for the Saints. You know what? I'm going to ask you now. Offensive line, receiver, quarterback. We've seen them take Chris Olave, so they got receiver knocked out pretty comfortably. What are your thoughts on with the Saints pick, knowing what is left on the board?
You remember the reason we talked about Jermaine Johnson? Because it'd be really fun to see him and Cam Jordan.
You want to see Jermaine Johnson go with this pick?
I kind of want to see Jermaine Johnson go. Well, not Jermaine Johnson, but George Karlaftis.
I kind of like Jermaine Johnson. I'm not going to lie. I like that one as well, too. I like the idea of Trevor Penning or Tyler Linderbaum or an offensive lineman here just to bolster these. You did lose Teron Armstead. Maybe get his predecessor to go with Ryan Ramczyk. I don't hate the idea of taking him here because you don't have to reach for him here. This is about where he should go.
Yeah, there's an offensive lineman that you have on your board, then absolutely take him.
Absolutely. Maybe it was Zion Johnson, and since the 2 guards are gone, that might be it. I do want to point out to you, which is something kind of interesting. We saw 2 guards go before the 4th best tackle as well, too. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well. Normally, the guards go towards the end of the first round unless they're Quentin Nelson or Zach Martin, a left tackle, converting the guard. But we saw 2 pretty much true guards go in the top 20. So as a former offensive lineman, how's that making you feel right now, seeing guards get some love and 5 offensive linemen in the first 20 picks?
Linemen are athletes too. That's the best I can say. I think there's always a few drafts every decade where there's a rotation of linemen, and it is one of the best things to see the different skill sets of offensive linemen. And we've seen it. There's a lot of different linemen that have been drafted so far. You talk about there's been 2 guards drafted. They're completely different. One's a pass pro guard. One's a rush heavy guard. And that's completely different than Ike Okonwu, Evan Neal, guys like that, where Charles Cross, where they're all 3 different. And Evan Neal does them all well. Nothing exceptional.
He's a jack of many trades, but a master of none.
Exactly. Then you have Ike, who is a fantastic run blocker.
He's a murderer, basically.
Yeah. And then Charles Cross is fantastic in pass blocking, but he's still above average run blocking. Like, it's very unique to see all these different skill levels, and it's embarrassing when people are like, oh, it's not the pretty pick to take a lineman. You know what? It may not be pretty, but it's going to make your quarterback and your running back and your receivers that you pay so much money look really damn good on Sunday.
Absolutely, as well, too. You're still waiting for the Saints pick to come in as well, too. You know what? I'm gonna go with that Jermaine Johnson pick. I'm gonna hammer that one home as well, too. As Cody, lineman lives matter. That's a good way to put it.
This is where my catchphrase of the credentials are in the waistband comes into handy, along with respect the tum-tum.
The waistline does not lie as well, too, as we are still waiting for the pick for the Saints to be announced as well, too. I'm putting the money on Jermaine Johnson. That's who I'm going to stick with. He's, in my opinion, that he's the best player on the board. It makes sense. Go get Tom Brady, athletic freak, and with Cameron Jordan close to retiring, Marcus Davenport's contract coming up, I'm sticking Jermaine Johnson. Real quick, who do you got?
I'm going George Karlaftis.
All right, so we're both going along the same vein as well, too, as the Saints pick is up. Roger Goodell is announcing it, and it looks like they're going to go with Trevor Penning. So, all right, they did actually go after it.
The man who was quoted as saying he loves to maul people. And you know what? That celebration right there is what it's all about.
You know, I said it at the very top of our soliloquy with the Saints, and you know what? This is a good pick. We talked about them getting him at like 15, 16 or something like that. Getting here is a really, really good pick. And that's quite the offensive line you have going right now as well, too. 6'7", 325, Ryan Ramczyk on the other side. Jameis Winston and Alvin Kamara, if he plays, are both going to like that a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And Trevor Penning, you talk about a guy who is just wildly athletic. This guy used to be small. Like when I say small, I mean sub 6 foot, sub 200 pounds. He came to his first experience on UNI's campus wearing a punter's jersey in his picture, and it fit him well.
Yeah, that's not even gonna fit him as a shoulder sleeve anymore at this point,
Exactly.
or like an elbow sleeve at this point. It's a whole new game, and I want to point out too. They showed some of the highlights. You can use him as a pulling tackle, which is something unique as well in the run game. Not just like we talk about pulling guards and trapping guards a lot. You can literally pull him on a toss to the exact same side, or even the backside counter as well. So his athleticism with his size is gonna be a lot of fun in the Saints running game. And you know what? It's the pick you dreaded. The Steelers pick here at number 20. Malik Willis is still on the board, and is there really any other direction for them to go at this point? Like,
no, this pick should already be in.
In fact, the reason that the Steelers haven't actually taken it is kind of concerning to me why we haven't seen it. There's also Kenny Pickett, the local Pittsburgh kid, as well too. So that is always an interesting option to look at as well too. So like you have the local kid who literally practices on the same field as the Steelers, or you have Malik Willis, the apple of Mike Tomlin's eye. So this is
not just practices. He plays on the same field too.
Well, they practice in the same facility is what I'm thinking. Like they use a lot of the same facilities.
Oh yeah, he literally has to move his locker 300 feet.
Basically, which is he could literally throw his stuff from his locker. He could literally just sling it as well. And the pick is in for the Steelers. We're waiting for the announcement here to come through, but they will not be trading back. So the trades have taken at least a little bit of a slowdown for us. Give us a minute to breathe here. So I think we're
the Patriots.
Yeah, that's where it's going to get real interesting. But I agree with you. I think it's really going to be a receiver. I can't see who else it'd be. Yeah, not a receiver. I think it's going to be Malik Willis. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at some of these draft boards remaining as well too, but I don't see who else they could take here at this point. I mean,
it's either Malik or it's Kenny Pickett.
Sorry, that's right. Yeah, quarterback.
At this point in time, it's meant to be. The fact that they have talked about being the landing place for Malik Willis, and you were all like, how are you going to climb up 20 spots to get Malik Willis with little to no assets?
Oh, this is how everyone.
This is how we're going to see all sorts of craziness, and it's going to result in the one guy that you're not expecting to slip all the way to their front door.
I also want to kind of point out to you, this is eerily similar to the Mac Jones situation with the Patriots last year. Everyone said, "Oh, Mac Jones, the Patriots, it's a perfect fit." Like that's all we heard. When are they going to go get him? When are they going to go get him? But when are they going to trade up? What's going to happen? Well, they just kind of fell right into their lap, and they didn't hesitate twice, and they got their quarterback for the next 15 years. So if this has a weird feeling, you got the ultimate bridge quarterback for Malik Willis and Mitch Trubisky as well too. Who don't be surprised if Mitch could ball out this year. We'll see. I mean, there's some holes on that team, but an athletic kid, a lot of skill set as well too. Not quite the talent as Malik Willis, but a similar type of skill set. So with just crank Malik Willis crank him up to 11, and you got Malik Willis with the arm strength and stuff. So
yeah, Malik Willis is fun. Mitch Trubisky, I think, is actually going to surprise some people this year, and especially if that offensive line plays the way it did in the second half of the season, where it started to gel together and actually work well. It could give Mitch more than 0.7 seconds to have a pass route. He won't have to rely on what Big Ben had to rely on, which is hike the ball and don't grab it by anything and just throw it. Like hope that the ball doesn't slip out of your hand and it gets to its target.
Yeah, absolutely. As well too, as the pick is in, we are still waiting on the Steelers pick as well. I do want to point out you got Najee Harris in the backfield as well too. Like offensive line is a good pick here. Problem is the only option is really Tyler Linderbaum, and I think they're okay at centers with Kendrick Green, who they recently drafted. So center's really the one part of the offensive line they're probably pretty comfortable with right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going offensive line here, it wouldn't surprise me to see Darian Kinnard out of Kentucky or maybe Bernard Ryman. There's a couple other, but I don't know if you reach this early.
Like there are guys you might be better off trading back or grabbing in the second round or something at that point. Like here's a crazy idea. Jermaine Johnson to go opposite of TJ Watt.
I don't want to watch football anymore.
Or George Karlaftis, since you compare.
I don't want to watch football anymore.
Just make that defense absolutely insane.
Oh, so you're going to put new JJ Watt with JJ Watt's actual younger brother.
Pretty much, yeah. JJ Watt's better half with JJ Watt's other half is what we're saying.
Yeah, that'd be insane.
There's some interesting options here for the Steelers. I think if we're putting our Vegas money on the table, it sounds like we're both going Malik Willis all the way, though, it feels like.
Oh, yes.
And I will say, if they do go Malik Willis, I would be considering, looking at Najee Harris in fantasy even more so as well, too, because I think him and Malik Willis would have a lot of fun with read option type of things as well like that, too. The mobile quarterback will open things up a lot for the running back. So,
I hate last year when we did this prep, I joked about Najee Harris, and then I talked about, maybe if Big Ben leaves, maybe there would be that fun moment where you get Malik Willis and they just run out read options all the time. I would have said that completely jokingly, not expecting it to ever come close to fruition.
You secretly want it to come to fruition, though.
And here it is. We have our moment where if they take Malik Willis, my first play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm putting money on it as soon as I can. They're going to run an RPO.
I know I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Mike Tomlin's screwing with us. He's going to go with Kenny Pickett. I don't know why I'm feeling it, though.
I wouldn't surprise me in the least. Like, at the same time, like, as much as I love Malik Willis, like, Kenny Pickett wouldn't surprise me.
It makes too much sense that it's something that Mike Tomlin and the Steelers would do to mess with us as well, too.
Hometown hero. It's a concept every athlete dreams about.
They're going to take Trent McDuffie or something like that, too. They're going to go completely out of it as well, too. They're going to do the Jermaine Johnson or maybe Nakobe Dean, too, to pair him with a Devin.
I'd love that.
Or even Devin Lloyd, something like that. Like, they got some fun options here. And you have Brian Flores, the new linebacker coach there as well, too. You give him someone like Nakobe Dean to go with Devin Bush. Good luck, everybody else. They'll feel pretty good in that situation as well. So right now, Franco Harris is announcing the pick as well, which is kind of ironic when you think about the immaculate reception against the Raiders way back in the day. So underrated troll job here unintentionally. So the Steelers pick is in. Franco Harris getting ready to announce it as well. And they went with Kenny Pickett. So they went with the quarterback, the hometown kid, moving all of 18 feet. And I'm not going to lie, I love this pick. I really, really love this pick. I know Malik Willis was the one that makes sense, but I really like what Kenny Pickett could bring with these receivers, like Deontay Johnson, who can get open quickly, and Chase Claypool, you just kind of put it up in his vicinity. I really like this Kenny Pickett pick.
Okay, first of all, I love Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett. I think this is a situation where it's just too hard not to take the hometown kid. And it makes a lot of sense. I also have to say, though, you need to work on that offensive line.
Yeah, you got to help him out. Don't make him run for his life.
Because Kenny Pickett, we already talked about it. I worry about his tendency to drift out of the pocket. Thankfully, he does have that tendency because he's going to need it to stay alive next year.
I'm curious, though. You have Mitch Trubisky as the bridge quarterback. Do they maybe plan on sitting Kenny Pickett, which he felt like the quarterback least needing to sit this year, if that makes sense? Obviously, sitting will always help, but I am intrigued by that because you mentioned he's going to have to roll a lot. They're even showing the highlights. He throws the ball well while on the move. You just don't want him to be on the move as well. Just because he can, you would prefer him not to. Like, he's incredibly creative. I like honestly, using graphics very similar to the comparisons we made with him as well, too. And the more I think about it, I think the AFC North just kind of catapulted itself as it's going to, not this year, but the following year, it might take over the AFC West as the best division if Kenny Pickett now on the Steelers. And you look at just those teams in that division.
I think every fan of an AFC North team that's not the Pittsburgh fan immediately sees this draft pick and they're like, yay, we have 1 year of freedom. And then what's going to happen is Kenny Pickett's going to take over at some point in time. And they're going to immediately be like, and we couldn't even get 2 seasons without getting beaten up.
You know who's really going to like this pick, and I'm going to hammer back home? Najee freaking Harris, because Kenny Pickett will throw the check down. He goes through his reads in the defense really, really effectively, especially for a young quarterback. By the way, we do have a trade. I'm going to get to that in a moment. I think Najee Harris as a receiver is going to be effective as the Kansas City Chiefs making a trade with the Patriots to climb all the way up.
How? Wait, what?
The Chiefs now climbing up to pick number 21. So it looks like the Patriots made a deal with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I want to know what Kansas City has in mind here. I'm really curious because the receiver run kind of went through. Is there something they have in mind here? They wanted to jump Green Bay. That's my only thought is they had to jump Green Bay. As the pick is already in. Kansas City sees their guy. They want him. You know what, Kelsey? We didn't even really get to finish the great Kenny Pickett pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers, or Kenny Pitt, as some people are probably going to call him now. I'm just going to go straight to you with this one. Kansas City's on the clock, 3rd in offense, 27th in defense. They need receiver, corner, and linebacker. Emphasis on receiver. What's your gut feeling?
Nakobe Dean.
You think they climbed all the way up for Nakobe Dean, huh?
I think I'm more shocked that they made a deal with the Sith Empire.
And I'm not surprised the Sith Empire traded back, but I am surprised they did with the Chiefs, unless they did get both of those first-round picks, maybe. But this is interesting. As they're talking about Kenny Pickett's hands, I'm going to ignore that because I think we both are kind of in agreement.
Oh, my God.
Kenny Pickett's hand size is the least of our concerns. I think you and I can agree on that one, right?
Kenny Pickett's hand size is as big of an issue as, I don't know, how many gray hairs I have. Like, it just doesn't matter.
Okay, that's fair. That's not where I was going to go with it. My comparison was going to be you look at quarterbacks with small hands in the NFL, like a Jared Goff. He fumbles a little bit. Their biggest concern is fumbles. Carson Wentz has mammoth hands, and he's a fumbling machine. So it's 6 and 1 and half a dozen the other. If TJ Watt hits you and you don't see him coming, you're going to fumble more often than not. Especially they smack the ball and you don't see it. Like it's gonna, if fumbles happen, like you hope they don't fumble while you see the guy hitting you, or you don't Carson Wentz flick it or something like that. You know what I mean? Like I think Kenny Pickett will be fine. I think the Steelers got you go from Big Ben to Kenny Pickett. That's not a bad transition at all as well. So the Chiefs pick is in. We are waiting for the announcement. You know what I'm going to go with? I want to say I say they look at the receiver board and they're like, there's a guy there that maybe Green Bay might grab to keep this runner receivers going. I'm looking at Christian Watson, the receiver out of North Dakota State, the height, weight, speed guy that's very enamoring. A lot of draft pundits really, really like him. And I think they're looking at like, you know what, Christian? You run a straight line and Patrick will find you out there somewhere. That is all you have to do. We will worry about the rest later. You take this handoff on an end around and just outrun everybody like you did at North Dakota State. So I'm going to go with Christian Watson as my outside-the-box pick here for Kansas City, who looked at Green Bay like, we are not letting you take him because, Green Bay is probably in the receiver market too.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Watson would not be shocking. You know who would actually kind of surprise me, but at the same time not be the craziest pick?
Tyler Linderbaugh?
No. It's a receiver.
Oh, okay.
Sky Moore.
I like that pick a lot because he's climbing up a lot of draft boards.
He's very interesting. He's a lot like Jahan Dotson. a little bit bigger, thicker as well, and he's been productive his whole 4 years. Granted, we're talking Western Michigan versus Penn State in the two comparison I've been making.
Yeah.
But it's still something that needs to be mentioned.
And that trade was for the 29th pick as well as a 3rd and 4th round pick. So that's what the Chiefs gave up. So they still do keep that 2nd and 1st round pick on top of it as well. I do like that Sky Moore pick because Sky Moore, one thing that's underrated about him is he is thick. Like he is a muscle hamster. Like he
gives a great target.
Absolutely as well too. So that was a really good pick as well. Kansas City is on the clock at pick number 21, jumping Green Bay, and the pick for Kansas City is going to be, let's see who they took. They climbed all the way for Trent McDuffie.
Wow.
So, all right. You know, I thought this would be a place where New England would take Trent McDuffie, but that's a really, really good pick for Kansas City, who no longer has Tyrann Mathieu. So you bring in a different type of versatile defensive back who could play in your nickel spot, could play safety, could play outside. And Kansas City's taking it looks like they're going a little bit defensively with the way they've been building this offseason and with this pick in the draft too.
Yeah, that's somewhat surprising to me.
But like in a good way, almost, is how I look at it, at least.
Yeah, like it's not the worst thing in the world. I gotta say, like it's surprising they moved up for him, but at the same time,
he wasn't going to be there though. At the same time,
yeah, like I think there's corners that better work. I'm a higher fan of two other corners for sure, but I don't know. I don't hate the Trent McDuffie pick. He's a fantastic pick. He's gonna be a pro for a long time. There's no doubt in my mind. It's just personal preference. I think there's a couple other corners I would have liked to see go first.
The reason I really like this pick is he has a lot of Tyrann Mathieu in him. As far as you could put him in the nickel, let him blitz, let him punch out the ball, things like that as well too. He is not afraid to tackle anybody. He enjoys tackling people, and I think the good news is he doesn't get hurt. He always tackles low, so he doesn't seem to dive with his face as often. So I like this one because you got Justin Reed to play your deep center safety to take Dan Sorensen off the field. So maybe they grab Trent McDuffie to be their nickel corner and safety, where I think as a safety, Trent McDuffie is going to be absolutely fantastic. Or as a corner, he will be fantastic with L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, you got to find a way to stop Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Who else is in that division? Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. That's just their division alone, and I just laid out a Pro Bowl team for you, basically. So
yeah,
I'm surprised they traded up to get him though instead of a receiver as well. I agree. Maybe they are just going to wait and grab whoever falls to them a receiver at this point too.
I mean, yeah, maybe they're just going to wait and take between Christian and Sky Moore is who the Packers don't take.
And there's still guys like George Pickens sitting out there as well too. Like there's a lot of options still out there receiver, which you got to imagine one should be going here with Green Bay at pick number 22. The pick is in 10th in offense, 9th in defense. A really promising regular season that kind of flamed out at the end as they basically lost steam. As no Devontae Adams, which obviously arguably the biggest trade of the offseason, one of them. Biggest needs are receiver, offensive line, and tight end. Emphasis on that receiver spot. Because right now you have Allen Lazard, and that's pretty much what you are throwing to right now. So they got to bring in somebody to catch the ball from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anything other than a receiver is a bad pick, like a drastically bad pick.
Unless somehow you're going to grab an offensive lineman here and trade your other first-round pick and turn that into a veteran receiver somehow. Like I thought A.J. Brown was a really good option for them. Maybe they somehow pull a Debo trade out. I don't honestly know what else you could take here. I mean, maybe they somehow pull DK Metcalf. Highly unlikely, but you never know.
There's no telling. I mean, unless you're about to just, I don't know, pull Nakobe Dean and that be your pick instead of a receiver, I don't know. I think you have two picks to end out this round, and one of them has definitely got to be a receiver.
There's no reason for there not to be at this point as well too. Like I can't think of any reason other than as a blatant like saying no. That's the only thing I could think of as well too. If you just kind of almost want to spite Aaron Rodgers and everybody else as well too.
Exactly.
For sure. So right now the pick is in for the Packers. We were waiting for the official announcement as well too. And you know what? I'm gonna stick with the Christian Watson pick here. I know I said Kansas City takes him, but I'm gonna say that Green Bay takes him as well too. It's just a big body for Aaron Rodgers to throw the ball to and just flick it to him in space. So give me Christian Watson on this one. I would say, what are you thinking on this one? But at this point, I feel like you're thinking, I have no idea.
Yeah, I kind of am. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it's so hard to tell what's been coming off the board. It's not been anything. Well, it's been somewhat of what we predicted. It's just not been in the order we predicted.
It's been a little bit, they've had the runs, but in different spots as well, too. So the Green Bay Packers are up, and with pick number 22, they're going to take Quay Walker, the inside linebacker from Georgia. So Quay Walker, I think all right. I stand back, DraftKings, and your betting odds. I apologize. You were right. We both, when we talked about that earlier, as far as first linebacker having the highest odds, we had questions. My bad. I step back. I bow down. You were right. I had no idea Quay Walker would be going as the first linebacker off the board, and to Green Bay nonetheless. This one's questionable for me. Before I get your reaction, we got another trade as Baltimore is trading with the Bills, going back from 23 to 25. So the Bills are now on the clock, and we're gonna let it go. We'll go back, follow that up with Quay Walker, first linebacker off the board to Green Bay. You know what? I give up on trying to guess anything right now. I did not have this one in my bingo card.
I'm confused.
I'm confused. I'm not happy. I don't like it. I like Quay Walker, but I don't like him ahead of a lot of other players right now.
There are two linebackers that should be off the board before Quay Walker even gets talked about.
And on top of that, I don't like the Packers doing it as well on top of it. Like, it makes no sense to me. I know you need help at linebacker, but Quay Walker, that's who you decided to go with. And so, we're going to spend less time on this and let the Packers not confuse us as much as they do. I mean, they'll figure it out, I guess. But let's go to the Buffalo Bills trading up to pick number 23 from 25. We both had them taking Brees Hall or Kenneth Murray as the running back here. Do you think there's a chance they traded up to get a running back, or do you think there's something else they have in mind right now?
I hope not. If you traded up 2 picks to get a running back, we have questions.
Well, they jumped Dallas, and I don't think Dallas is taking a running back because they got a lot of money tied up in Zeke. So I think they climbed up here for a corner. I'm thinking they're looking at Raji McCreary or Kyler Gordon. That's my only thought at this point, why you felt the need to jump ahead of Dallas and trade up a couple of spots to get him. Because
there's been rumors of trying to replace Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer with a new safety. But I don't think this is the point where you go get Jaquan Brisker.
Or Lewis, or Dax Hill, or Lewis Seen. I think one of those guys were going to be there for you in 2 spots. I mean, I'm curious about this and what the Bills have in mind. They're still on the clock, still making their pick as well, too. I guess the underrated idea I might throw out there of just kind of reaching for here is maybe they wanted to go offensive line and maybe they liked a Tyler Linderbaum or something like that. Maybe, or Harriman, like maybe they just liked one of those offensive linemen chilling. Maybe they trade up to just kind of fortify that wall in front of Josh Allen so he can't get hit. And if he does get hit, it's on a 150-pound safety running into those giant biceps of his. So yeah, maybe that's an underrated pick, and they wanted to jump Dallas to make sure Dallas can't get them as well too. But this is interesting from the Bills, who coming off quite the season, 5th in offense, 1st in defense, and 13 seconds away from the AFC Championship game, and one of the best off seasons on top of it. Bills might be cooking up something to have the best roster in football, depending on where they go with this pick.
Oh, absolutely! It's going to be very interesting, confusing. But interesting.
I will say if they do decide to trade up for a running back, I question the reason for trading up. But I don't hate the idea of you adding Brees Hall or a Kenneth Murray to a Josh Allen, because A, that gives you a true running back, and B, I'm looking at fantasy football next year as well too. Josh Allen was already the highest scoring fantasy football quarterback last year. Imagine what he's gonna be like when you can actually give him somebody to dump it off to. Somebody you can throw it 2 yards and watch them go get 30 as well too. He doesn't have to throw Stephon Diggs out there somewhere, Gabriel Davis up there somewhere. You give him easy targets as opposed to everything as well too. So if that's the case, Josh Allen, I think, is about to be a first-round fantasy quarterback if he isn't already on top of it.
No, absolutely. This is still weird. I'm sorry. There's just some trades that are I'm really confused by this one. I just can't get over this. Like, this is the second one where you've moved up where a team has moved up 2 places. Where Philadelphia being the first, where I believe you could have gotten that pick that you wanted, no matter what they're going to take here, in 2 picks, because Dallas is not picking anything like what you were going to pick. Baltimore, I don't see it.
I'm confused. I am as confused as you are. We talked about there's going to be mayhem and a lot of trades and that sort of thing as well too, but I don't get this one as well too. I really. Who are you going to want? Who do you need to jump Dallas to go get at this point? Your needs are not quite the same for the most part, unless the only thought is you really like an offensive lineman. The Bills pick is in, and this one is.
Is it Tyler Linderbaum?
That's the one I threw out there. But like, do the Bills need a center? Like, I guess you can't ever too many offensive linemen, but I don't know. I'm really
the words my heart have always yearned to hear. You can never have too many offensive line.
Do you need to take a moment, as well, too? Like, do you need to marinate in that for a little bit?
That just seems like a beautiful statement. But no, it's like this is just crazy. I don't know. This is wild that we're watching this and we're witnessing all of these trades for a bunch of guys that kind of surprised me, considering a lot of teams had them falling into the second round.
Here's an idea. I'm just going to throw this out there because we said it 4 times now, and I'm going to make it an even 5. What if they traded up to go get Jermaine Johnson and didn't want the Cowboys to grab him? They wanted to get an edge rusher to go with Von Miller, and then you now have him with Ed Oliver and just have a stupidly good defensive line.
Didn't you get an edge rusher last year that was top tier? Did a whole lot of damage, especially in the playoffs?
Did they get a first-round defensive?
I thought they got out of Miami.
The Jalen Phillips. Oh, you're thinking of Gregory Rousseau. There we go. Yeah. So maybe I'm just throwing ideas out there because you can never have too many offensive linemen. You can never have too many defensive linemen as well, too. Did they trade up to get Devontae Wyatt? That could be interesting as well, too. Like I am curious as they did just what they did is they swapped 2 spots and threw in a 4th-round pick. So the Ravens just cruising on back as well, too. Just kind of slowly moving their way back as well.
Ravens do what the Ravens do best.
You got Kyle Hamilton and decided, you know what, we're good for a minute. We already batted well out of our league. We'll go and cruise our way back. The pick is in for the Bills. We're waiting for the announcement.
Dude, okay, pause for a second on Buffalo's pick. But Baltimore's picking 2 picks has an opportunity.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
For Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean
to go with Patrick Queen and Kyle Hamilton and that secondary. All right, maybe the Bills
or one of these corners in Andrew Booth and Roger McCreary who can absolutely dominate. Or Kyler Gordon.
What if the Bills traded up to get Nakobe Dean as well, too? They just wanted to make sure they got him. To go with Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano. Well, you know what? This is going to be fun. The Bills are up. We're going to wait and see who this pick is. This one's been kind of confusing.
I'm so curious.
I can't wait to see who this one is. And they went with Kyer Elam.
What?
So, all right, you take over this one. You had the reaction to you take over here.
This is my 5th-ranked corner. 48 on my board. 48 on your board.
Ironically, one of 2 picks we had in the exact same spot.
And a guy who is easily beatable. And in a situation where you don't need another corner, you had Taron Johnson just performing out of his mind and made that step you needed him to be the second corner for you. You already have your all-world corner in Tre'Davious White coming back healthy. And then you have other guys that can slide in and be your nickel corner. Oh, by the way, you still have Jordan Poyer. You still have Micah Hyde. Why are you going and getting another defensive back?
I will say, Kat, one thing that Elam does really well is he has really, really good ball skills when the ball is in the air. Maybe you talked about potentially moving on from Jordan Poyer. Maybe this is a guy they can flex as a corner and a safety. A guy you could put back there and just go get the ball with Micah Hyde. Just throwing ideas out there because I agree with you. If I'm going to take corner here, I'm looking at Andrew Booth or I'm looking at Roger McCreary probably first. Kyer Elam was a surprise for me as well, but one thing that's going to be sure about this Bills defense down the stretch, that pass defense with this guy is your 3rd corner probably. I think that's quite the interesting pick as your 3rd corner. So I am intrigued when everything gets healthy, and I'm surprised they felt the need to trade up for him as well too. I feel like maybe there's a rumbling that Dallas was looking at him as well. So that is interesting, which brings the Dallas Cowboys now on the clock at pick number 24. And you got this one. Take it away.
All right. You talked about this. It's coming to fruition. Tyler Linderbaum. If you're not going to do that, and let's say you wanted to actually take a corner and you were sitting here looking at him, take Roger McCreary.
What about Andrew Booth? Would you accept that pick instead?
I would. And the reason I say Roger McCreary first, though, I think Roger McCreary slides in as a slot corner, which is more of what Dallas could use because you already have Trayvon Diggs on the outside.
And Anthony Brown still.
And through much of the season last year, Anthony Brown was a top 30 overall player as far as his performance. Then he started getting caught on top of, and that was just embarrassing.
Then the holdings kicked in.
But Trayvon Diggs, still a quality corner, but he gave up the most amount of yards in coverage in history, while also single-handedly snagging way too many picks for somebody that gave up that many yards. So a lot of it, I think, is just the scheme. But I think if you're going to look at a corner, you look at Roger McCreary. But ideally, I'm with you with what you said last night during the mock draft. go get your center.
I said that, and I still want them to do it. I will say Jermaine Johnson and Arnold Ebikite are both on the board for this team that did lose Randy Gregory, a defensive end as well, too, to go with Micah Parsons, to go with DeMarcus Lawrence, who is still us kind of get things going for the last couple of years. So I think you could really spike your pass rush with one of those guys as well, too. Some really high-rated players in Jermaine Johnson. I think I would agree with you. Tyler Linderbaum, I did in our mock draft, and I still want to stick with it. You got to revive Ezekiel Elliott's career somehow. You got to find a way to get him up past like 1 yard to carry again. And what better way to do that than giving him an absolute monster of a center? So I agree with you on that. But surprisingly enough, the clock is still going on the Cowboys. So there is not somebody they were fully looking at right now. And here's an interesting number they're showing. 1% chance that Jermaine Johnson was available at pick number 24. A 1% chance. If that doesn't explain this draft, I don't know what does.
I mean, I raised questions about this in our entire lead up. And I finally just accepted that I guess he's going to be a top 15 pick before we did the mock draft. Reluctantly so. But I mean, I've kind of had questioned whether he was actually really going to be drafted in the first round because of the way teams seem to talk about him. He was kind of that misfit island toy, if you will. He was thrown away from UGA by his own accord to go get more time at Florida State. And obviously it paid off. But at the same time, like, did it pay off that much? Like, he started so low that did it pay off enough to get him a top 20 pick? I don't think so.
I mean, it did for Trayvon Walker. And
Trayvon Walker, I will stand by. I still don't think he was a number one pick. I think he would have been better in this range right here. But I think Jermaine Johnson also fell into that. And ironically enough, they literally played the same position at Georgia, and one is the reason why the other left Georgia.
I will say what's interesting is last year, Jermaine Johnson had 12.5 sacks. Trayvon Walker has 9 in his entire college career. So it is kind of funny how they are so similar. The difference is Jermaine Johnson comes with a little productivity, where Trayvon Walker comes with a whole lot of, well, if I get my hands on him, I can turn like that sort of thing is what it feels like as well. So it is kind of interesting how parallel their careers have gone, but at the same time, complete opposite ends.
Well, it's that knock for leaving Kirby Smart. It's just like the knock for leaving a Nick Saban team. Like, if you leave one of these two guys' teams, it's immediately like, whoa.
I mean, they act like Justin Fields didn't just leave Kirby Smart. I know it's offense to defense. Like I always just saying, like,
well, difference is there was a non-football reason for Justin Fields leaving Georgia,
and then Jacob Eason as well too. Like, I'm just saying, like, you can leave these programs and still be okay.
Yeah, but Jacob Eason, though, think about it. He was talking about being a first, second round pick at Georgia, left Georgia, go to Washington, and immediately was just like 4th round pick.
That injury definitely didn't help as well too. Like, yeah, I mean, that injury, and then that did not help as well too. And Washington being terrible in his last year as well too. It's hard when you go from throwing to the likes of Calvin Ridley to throwing to the likes of who are Washington's receivers.
Insert
nothing since
here.
Nothing since John Ross, and that's all that needs to be said.
Edison.
Yeah, exactly. Not exactly receivers, if you know what I'm saying as well too. So the Cowboys pick is in as Roger Goodell's up, and all right, your gut feeling, who is it?
Tyler Linderbaum.
We're sticking with it. I mocked it yesterday. We're rolling with it. You have a top 10 pick here. You can't. This is it. Jerry Jones bragged about the Micah Parsons pick this week. You got to take him here. Tyler Smith, the offensive tackle from Tulsa. So they went offense. They went tackle. I don't hate the pick. I think he's a top 50-ish caliber player, but Tyler Linderbaum's sitting right there. Like, you have that, the reason I always wanted Tyler Linderbaum here is because of when they took from Travis Frederick in the first round. Those years back, how they transformed their team just with a rookie center. You could have done the exact same thing here, but you know what? At least they got the position right. I'll give them that. At least they got the position right, and they didn't go with like some random Razorback tight end or something.
Sure. Yeah. We'll go with that. I don't hate Tyler Smith. Let me start with that. I think there's a lot of Tyler Smith's game that needs a lot of work.
I like Tyler Smith as a guard more than a tackle. That is
yes.
True. And I think if you're going to put him in guard, that's great. Kind of like what you did with Zach Martin. So you have him and Zach Martin. That's a pretty good guard duo for Zeke's inside zone because you can't run him outside anymore. He's too.
But as a tackle, which is what he's projected at staying, I'm just not a fan as much. This is one of those cases to why he was left out of my top 50 because I felt like the position they're broadcasting him as being as a tackle was not his right position.
Absolutely as well too. So it's interesting pick for them because I look at my big board. I had Jermaine Johnson in the top 15. I had Tyler Linderbaum in the top 10. Both of them are still chilling right there as well too. Malik Willis, the top rated quarterback. Obviously, the Cowboys aren't in that market, but I look at the players that are available and where they decide to go. So that is an interesting one. Maybe
if you ask Amari, they're in the market for a quarterback.
By the way, I also want to mention, you said Amari Cooper. The Browns got him for a 5th-round pick and only $20 million a year. That's looking kind of like a steal with what's going on right now when you think about it as well. Look at all these teams drafting quarterbacks in the 1st round, all the money these other receivers again. Browns feel like they pulled off a heist even more so now than it did at the time.
Yeah, no, it really does. It's
sorry, is this too much pain and suffering for the Cowboys? Do you want to move on to the Ravens?
I don't know, man. This is just weird for the Cowboys. This is the 2nd year in a row where I kind of look at this pick and I'm like, okay, it's not the worst idea, but for your positional needs, it doesn't make sense.
Granted, last year it worked out, though.
It did. It absolutely did. And this is a case where I think you're taking Tyler Smith to replace Lyle Collins. And it does make sense.
They have a similar build as far as big, massive, basically woolly mammoths. Good luck getting around them.
A guy that can slide inside to guard as well.
Exactly.
So, it makes sense for replacing Lyle Collins. But like you said, I think there's a bigger issue that you haven't replaced yet, which is the big hole in Travis Frederick. Are you going to replace? Are you continue riding McGovern? Is that who you're going to continue riding in the center there? Because I don't like it. I don't. Well, okay, let me phrase it. I don't love it. I don't hate it. He has good games. He has bad games. He's also very much prone to overreaching. Tyler Smith, again, is a guy that is very raw, and his pass pro, he does struggle with overreaching as well, ironically. But his footwork is also a little sloppy.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm being very kind with sloppy. And Tulsa's a fantastic running team. He was the primary guy they ran behind. He was also the primary guy that got plays called back. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. It's very unique, and it kind of does remind me of similarly to when the way I felt about them drafting Tyron Smith. I thought Tyron Smith was a fantastic prospect. Obviously, he was a lot of people's fantastic prospect, but he also struggles with penalties when he first came in the league.
So what you're telling me is the Cowboys are going to have the most penalized offensive line, but on plays they don't get penalties, they will eat. And
no, it'll still be the Raiders. The Raiders will still be the number 1 penalized offense because Alex Leatherwood.
What if Alex Leatherwood ends up getting benched though?
Oh, okay, yeah, then absolutely the Cowboys.
All right, as long as we're on the same page. There's the Ravens still on the clock with less than 4 minutes to go. So I'm intrigued if maybe the Ravens are trying to trade back again as well. This is the pick they got for the Hollywood Brown to the Cardinals trade. Then they move back again with the Bills. So I'm curious if maybe Baltimore is considering trading back yet again in very Baltimore-esque fashion because this is kind of that part of the draft where, all right, the run of those more blue chip prospects are gone. And there's a lot of good players here, but you don't want to reach for them, if that makes sense. So yeah, this is where you want to see if you can get somebody else to trade up with you and you get more picks. So I am curious what they have going on here as well. If you're the Ravens, you know who's still sitting there.
George Karlaftis
or Jermaine Johnson. They're both still chilling right there and Devontae Wyatt. Honestly, everything we thought the Ravens traded were going to take when they took Kyle Hamilton is still there. Literally nothing has changed from our first Ravens pick to where we are now. So,
that's what made the first trade to get Jordan Davis that confusing.
I will say I don't know if Jordan Davis would still be available, but I'm still. If you're the Eagles, what was the need for trade? I kind of agree with you. He was probably going to.
Oh, okay. Oh, hold on. Sorry, they're showing this Subway commercial, and they had Jordan Davis on the screen, and he was not the tallest man on the screen. And I'm super confused because that man had to have been kneeling or what. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he stood up, and it's like, oh, okay, we're good now.
All right, so everything's okay now. That'll throw you off as a little bit. Anytime Jordan Davis does not fully take over the room, it's like, hold on now. Who else is in this room right now?
They had panned to the left, and all of a sudden they had to lift up after Jordan Davis. And I'm like, that man's on a stool. That's not real. I've seen Jordan Davis in person, and Jordan Davis in person makes stadiums look small.
All stadiums as well, too, even the big stadiums. As the Ravens down to 2 minutes on the clock, and the pick is finally in. That might be the longest pick as far as being actually on the clock that we've had all day, if I'm not mistaken, as well, too. Like that one, Ravens had to do some soul searching on that one, and I'm going to pass it to you. We talked about them ad nauseum for their first pick as well. George Karlaftis, do they take your guy here, or do you think they go in another direction?
I've been so wrong all the time. So Tyler Linderbaum.
Man, could you imagine Lamar Jackson with that in front of him? And if Ronnie Stanley could stay healthy as well, too? And J.K. Dobbins coming back healthy?
Yeah.
He's going to melt defenses like a snow cone if you give him Tyler Linderbaum out in front of him. Like, they are going to run all over the place. And with that defense, good luck with those high-powered offenses of the AFC North and those quarterbacks. Good luck when you get the ball for 10 minutes a game.
Look, I think offensive line is a good fit. But honestly, receiver now is a need. So it wouldn't surprise me to see that.
How about Tyquan Thornton, the receiver from Baylor, who ran like a 4.23 or whatever? So replace Hollywood Brown with someone who is somewhat faster for no other reason than he's faster and just to be funny.
You know, it's interesting you say that because I was thinking North Dakota State, Christian
Watson.
Yeah, just super fast, super strong body.
Giant body, too. Like, good luck.
Basically, Mark Andrews at receiver.
Mark Andrews with 4.3 speed and a little bit less clean.
Yeah, like I think that could be something that Lamar would love to throw at. Where I will stand by this. Lamar is still a quarterback. He is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. The man has won an MVP. He does what his team needs him to do. He has to win games.
And he has a pretty easy job as far as throwing the ball. Just throw it in Mark Andrews' vicinity. That is all you have to do for 80% of your pass plays. Tyler Huntley showed that.
Why not give him Mark Andrews Jr.?
And to go along with Sean Bateman as well, too. So your receivers are power forwards in the NBA is what we're going with right now. Your pass catchers are giant.
Your receivers are a front court.
Pretty much. I think your receivers could suit up and play for a nearby NBA team as well, too. They could go play for the Wizards. That they do go with Tyler Linderbaum. So I kind of joked about it. Well, good luck, AFC North defenses and quarterbacks. You will not be getting the ball for very long at this point as well, too. Two players out of Iowa drafted in the first round, Tyler Linderbaum, a top 10 rated player on both of our big boards, dropping all the way down to pick number 25. And the Ravens did it again. They got two players in your top 10 and two in my top 14.
Yeah, I'm shocked. First of all, how did other teams allow this to happen? Secondly,
you're mostly looking at the Cowboys with that one.
I'm looking at a whole lot of teams actually for that one.
Well, emphasize on the Cowboys for the pick right before this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on top of that, I'm also going to look at Green Bay and that Quay Walker pick here. Yeah. How do you go Quay Walker over any one of the guys in the top? But I mean, you look at Tyler Linderbaum, just explosive hips to hands gets back into position from the snap better than I've seen in a long time. And then on top of that, get this man in space and let him lead the way. He's gonna lead you to the green.
Well, you know what? I like that you said green because we got the Jets trading with the Titans back into the first round. So the Jets with their third pick of the
Tyler's name typed
in the first round now, pick number 26, Broadway. As if New York teams didn't get enough picks in the first round, they had 2 for the Jets, 2 for the Giants, and 1 for the Bills. Make it 3 for the Jets now. So that is 6 picks between the New York teams here in the first round. They occupied nearly a fifth of it already. I'm curious what the Jets saw and they wanted to trade back in here for. If Tyler Linderbaum was there, that would be my guess. But there's somebody sitting there that Robert Sala's squad looked at and were like,
Jermaine Johnson.
Well, who's that, sir?
Jermaine Johnson.
You know, I don't hate that pick. The problem is the one good part about the Jets defense is that front line. And I'm like, yeah, you have a really good front line. So by the way, this is fun that they're showing. Tyler Linderbaum was the only man to pin Tristan Wirfs in high school wrestling. So you got an absolute anchor heading to Baltimore.
Oh, man. Sorry, they're showing the highlights now. Oh, that is a beautiful move. And then now you're showing his football highlights. And yeah, that's just.
So I think we might have found your favorite player in the draft now.
Everybody knows I'm always going to pick a lineman, and especially a lineman that buries people in the dirt. But I don't know if anybody's going to replace Trevor Penning in this draft for me because the man has literally gone on record as saying, I like playing offensive line because I can legally assault people, and it's fun.
Well, you know what? He's going to get plenty of chance to do that in New Orleans, just like Tyler Linderbaum in that AFC North. I'm really curious because of how all these teams are kind of differently. Like Joe Burrow and the Bengals, high-flying offense, they're trying to drop 40 on you. The Browns with Amari Cooper, Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, they're just trying to basically beat you in every aspect offensively. And then Myles Garrett and squad go after you. We see the Steelers getting Kenny Pickett. They're going to, with that defense, they're going to try and do the similar thing. They just got a ways to go, obviously. They still got some work to do.
Yeah.
Then you got the Ravens who are literally saying, cool, our defense will stop you twice and we'll win the game. You're going to get the ball for 10 minutes when we run behind J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson, Gus Edwards, everyone behind this offensive line. And then some dump downs to Mark Andrews. So I'm curious. Yeah. And they showed that in full force by trading Hollywood Brown, your biggest play guy, not named Mark Andrews. So I think the Ravens their goal right now is lead the league in time of possession with this pick, and they might just do it.
Their run game though can also beat you real quick and in a hurry.
That I imagine they're going to come out in that full 4 tight end set at this point and be like, all right, 9 men in the box, we're still going to get 5 yards a pop. We're going to see Tyler Huntley and Lamar Jackson out there at the same time to avoid too many injuries. So the Jets are up. Pick number 26. The pick is in. You've had 2 picks already. You got Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. So you got some highlight reels. You got some Broadway players. Who you feeling here at 26?
Sorry, I was just watching Robert Saleh on the screen right there. He has the biggest smile in the world right now. He just dabbed somebody up right before the end, and it was like that man just got his wish. I don't know who it is, but he just got somebody that he thinks can change this organization. And you know what? I'm going to say it. Nakobe Dean.
I would love that pick for them here. I like that one, and I like Jermaine Johnson. I know Jermaine Johnson, we talked about their D-line's already good, but you're probably going to have to pay some people soon. Jermaine Johnson gives you another 5-year window as well, too. I love Nakobe Dean or Devin Lloyd. I agree with you. Those are fantastic ones. Or an Andrew Booth as well, too.
I was thinking that because one of the things that I've heard a lot about Sauce, and a big question about Sauce, is how long will he spend at corner before somebody tries to move into safety? Because he's so good with his ball skills. And that does lead me to believe if you take a corner at the same time, you have 5 years of these guys to grow together. So either they're going to be safety corner pairing or double corner pairing.
Absolutely as well, too. There's a lot of options with them as well, too. The pick is in for the Jets. We are waiting to see who they decide to come up with. I like the idea of Andrew Booth. I like Roger McCreary here as well, too, as a guy to play in the nickel. Yeah. I love the Nakobe Dean or Devin Lloyd idea, considering the fact that neither one of them was the first linebacker taken off the board. A whole nother problem I won't get into, but I really like that Nakobe Dean or Devin Lloyd pick here as well. I'm still kind of disappointed, though. They didn't take an offensive lineman with any of these picks. And all the premier ones are kind of gone at this point. So I'm kind of sad about that for my prediction for the Jets making the playoffs. That is now out the door because they did not follow DJ's game plan. Just throwing that out there now. So right now the Jets pick is up and on the board at pick number 26. The third time we've said that so far today. They decided to take Jermaine Johnson, the defensive end, out of Florida State. So they decided to go with it. They got, if my math is correct, they got 3 players out of the top 14 on my big board and 3 out of the top 20 on yours, if I'm not mistaken, 20 or so.
Yeah.
In this draft as well. So a pretty good haul for the Jets as well, too. And you had the 32nd ranked defense last year, and you brought in 2 guys to change that, including the best corner and probably one of the best pass rusher outside of those top 3 or top 2, I guess you could say, depending on how you rate them.
All right, I'm saying it now because Tampa Bay is going on the list or going on the board. If I don't see a Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean coming off this board in the next 3 picks, I am boycotting somebody.
Well, you won't be seeing them because the Jaguars are now on the clock, having traded back into the first
Nakobe Dean.
27. You think Nakobe Dean? Do you think that's who they came up here for? Or
at this point in time, who else are you going to take?
I'm trying to George Karlaftis maybe just to throw him in there along with Trayvon Walker. So it's like, all right, in case we messed up, here's our contingency plan.
But first of all, how did the Jaguars get themselves back in the first round?
Because they have a really early pick in the second round, and the Buccaneers like, you know what, we're cool.
That's probably true, actually.
I want to throw the idea out there. Everything we just said with Andrew Booth and Roger McCreary, not bad options here for the Jaguars either. There's not really an offensive line that you want to take in this spot worth trading up for. So it's got to be on defense. I love the Nakobe Dean pick. Honestly, a corner's not a bad idea as well, too. You need some more corners. You got rid of C.J. Henderson inexplicably last year because Urban Meyer's going to Urban Meyer. So sorry, was that too Ed on there? But I think
that was on the spot.
I think you need some corners out there as well, too. You need somebody to play on the outside. I don't hate the idea of going with an Andrew Booth or a Roger McCreary here as well, too.
Yeah, look, I don't hate it.
I don't like that you traded up to 27 for it as well, too. I mean, you went up 5 spots realistically. So you must have thought corners were going to go on a run here or something as well. But I don't know about you, but if I'm thinking that is 7 trades now so far today, if I'm counting correctly. I might have lost track, but
I don't know. Well, so there's 2 alone just for the Buffalo pick. There's been a lot of picks. There's been AJ Brown,
the Hollywood Brown pick trade.
Yeah, Hollywood Brown.
There was the trade up for Jordan Davis.
This Jacksonville trade now. New England with Kansas City. Minnesota from Detroit. I'm just looking at my list right now.
So what we're saying is this: we're watching a live Madden league right now, basically, which is all these
pretty much.
Absolutely as well too. So the Jaguars on the clock, and honestly, there's still 5 minutes left.
New Orleans
as well too. I forgot about them as well. Like there's way too many trades.
Philadelphia.
Jacksonville's on the clock with 5 minutes left to go. We kind of had an idea what we're looking for. I want to kind of recap here while we take a moment as well too. Looking back at this draft, this very wonky, absolutely asinine draft. I want you to give me one pick that stands out to you, which you think is just a round of applause. I want you to give me your round of applause pick so far for as far as player to value to team ratio.
Kyle Hamilton to the Baltimore Ravens.
I'm gonna ask you to break it down for me. It's pretty straightforward, but let's hear it. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of good ones, but that's one that really sticks out so far.
It is the quintessential Baltimore pick in a lot of ways, where it's like we're not really gonna do anything amazing to try to get this guy, but if he's here, we're gonna fill in a gap that maybe doesn't technically exist, but why let it exist at some time in the future? Like they just took Kyle Hamilton to pair with Marcus Williams just like that. And you have two corners that are very good and they can play by themselves. So if you do roll Kyle Hamilton into the box to stop some of these run games, like let's say Joe Mixon goes off for Cincinnati or Najee Harris for Pittsburgh, then you're going to be fine on the outside, or at least you feel like you're going to be fine on the outside. And he also just brings a dynamicness. Yeah, that one. And it's a unique pick, but I also think that Kyle Hamilton, I still stand by, he's a generational safety. It's something that doesn't come along often. And Baltimore's always had a really good knack of picking generational talents.
You know what? I like that one. I'm going to go with an underrated one because neither one of us thought that they would get this guy. We thought they were going in another direction. I'm going with Zion Johnson to the Chargers. Yeah. The biggest thing was you need offensive line or a big guy to stop the run. And so far we've seen Jordan Davis was already gone. So you went with the next best thing is keep Justin Herbert alive. So I really like that pick. And Zion Johnson, you mentioned second best interior offensive lineman on your board as well too. You
number one guard.
And you didn't need a center because you already got Corey Lindley, who's an all-pro caliber center. So Tyler Linderbaum wasn't going to do you a whole lot of favors there. So I really like that pick. That's one that stuck out to me as a where you got him and what you got and what your team needs. A really underrated, fantastic pick. Which is going to take us to the next one, which I think we're both on the same page as we're waiting for the Jaguars pick to come in. Which one's the head scratcher for you? Which one is the one that just makes you bang your head against the wall and say, what are you thinking?
Quay Walker to the Packers.
Yeah,
without a doubt. Like I could go Trayvon Walker, but I understand that in a lot of ways. Like I understand why you want him there. But Quay Walker for the Packers
at pick 22,
where you need a receiver
or an offensive line or even a tight end at that point.
I mean, like I don't think you stretch for Trey McBride as a tight end.
Well, no, but I mean, if you're gonna stretch, at least stretch for something you need.
I mean, not even the best linebacker on the board.
Not even top two.
Like, not even the best Georgia player still available defensively.
Not even top two Georgia player to left defensively.
So it's that's the one for me. I'm shaking my head on that one, and I'm just like, what are you guys doing?
That's the one that pains me the most as well, too, because you mentioned it. There's Nakobe Dean. There's Devin Lloyd. There's Devontae Wyatt. There's the corner still out there. There's so many options still out there as well, too. I'm going to go back to the one of them that really sticks out to me is Kaiir Elam going to the Bills.
Yeah.
I like Kaiir Elam a lot, but you traded up to go get him is where I'm like, what are you thinking there? I do think Kaiir Elam is a really good second round corner and an okay end of the first round, if that makes sense. I know you get him in the first round, you get the fifth year option, all that sort of thing. I think he's a good player. It felt like you were chasing him a little bit when there were better options you could have sat and waited for. Or you could have sat and waited and just got him there anyway. So that was one that stuck out. But we're in agreement. Quay Walker is the biggest. What? Like the biggest mind-blowing one as well. And I'll also throw on another surprise is the fact that Malik Willis is still sitting there on the board.
Yeah.
Same with Matt Corral. Like the only quarterback gone is Kenny Pickett as well, too. So I am surprised to see both. Nobody has tried to trade up to make a run at them yet.
Oh, absolutely. And they're showing Daxton Hill right now. But I got to be honest and say I didn't think Daxton Hill actually worked his way into the first round. But I'm still looking at who's in this green room. You're showing Devin Lloyd now. You have Nakobe Dean in there as well.
Yeah, Matt Corral's in there too.
Yeah, Matt Corral's in there. Let's not forget Malik Willis is in there. And on top of that, you also have Kyler Gordon in there. So that's 5 guys. And, oh, by the way, we're already at pick 27.
So we got 5 picks left. And those are some really good players as well, too. And that's just
somebody or multiples are going to be left in the green room after day one.
And I like that they expanded the green room and started bringing in a lot more players. It's really cool. But it as long as there's not one person left at the end of round 1, I guess that's okay. As long as like a couple people have to go through it next year. But if there's only one guy left, you got to feel for that guy at that point. If there's one person who has to wait till round 2. Luckily this year, it doesn't seem like that's an option, as this draft has been so far all over the place. I like even last year when there was a few wonky spots here or there, it was nothing wonky quite like this as well too. This is a whole nother beast. But with the Jaguars pick is in, gut feeling, who do you think Jacksonville under Doug Peterson is now going with?
Yeah, honestly, I can't even think. Nakobe Dean.
Give me Dax Hill, I guess. That's who I'm going to go with as well, too. I'm just going to go with say they grab a safety as well. So we'll see. The pick is in for the Jaguars, and they traded back into the first round at pick number 27 in order to get Devin Lloyd. So they did go with linebacker.
Okay.
This is good. You got a top 15 caliber player. Good move, Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Your best pick of the first round.
I'm okay with this wholeheartedly.
There's nothing negative to say. Honestly, I would have preferred you take Devin Lloyd at number 1 over Trayvon Walker. You could swap these picks and it'd be okay with me, and it'd make it at this point as well too. It's kind of like last year when the Raiders took Alex Leatherwood and then somehow got Trayvon Merrigan round 2. That's what this feels like to me. Is like, you know what? I would have preferred you take Devin Lloyd at round 1 and get Trayvon Walker here as far as value goes. I know it wouldn't work out that way, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know what to say anymore, but that's an interesting comparison that they make him. Darius Leonard, I don't think his speed is quite as much. He does lack a little bit, but I do like his inability to cover tight ends. Devin Lloyd. But I don't know, man. Looking at this draft, it's one that I'm just really confused by some of these picks. How has Devin Lloyd slipped? How has Nakobe Dean slipped? I mean, how has Malik Willis slipped? How has Matt Corral slipped? I don't. What am I missing?
You know what's going to be interesting is those second-round linebackers. There's going to be a run of them, I think.
Yeah.
Especially if Nakobe doesn't get picked. You're going to have Nakobe, Troy Anderson, Leo Chanel,
Nick Bonito,
the kid out of Brian Asamoah. You have the kid out of Wyoming whose name is slipping my mind right now. Like,
Chad Mumma.
I think so. Yeah, like there is those off-ball linebackers. I know Nick Bonito is more of a pass rusher, but still the point stands. You have quite a run of linebackers. I think are going to go in the second round with that very high value pick as well too. There is a lot of really good linebackers available. And you know, good on the Jaguars. This is probably the best pick they made. This was probably the best pick they made since Trevor Lawrence. So this is better than the Travis Etienne pick and better than the Trayvon Walker pick at this point.
It is a high value pick,
and you went to go get him, and you didn't give up much. As he could have just suplexed Roger Goodell there effortlessly.
I would have laughed so hard and cheered.
I would have felt bad because that's probably going to limit his playing time out of the gate as well.
Here's the question though. If you're Jacksonville, you let go of lost Miles Jack, and now you pick up Devin Lloyd. Could you have imagined
both of them,
Miles Jack and Devin Lloyd, to go along with Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker?
And imagine if they would have kept C.J. Henderson instead of getting rid of him for a bag of peanuts and letting him develop as well too. Like they've done some interesting draft picks here recently, but I really like this Devin Lloyd pick. We kind of talked about great value picks of the first round. This one might have just taken the cake so far.
I'm sorry. Did you say he started at safety?
Yeah,
one play.
Yeah, he did play a little bit. He came in when he was smaller. Yeah, he could play a little safety.
His last year snap, he took one safety snap. That's amazing.
That, like I said, would you say this might be your best value pick of the first round at this point?
Yeah, at this point in time, until somebody takes Nakobe Dean anywhere later than this.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the Packers pick is already in at pick number 20.
I gotta say though, Jermaine Johnson is still kind of a value pick to me, just because everybody in the world had him in the top 15.
And you got him at 25, something like that as well, too. Like
26,
Yeah, that's a really good pick. Packers are now up at pick number 28. And, they let us down the first time. There's no other way to say it. They let down a lot of people with that first pick. Unless Quay Walker turns into Darius Leonard or Fred Warner, then I am sorry. But we will see.
They let down their own quarterback.
Do you think they let him down with this pick, or do you think they go full Packers and draft Malik Willis at this point just to make a statement and then trade Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers?
Packers fans, I'm sorry.
That big number 99 they're showing in the Packers jersey, he might not be wearing a Packers jersey on the ride home.
Yeah, there's a big beard in the background that's not happy. And he's wearing Packers stuff. So, I look at this and I think you need to be going receiver. And I almost feel like the smiles I see in their draft room are like, we got you, Aaron. Like
We already locked you in. We're good. You got your money, but we got you. We are set.
I'm so confused.
Maybe they could take offensive line here, and I'd accept that as well too. If you had an offensive lineman valued higher than a receiver, but you have 2 second-round picks, so I guess maybe they're hoping for like since receiver class is so deep. But the guys you want to pair with Aaron Rodgers are already gone. Like the guys you wanted to get, like Jahan Dotson's, Drake, London's, all of those guys were gone well before you had a chance. And the guys intermediately, you have to grab now because if you wait, they're going to go at the top of the second round. Like I think there's going to be a lot of movement tomorrow as well too. So right here, George Pickens. There's obviously Christian Watson as well too. Like Sky Moore. There are options. There's David Bell out of Purdue. Even like you have to take a receiver here, but I don't see any way around it. Like offensive line's a need, but you can't just ignore it anymore at this point.
I think this has to be Sky Moore.
I would really like the Sky Moore pick as well too. I also like the David Bell pick just because it's another guy. Aaron Rodgers could just throw back shoulder fades to him or put the ball in his vicinity, and he'll go pluck it out of the air. Not a great athlete, but a really good receiver, if that makes sense.
Underrated athlete, actually. I think he falls a lot in that Randall Cobb category.
I'm just saying he's not running away he's running away in football pads if he gets a little bit of steam, but he's not blazing people off the line or separating by a lot as well too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like he's limited as far as athletic ability goes, but he's a big body and he has a very good receiver skill set. So I like that. You know what? That's my pick here. I'm saying they take David Bell. I'm saying they get their out of their and they make a good pick here and go with David Bell. I'm giving the Packers entirely too much benefit of the doubt here, but give me David Bell to the Packers right here out of Purdue.
You know what? I'm a master of chaos. Darian Kennard from Kentucky.
I don't hate that pick, honestly.
And especially with Andrew Whitworth announcing this.
You know what's going to happen is they're going to take Andrew Booth here or something like that as well. So they're going to go with another corner in the first round as well too. So this will be a very interesting one as Roger Goodell is at the podium. Andrew Whitworth standing next to him as well too as the Green Bay selection is in. Do they do Aaron Rodgers a solid or do they continue to make this a lot more difficult than it has to be? That is what we will be finding out here soon. And I will say, one person who's excited about this so far are guys like Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. Like, oh, wait, this means I will actually get to play next year. I will not lose my job to a 20-year-old. This is great. So we'll see what they have in mind. And they need a tight end there as well, too. So it's not like, unless Aaron Jones is playing receiver next year. Unless they're A.J. Dillon's full-time running back and Aaron Jones is full-time receiver. You got to get somebody out there. But Andrew Whitworth, the Walter Payton Man of the Year and Super Bowl champion, up to announce this pick as well, too. So, and we do see, of course, the mandatory Rams. A couple of Rams fans right there in the front as well, too. So
yeah, nice little Cooper Kupp jersey.
Eric Dickerson, a nice throwback in there as well, too. So waiting for them to announce this pick here as well, too. You're going for chaos and going Darian Kennard. I'm going with please save face and don't screw this up. And I say they're going to go with a receiver here. Probably I'm going to go with David Bell to fit the need. I'm waiting for the pick. Let's see. And right now, Andrew Whitworth still talking. So we're waiting on the pick here. And let's see. All right. Andrew Whitworth's going to talk for a little bit as well, too. I kind of want to mention while he's talking as well, too. Just want to get your gauge on this. Last year, they were the number 1 seed in the NFC. They look like an absolute force. Look like there's no reason not to be in the NFC Championship game. And then they scored 10 points in a playoff game. And they basically quit after the first drive. Do you think next year they're still going to be able to be a force, or are you kind of worried that they've already peaked and it's going to be a really rough year for the Packers regardless of what they do the rest of the way?
Until Aaron Rodgers can shake his aloofness to his teammates in those situations, they'll never succeed. Unless
they have a secret weapon like Devontae Adams just sitting on that bench that we all don't know about that he could throw to 165 times in the season again and get you 18 touchdowns. It's going to be really hard because they were very, very Devontae Adams dependent last year, it felt like as well. So.
Yeah, and well, on top of that, like Aaron Rodgers is so demonstrative that he controls that team with his emotions. And when he's aloof, that team does not play well.
Not at all as well, too. And you don't have somebody to kind of counteract that, even if it happens on occasion. You know, like you don't have another guy to just say, like, get me the you-know-what ball and make up for it. Yeah. Like that. So that is what I'm curious as the Packers pick is in. They go with Devontae Wyatt, the big defensive tackle out of Georgia. So are surprised Devontae Wyatt actually went before Nakobe Dean. And the Packers, that's interesting to me. They double dip on Georgia players. They actually took they double dipped on Georgia players, the third Georgia player now. And you double dipped on defense in the first round as well, too. When your biggest needs are clearly on offense. I know you need to replace defense. I know you need to replace Darius Smith and other guys, but Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, when you could have had Nakobe Dean and Devontae Wyatt or any, I don't know, man. I really don't know. The two, I love Devontae Wyatt. He's a great player. I actually had them taking him in one of our mock draft predictions at this pick, but that's because they took a receiver with the first pick. This one I have questions, a lot of questions. And I can't believe I'm saying that about somebody who took Devontae Wyatt at 28, because that is a really good value pick.
What are the Packers doing?
By the way, you're not a Packers fan, and you're still exhausted over this. So I can only imagine how Packers fans are feeling right now.
I feel so bad for Cheeseheads for the first time in the career of my life. I've never felt bad for Green Bay fans, because when you come down to it, like, you guys have had a very nice existence.
I mean, your last 20 years, you've had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, 20 plus years, 40 years, something like that.
Yeah. Like, you are actually going on 35 years worth of pure quarterback
Hall of Fame quarterback play, yeah.
So you look at this, and it's very obvious to everybody outside of that front office that you need targets for Aaron Rodgers that aren't in the same room, in the same building of Aaron Rodgers currently. And yet you refuse to use either of your first-round picks to take an opportunity to get one of these game-changing receivers that are a second-round grade, but you don't have a pick that'll be early enough to pick them up. So you would have to reach to get these guys, because you didn't reach up to get the guys before they were gone.
Granted, you weren't getting the way those guys ran at 10, 11, and 12. You weren't getting them anyway. Other people.
Well, so no, that's exactly what I had him do in the mock draft yesterday.
I didn't think that all three of them were going to go back to back to back like that. I think they maybe expected one to slip to 15 and maybe go get it, not 10, 11, 12, or 8, 10, 11, 12, and your top four are gone. That kind of surprised me a bit.
I had him trading with the Jets.
100%.
And that was what I thought they would do if they wanted a receiver that bad. And it was obvious that that's where the receivers were going, and they still did not move up for it.
I'm surprised, like, even after that run, that they didn't try and trade up to get Jahan Dotson or Treylon Burks or any of those guys, unless they just really did not have a good grade on them, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they didn't like the receivers, but you need something at this point. At this point, you know what? Send me a contract. I will suit up and play receiver. What do you got to lose at this point? I can bust off some rust and go catch a few swing passes.
Even my pessimism towards Treylon Burks as a first-round caliber receiver would still let me tell the Packers, if I'm their receiver scout, to go take this man. Because he's still a good enough and a high enough quality player to be a great number one if you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly.
Like, that's the whole thing with Treylon Burks. Everybody mocked him going to teams that don't have a quarterback like Treylon Burks. Now he has the opportunity. Like, if you were the Packers, you could easily have moved up and picked him up. And you would have been fine. You would have been excelling. But now, here we are. And Packers fans, like, I'm surprised they haven't already started tipping cheese wheels. Like, I'm shocked, to say the least.
Maybe they're going to sign Cole Beasley, I guess. I don't know.
That's their big answer. That's a great idea.
Yeah, you know what? You give him a shot, I guess, at this point. I think him and Aaron Rodgers get along very well. They probably have 195 targets. But right now, the Patriots are up at pick number 29, and the pick has been in for a minute as well, too, or just waiting for the announcement. And you know what? The Patriots, trading back as the Mad Genius always does, they need corner, they need a receiver, defensive tackle. We both kind of agreed they were going to trade back today. We both kind of expected that. What do you think you have in mind for them here at pick number 29, picking at the back end of the first round, where they're so accustomed to? This is where they do most of their work anyway. So what do you think the Mad Genius has in mind, and what do you think he's going to blatantly ignore because he's not going to pick the same thing we think?
I think this is actually going to be a pretty easy one. This might be the only one I feel comfortable about saying he's going to take a corner. I'm not going to pick a name because I'm going to be wrong, but there's 3 corners that I think he's absolutely looking at. Obviously, those being Roger McCreary, Andrew Booth, and Kyler Gordon. But it wouldn't surprise me that Gordon's the guy they take here. But I would really kind of hope to see them take Andrew Booth, because I think Andrew Booth fits better with the loss of J.C. Jackson.
Corner is their biggest need, and it's not even close. But you know what would be a really fun pick here? Nakobe Dean going to that Bill Belichick defense. An absolute chess piece that he can use in so many fun ways as well. And, they're going to build that scheme so nobody touches Nakobe Dean on the offensive line. So Nakobe can just fly all over the place. So they need corners. But I can't help but think about the fun that he would have, that Bill Belichick would have with Nakobe Dean in the middle of the defense as well.
I mean, are you wrong?
Not at all. I'm usually not so.
No, you're definitely not wrong. It's just, can we predict the mind of the great Sith Lord that is Bill Belichick?
No, you know what? Watch them take an offensive lineman that we've never heard of at this point as well, too. I mean, would it surprise you at this point? Everything short of Malik Willis. That'd be everything else would kind of make sense to me. That's the only thing that surprised me.
Take Malik Willis. Please take Malik Willis.
You know, if that Mac Jones is on the trade block, then I think there's a lot of teams that will gladly take him out as well, too. I mean, as long as he's not gritting, as long as there's no more Mac Jones gritting like he did in the Pro Bowl.
He did that pretty well, actually.
It wasn't bad, but all right, well, this is a strange one. We got Cole Strange, the guard out of Chattanooga, going at pick number 29. So, yeah, you know what? I don't know what to think about this one because, I don't know Cole Strange. I didn't really – he didn't pop on my radar at all, so I got nothing good or nothing bad to say. I just don't have anything on him.
He was 10th in my interior offensive line ranking. 10th. I mean, and it wasn't close.
Third team all FCS AP All-American. The AP All-American part's great, but the third team FCS is a little concerning for a first-round pick. That I don't understand. I really have to be missing something here as well, too. Like, you could have got him in round 4. You could have got him in round 3. Probably could have got him in round 5, honestly. Maybe not 5. That might be a stretch, but this one sticks out to me tonight. That one's really strange. I don't have a comment on that one. That's the mind-blowing one. Quay Walker, the Packers, you are safe. You are out of the doghouse. This one has taken the cake.
You know what? This is official. This has just been a production of Marvel Studios. This is Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse.
Well, damn! I wish someone had told me that. I would have made sure I got paid for that as well too. Like those things grow pretty well. Like I missed out, obviously.
I don't know what we're witnessing anymore.
Well, you know what we're witnessing is the Chiefs with their second first-round pick here, pick number 30, and the pick was rushed up there pretty quickly. I know they don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Maybe they had Mecole Hardman sprint that one up there. But my thought to you is we saw them trade up for Trent McDuffie. I thought an underrated pick. Real quickly, who's your pick here?
You already got Trent McDuffie. You got to go get that linebacker now.
You know, go get Kyler Gordon. Just get them both at this point. But I'm going to say they go with Christian Watson.
That's possible.
Let's see who they decide to go with. And George Karlaftis. So you know what? Your guy about twice of where we expected him to go, going to the Chiefs to go along with Chris Jones. You know what? I like that. I like that pick. I like the idea of George Karlaftis going there to get after the pass to the Chiefs. Clearly focused on the defensive side of the ball this offseason, as we said earlier. They think, you know what, Patrick Mahomes will get us 25 with Travis Kelce. We just can't let the other guys get 35. And when you're 27th in defense last year, I think they're really trusting the ability to somewhat slow down those other teams' offenses.
You know what's just insane? So I talked about this with the Bengals going into the offseason. Logan Wilson has turned himself into a fantastic middle linebacker, but he's always needed a partner. Akeem Davis-Gaither was supposed to be that, but he hasn't progressed fast enough due to injuries.
So Nakobe Dean along with – is that what you're thinking too?
I'm thinking Nakobe Dean along with Logan Wilson right here.
I mean, yesterday when we did our mock draft, I had Devin Lloyd going here at one point. Or not yesterday's mock draft, the previous one. No, actually, wait, it was yesterday's. One of them I had him going here. Maybe it was Devontae White here. So my point is, I didn't think Nakobe Dean would be here, though. I honestly did not think he would be here. And no, I didn't honestly think he'd be the third linebacker off the board. That part's just as surprising to me as anything as well, too. But I kind of like this George Karlaftis pick. You got a really high-value pick at pick number 30. I think they're looking at Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman to go along with Travis Kelce. They're like, you know what? We're cool. Patrick Mahomes, you also got Ronald Jones to go along with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We're going to be a little bit less reckless on offense. We're going to run an actual offense next year, not the back schoolyard, you know what, or the backyard kid stuff. We're going to play defense a little bit more than usual. But I mean, you can't get much worse than what they were last year for a lot of the season. And then they're going to actually move the ball. So I like what the Chiefs are doing. These are some really good underrated picks. Not flashy, though, but underrated.
Look, George Karlaftis is the victim of Aiden Hutchinson being an absolute beast, Trayvon Walker being a monster tester with a combine, and his physical skills out of this world. And then Kayvon Thibodeau has always been number one, but Karlaftis had worked himself into that number 2 edge spot. Aiden Hutchinson took that away with his just outstanding year. And then Trayvon Walker was just everybody fell in love with him. And Karlaftis did nothing wrong to fall to the 4th edge being drafted.
The only thing he did do is he didn't exceed expectations, I guess.
That's it.
Like as far as like his combine, it was okay. It just wasn't like, oh, he did that. And his season really, really good. He just never did anything that unfortunately, like he was just good. The problem was he wasn't stupid good, if that makes sense, at anything. He was too good at everything, but not great at anything.
Well, here's the craziest thing. If you look at that Purdue team defensively, can you name a single other person that makes an impact on that defense?
I don't think anybody can. I don't think anybody knows anyone on that Purdue team besides him and David
Even
Bell.
Purdue fans can't name anybody that makes an impact on that defense.
Since when have you talked to a Purdue fan? They don't exist.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, not so
Drew Brees exists.
That's literally been 21 years ago.
Curtis Painter exists.
We don't talk about him around here. Like, you watch your mouth with that Curtis Painter talk now. I rest my case there exactly. So.
But that's just it. Like, if you look at what he had to work with in college, working around him, he did the absolute most defensively that you could do to win your team a game without physically doing everything. Like, he'd handled all the double teams. He handled all the triple teams. He handled the double teams with a help blocker from a running back. And then he also had to deal with every chip in the world and every contact block, every reach block, every help block you can imagine in existence he's dealt with in his career at Purdue. And now he gets to go to Kansas City and just be like, oh, I get to stand next to this guy? And Chris Jones gets to take all the double teams? And I can just run free? Oh, boy.
Oh, they're also sending Trent McDuffie on a corner blitz now, so the tackle has to take a moment to pick between me and him. Oh, this will be fun. And Steve Spagnuolo as the defensive coordinator, who's always been very defensive line friendly as well, too. That's a really good pick. And you know what? I'm not going to say the Chiefs have kind of reestablished themselves as like that AFC, like the best in the West, but they definitely made sure that that they're not falling behind, if that makes sense. With the arms race that the Chargers and the Raiders are going on right now and the Broncos, they made sure they were still right in the thick of that with everybody else. They did not take a step back. You could make a case that you can still make a strong case they're the best in the West.
I mean, it depends on how does Juju bounce back. If Juju bounces back like he did pre-TikTok thing.
If TikTok never existed and you get that Juju.
Yeah, if you get that, especially rookie Juju.
The pre-Antonio Brown trauma Juju.
Yeah, if you get that, who's not afraid to block, who loves to just run his routes and beat people purely off the snap, that man is going to change the game for him. On top of that, you have Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and he is a fantastic athlete down the sideline. And now you have your defensive ability. If Trent McDuffie comes in and plays as well as we expect him to, Karlaftis plays as well as we expect him to. The linebacker they drafted last year comes in and plays like we expect him to. You already have Charkarius Ward. You also have everybody else stepping up for that secondary. Your biggest issue now is you maybe lost Tyron Matthew.
And honestly, you replace him with Justin Rhee, who is a younger and really, really good safety at this point as well, too. So, I mean, you're missing, obviously, a lot of what Tyron Matthew brings, but you've got a really good player in his spot. And you got L'Jarius Sneed, who continues to get a little bit better.
Thank you. L'Jarius Sneed. That's the name that escaped my head.
Gotcha. And so they're in a really good spot moving forward. I'm curious to see how the rest of the teams, like obviously the Raiders and the Broncos, aren't changing a whole lot today. They're pretty much locked in with their lack of picks through these first couple of days. I am curious what the Chargers do have in mind, because I feel like this is the Chargers and the Chiefs race at the top right now as well, too. The way things on paper, obviously, we have a lot to play with the Raiders right behind them, Then the Broncos right behind them.
The Raiders just need an offensive line.
Really, yeah. Just a little bit of offensive line help. Like, you don't need a lot. You just need a little bit. Just a little bit. Something.
And the Broncos need to fix their hole of Shelby Harris they lost, as well as some weapons.
The Broncos, I just need to see how it comes together. On paper, it's pretty good, but there's still something missing for me as well.
On paper, it looks like this year's Lakers.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's very similar as well.
It looks pretty good.
I would say it looks like kind of like the Nets, actually, is what I was thinking.
All right, fair enough.
Like, they do have the firepower. It's just, will that firepower actually, fire in the right direction? Are we going to have like that? Are we going to have some Call of Duty lag where you're shooting here and the shooter's over here? Something like that. That is what I'm curious to see it. But the Bengals pick is in at 31. The surprise Super Bowl runner-up who went from picking number 1 Joe Burrow 2 years ago to number 5 Jamar Chase last year to number 31 this year. So this is an interesting one. I think we're on the same page, because I had him either taking Devontae Wyatt or Devin Lloyd. Those two are off the board, so I'm all in on Nakobe Dean right here. It seems like the best value pick by far. It fits a need, and honestly, why not at this point? You don't have a whole lot of major needs. So I like Nakobe Dean here too.
I mean, you filled a lot of them in the offseason with your offensive line picks.
Mm-hmm.
Your defensive line picks is probably the biggest hole. You could use another corner. That's not a question. But when you have an opportunity to get a linebacker like Nakobe Dean, do you do that instead?
Watch them take a receiver at this point too, just to mess with everybody as well too. So right now the Bengals their pick is coming up, and let's see, Roger Goodell's announcing the pick, and they went with Daxton Hill, the safety out of Michigan, who could also double down as a nickel corner as well. So you know what? I don't hate the pick; it makes sense. But I agree with you. I would prefer Nakobe Dean here. But Daxton Hill gives you a lot of versatility in that secondary to go with Jesse Bates, to go with Mike Hilton as well. And most importantly, it gives you another guy to go out there to keep Eli Apple off the field on occasion as well, too. So you know what? I don't hate this pick as well, too, at Daxton Hill. He has a very Javon Holland-esque feel as far as the ability to play so many positions as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a bad player
And
by any means. He's dynamic. And I like what he brings to the table. I I didn't rank him as high personally because of his versatility. I thought it's kind of like, where is he actually going to play most of his time? That's what I wanted to know. And it depends on really which team he goes to. And I think here, playing corner more often than not, I think is going to be more detrimental than him as a safety. Him as a safety, I love. But if he's going to split down as a corner most of the time, I'm not as big of a fan.
I do like him guarding tight ends as a safety, or coming down in that nickel and maybe guarding some of those less dangerous slot receivers, I guess. I know you have Mike Hilton as your main slot corner, but I don't hate the idea of Daxton Hill rolling down it. Maybe if they go like a spread 2x2, setting the tight ends on one side, Daxton Hill playing underneath them. I like him a lot in that type of role as well. But him and Jesse Bates is going to be a lot of fun with those two playing safety. That is a lot of versatile fun between the two of them. And that's a couple of that's two ball hawks playing safety. So I like that one.
I can't wait for that. I mean, obviously a big fan of Jesse Bates. So getting him any help back there is a big positive.
And absolutely. Sorry.
Oh no, it's just him siding in as a nickel corner is guarding bigger bodies, especially in that AFC North, is going to be big. Especially you play Cleveland, you have two tight ends you have to cover, two athletic tight ends.
Then Mark Andrews and Pat Freiermuth with the other teams as well too. Like that. Here's my quick thought to use the Vikings with the final pick of the first round. The pick is in. We are waiting to see who it is. Do you think the Bengals are the best team in the AFC North now? We've seen obviously there's still a full draft to go, but now you've seen 3 teams get their first round picks, 2 of them for the Ravens. The Browns, their first round picks were Deshaun Watson, basically. You look at the AFC North right now, if nobody took another pick the rest of the way. Who is the favorite of that loaded AFC North now?
It has to be the Bengals. I just think their offense is still too powerful. And what they did in the offseason to protect Joe Burrow is huge. I do think second right now, I would have to give it to Baltimore by a very close margin because I don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun in Cleveland.
We're going to just assume he's playing this year. But
if he plays all the games, like let's say there's no suspension, so it's just based off of health, I think Cleveland is 2B. I think it's going to come down to head-to-head versus Baltimore. And if that offense doesn't fully mesh for Cleveland, I think Baltimore could take it.
I'm kind of in the same vein as I do think the Bengals are number 1 right now. The questions I have with Baltimore is we saw Lamar Jackson finally start to break a little bit last year with injuries from all the carries. Yeah. We saw him. Is he going to be able to stay healthy, Lamar, or is that something to worry about? Because if you can keep him relatively healthy, at least 15 of the 17 games, I think Baltimore could be ahead of them. But it's kind of in the same vein. If Deshaun Watson's like, that's where they're almost dead equal for me as well. Because I think they're the same team with the same concerns. But they obviously don't play the same. But like as far as if I'm giving them a Madden rating, they're both 87s or something like that. Because that secondary for the Ravens is the best. Honestly, I'm going to say right now, they have the best starting secondary in the game right now. In the NFL, Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, Marcus Peters, and Marlon Humphrey. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's clicking. That's the best starting secondary in the game for me. Yeah. The Browns got Myles Garrett and then Denzel Ward and that Greedy Williams. Like they might Josh Johnson third. They might have like the second or third best secondary as well to go along with the top 3 defensive end, top 3 edge rusher. Amari Cooper's second best receiver in that whole division.
Top 10 offensive line.
Exactly. The best running back the best running back room in the game too. Like it's so hard to split them. But the Ravens added Tyler Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton as well too. That offensive line's immediately better. The running back room, the entire running back room is coming off injury with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and everyone. I thought this is why I don't know. I can't. I know I put you on the spot to make the decision. We both made the same decision. The Bengals for now. Everybody else figure it out at this point. Everyone else fight for second place. And then the Steelers. I like their upward trajectory with Kenny Pickett, but not this year. This year you learn.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, the Steelers might surprise somebody.
They'll steal a couple of games. Like they'll beat the Browns or the Bengals randomly here. It's like, oh, okay, Kenny Pickett with your 4 touchdowns out of nowhere, and Najee Harris with your 200 yards. But that's 7 and 8 and 1 written all over it.
Yeah, I mean, like I look at the Steelers, and I mean, it's going to take a minute for Kenny Pickett to adjust. Granted, though, he has the easiest job adjusting as any quarterback has ever had because he practices and plays in the same facility. He will be practicing and playing it.
Absolutely. And the Vikings pick isn't at number 32. And let's see who the Vikings take with the final pick of the first round as well, too. We've made it to the very end. The Vikings will also be taking number 2 next year. And they took Lewis Seen, the safety out of Georgia. So we have seen now, is that 4 Georgia players, if I'm counting correctly? And not one being named Nakobe Dean so far. So very surprised to see him slip. And on top of that, I don't hate Lewis Seen. I think he's a really good pick. It makes sense for the Vikings. I want to point out Nakobe Dean and Malik Willis are still sitting there right now as well, too. Yeah. If I would have told you this going into this draft, your words have been like, ha, good one, DJ. You're not doing this show with me anymore. If you're going to be on that kind of crack, we're not going to let you do the show with me. But this is where we're at right now is like we've seen 3 safeties go in the first round and 1 quarterback and 2 linebackers not named Nakobe Dean. Yeah. You alive or is it you just?
I honestly don't know how to function with this. I'm lost for words. First of all, okay, let me say this about Lewis Seen. I like the pick. I actually related him to a former Viking safety in Anthony Harris.
Really good pick, really fast and a versatile type of guy.
Oh, and he will come down and bang with the best of them. I mean, his hits, as long as he doesn't get ejected, have changed games.
Him and Harrison Smith is going to scare a lot of people.
Absolutely. So let me get that out of the way. Next, what did I miss on film that makes Nakobe Dean not a first-round draft pick?
Honestly, I don't think your guess is as good as mine. My thought was like you could see the line, maybe them slip just because the linebackers there's 5 or 6 of them that are really good, and maybe you just kind of wait on them if that makes sense. And then once one goes, they all start to go. But the fact that Quay Walker was the first one off the board at 22, that's where I'm completely lost. That's where I honestly have no idea. I got nothing. And
yeah,
the one thing I do want to give all teams credit for though is none of the quarterbacks are really that as far as prospects. So you don't really have them very high, if that makes sense. Like there wasn't when we did our big boards, none of them were in the top 10 really.
Yeah, no, none of them were.
Like I didn't have one until 30, I think, or late. I think because I think you had Matt Corral at 17 or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, he was outside.
And I had Matt Corral, my first one in the 20s, along with Kenny Pickett. Nobody reached for a quarterback this year, which is underratedly surprising. I thought that was very interesting. We didn't see anybody reach for a quarterback like they have done before as well. Nobody really. They took value over the 5th-year option, which was the quarterback, which tells me Tampa Bay at number 1 at 33 next year, they're going to get a lot of trade offers. Same with the Vikings at 34 and the Titans at 35. There's going to be
100%.
And then they're looking at now. Georgia had 5 first-round defensive players, the most from one school in first-round history. Yet the captain of that defense, and arguably the best of them all, was not the one taken. So 2022's NFL draft, one for the record books as well, too. Kelsey, do you have any final words before we let this one go?
Wow. That was I said it last year as far as this has been a lot of fun. But this year has been wildly fun for all the wrong reasons. There are guys going that I was not expecting to go in this first round. And I'll just look at this comment from Cody. 5 dogs taking the first round. What a crazy first round in 22. Also extremely surprised. No one taking Dean. Yeah. I'm surprised by Malik Willis not being gone. I mean, talk about a gem that has risen his way through the combine, through a lot of people's boards as well. I mean, there were some people that had him ranked as a number 3 overall prospect. And granted, we didn't go that high. We didn't fall into that. But there's something on tape about him that makes you wonder why he didn't go first. And I wonder if it's down to teams being a little bit more hesitant to take some of these flashier speed-based players because of the climbing amount of injuries we've seen.
I will say too, the quarterback market has been very unsteady, I guess. Like we've seen
It
a lot
reminds
of
me of the running
quarterbacks.
back market.
Like it's been very unsteady. It's like the boom or bust market. Like there is the Josh Allens, like the booms, but I feel like there's been a lot more busts in the boom or bust recently than or a lot of guys you're more willing to move. Like Carson, the only quarterback selected in the first, like I think it was the only quarterback selected number one currently on their team in the last handful of years is Baker Mayfield. That was like selected number one overall. That was selected up high like that. And only like 7 or 8 of them selected in the first round are still on their same team. And Baker's not going to be on that team for much longer. So I think that could be part of it as well too, is like if maybe this year you looked at it as like, was the juice worth the squeeze? And I think just a lot of teams didn't quite see Josh Allen and Malik Willis, something like that. They maybe saw 2-year development project into something, but not one you want to risk in the first round.
And that's something that's worth mentioning that is worth applauding too, is maybe we're starting to see these front offices get away from seeking the microwave quarterbacks. Maybe we're seeing them realize that we actually need to have quarterbacks develop for a year or two. And maybe that's what we're seeing with this draft. Obviously, I say that next year you're going to see 5 quarterbacks drafted in the first 15 picks.
Guaranteed, yeah.
But like, that's what I'm hoping is going to come from this draft, is that we're going to see that return to developing an actual quarterback base, developing a quarterback room, and on top of that, developing specific rooms as well in different ways. I think there's a few teams that took picks that didn't really make sense, but at the same time, they're building character.
That is definitely an interesting way to look at it as well too. Definitely, it makes some of these picks make a little bit more sense because there are some definite question ones as well too. But some really good players this is very similar to last year in that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah dropped to round 2, was a steal for the Browns. Maybe Nakobe Dean ends up being the same way as well too. There's some really good players heading in the second round. 8 teams, if I'm not mistaken, have yet to make a pick as well too. So there's still plenty of picks to be done for looking at teams like the Colts, the Browns, the Dolphins.
49ers, Bears.
Yep, there's a
Broncos.
And those the Raiders too. Like
I'll say, don't forget the hometown team.
Exactly. Plenty of teams that have yet to pick and won't pick until tomorrow in either round 2 or round 3. And before we get out of here, my last question to you is Nakobe Dean's obviously both of our favorites for the best player left. Who do you think is the second best player left on the board that you expect to go earlier? A lot of teams to try and make a run at.
Would it be weird to say Malik Willis?
No, because you also factor in positional value on top of all that.
I don't know if teams will make a rush in the second round to get to him, but I do think teams would make a rush to get to Andrew Booth, potentially Roger McCreary as well. I think those are going to be the 2 big hot commodities, along with Nakobe Dean, to start round 2.
I would agree with that one as well too. I'll also throw out Christian Watson as well too, a guy that climbed up a lot of receiver boards, and I think just the amount of talent he has, and you can get him now in round 2. Especially a team like Minnesota who picks the second pick in round 2. They might be like, you know what? Let's just throw this guy opposite Justin Jefferson. We got our first round pick. This guy has a lot more leeway, something along those lines as well too. But this was a very, very fun draft. We appreciate you all who stuck around with us all the way through the end, and those of you who joined at any random point as well too. This was our second year doing this. We plan on doing it many more years to come as well too. So hopefully the next few drafts make a little more sense and aren't leaving Kelsey speechless over there as well too.
Who knows? Maybe next couple of years we might be able to get somewhere where we're in a bar, we're in a casino, maybe somewhere where people can join us.
That would be that's the dream as well too. Well, we all appreciate you spending some time with us. We will see you guys next time to check out our recap of the draft once it's all done. Tune into our podcast and our live stream next Wednesday, starting at a new time next Wednesday as well too. We'll be starting 1 hour earlier, so that will be 9:00 Eastern time, 8:00 Central, 7:00 Mountain, and 6:00 Pacific time. So right in the middle of prime time, go ahead and check us out there. And of course, on all your favorite audio apps as well, podcast apps as well too, because that's where we recapping the whole draft, some winners, some losers, and some what the hex, which, I think you're going to want to see that one. I think Kelsey might have some words depending on how some of these second round picks go.
As soon as I collect my thoughts, I still got to collect my thoughts first.
Right now it's been speechless, but once the speech comes together, look out, everybody else. It is going to be some smoke come Wednesday. So we appreciate you all joining us. We'll see you guys next time.